Welcome, ladies and gentlemen of the old world. I hope you're all doing well. And today, my friends, we are here with the War of the Woods tournament. So it is going to be a charity event for Ecosia, which is going to be focusing on green efforts around the world and planting trees, combining with the gaming community. Should be quite a bit of fun, and as such, to stay in flavor, it is going to be a special rules tournament in which we are going to be using 4 factions, including the Beastmen, the Wood Elves, Nurgle, and the Lizardmen. You know, all factions that have a little bit of an affinity for the forest one way or the other. Today, I'm also joined by Anticity. How you doing, man? You ready to go?
Hopefully so. I'm pretty excited to see the matches where it's because to sort of stick with the theme of Ecosia, right? All the maps are going to be forest themed, and all the factions are also going to be forest themed, right?
Yeah, which is great. So we obviously get everyone's favorite map, the Silver Spire, which is going to be good. And our first matchup of the day, though, is going to be on Itza, which does have kind of a surrounding tree line, so certainly going to be in flavor. And also, for anybody joining, we're going to be doing polls to decide who the players are going to be playing today. So you get to decide what they play, but again, it is going to be within the range of those 4 factions. So we will see who is going to be the King of the Woods. So quite excited for that. So first match is going to be Samurai Warrior facing off against Elkai. And of the 4 factions that we do have today, what are your predictions in terms of, like, obviously you've been a top player in Total War Warhammer for ages. Who is the strongest in your opinion, and who is the biggest underdog of the 4 factions that we have today?
I would say probably my personal favorite is Lizardmen. So
yeah.
What's it? It's Lizardmen, Nurgle, Wood Elves, and the last one was
Beastmen.
Surely not. Come again?
The Beastmen, right?
Beastmen.
Everyone always forgets the Beastmen. It's okay. They've been like the I mean, CA's done them pretty solid justice, but it's kind of like a running meme in the Warhammer community that the Beastmen are always just like forgotten with like 30-year-old models and everything. It's great. But yeah, carry on, please.
Recent updates, I think they're pretty scary. My money though would be on Lizardmen, especially if it falls on Lore Master of Sotek.
Yeah, he's really a specialist. He's really a specialist for sure if he's able to get his dinos. But again, you guys in chat are the ones who are going to be voting for who gets what. So if you want to throw a wrench in things, throw him on Nurgle just for the laughs, by all means, that is on you. And Nurgle has been, at least in our anecdotal experience, we both come from a pretty competitive tournament background. Nurgle has been one of the weaker factions. But I think that's more of a kind of nuance of higher level play. I think when you get Nurgle at like mid-level, lower level play, they can be kind of scary for sure, right?
Yeah, because like they have a lot of units that are really, really good. Just generally, if you just throw them into the meat grinder,
yeah,
they'll usually get their value. Lots of like really good healing AoE, like very, very hard targets to take down. Where if you don't have the right tools for the job, they could potentially get a lot of value, like, Mortis engines or like Festus's healing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kugath, of course, I think if players aren't terribly used to, like, I'm trying to think. So we have the Beastmen. The Beastmen, I guess, could deal with a Kugath type character by using just Ungor Raiders. Lizardmen obviously have a ton of shooting for such targets, right? Like solar engines, chameleon skinks. Who would probably struggle the most against Nurgle? Yeah, and Wood Elves obviously have no problem dispatching big characters like that. Like just Glade Guard, Starfire Shafts all day. Or any sort of a Glade Guard really will bring that type of character down. But I think it's time. Let's run the poll. So our CA friends will be putting up a poll in chat to determine who's going to be playing what. So let us begin with Samurai Warrior on the top side of the bracket. So again, polls will be appearing in just a moment, hopefully, through the power of technology. And you guys can vote on what you want to see Samurai play. So again, factions are the Beastmen, Lizardmen, Nurgle, and Wood Elves. And we're going to go through every player until they've all been selected, basically.
Mild lead for Wood Elves, tied with Beastmen.
No, okay. Yeah, we got the...
My gut tells me it's Wood Elves, so it's...
Yeah.
That's been the...
Yeah, Wood Elves are... I think if we look at the matchups across the board, I think Wood Elves have pretty decent ones, right? Like Lizardmen, I feel Wood Elves and Lizardmen is kind of... You remember the days of Warhammer 2 tournaments, right? Like how common that matchup was?
It's 24/7, yeah.
Yeah.
It was fairly even, though.
Exactly. So that's a decent one. Nurgle, I feel Wood Elves will be pretty heavily favored versus Nurgle if they're played correctly. 100%.
Right. No one's voting Nurgle. Nurgle's going to be sent to the last player.
Nurgle's going to be like the getting picked last in, dodgeball. It's just going to be like, all right, the poll's concluded. So, Samurai Warrior, if you are listening, you're the Wood Elves. Yeah. Nurgle's getting picked last today. I would want to play Nurgle. Soul Grinder's got a cost reduction, man. They're not as terrible as, they got some tricks now.
It's true. Yeah, that's like an extra Nurgling if you bring 2 Soul Grinders.
Yeah, that's a really depressing way of putting it. Just like some insignificant unit. Yeah, it's not like a big game changer. But I mean, yeah, it still feels all right. I mean, extra Nurgling on the side point, it could be worse. So, shall we do our poll for Elkai now? I think we shall. So you guys can vote on that. We'll be putting that up, and that's going to be who they're playing the rest of the day. So as far as the format goes, we have a couple best of 3s and FFAs, yeah?
Yeah, so 1 FFA in the final, best of 3 semifinals, and then best of 3 finals. So we have like a solid 10 games today.
Oh, wow. It's going to be pretty serious. Kind of like a mini faction war, essentially. You have individuals representing each of these different teams. So you can get behind your champion, whoever your favorite faction is, you can root for them. So coming in with the poll... Hey, look at that. We were making fun of Nurgle, and now they're getting rolled, though. That's pretty good. Solid stuff.
Oh, no. Wood Elves against Nurgle, though. The chat just set up one of the worst matchups in the game.
Okay, so I think we can give some topical advice. I think that if you're going to be doing Nurgle versus Wood Elves, probably from the Nurgle perspective, you're going to want to bring a Rotfly Lord. Just like an elusive kind of flying lord that can't really be sniped. And then like a bunch of shielded Chaos Warriors seems really simplistic and relatively strong. With like a Soul Grinder in the back.
Yeah.
That sounds good, right?
The Exalted Heroes too.
Exalted Heroes on Chariots. Oh, those things are such a nightmare to deal with. All right.
Yeah, the missile resist, the armor.
Yeah, is it 10% missile resist on the little like helmet they have?
It is 10% AoE, yes. Plus a base 15.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, dude. I think they're one of the best units on the roster. And, Plague Bearers are actually, I think, a good unit as well. Maybe not against Wood Elves, but have you ever dabbled in playing the Demons of Chaos?
I played against them a couple times in some clan training.
Yeah.
Demons of Chaos, what about them?
Well, I've been taking, so I started playing a couple tournaments in the past few weeks, and I was diving into playing the Demons of Chaos, which were kind of always perceived as a bit of a meme faction, especially as it pertains to, our stats, right? Because we have the stats for tournament wins and whatnot, and they were really in the pits with Nurgle and Kislev. But I think they actually have some teeth, for sure, using SEM spam, and also, of course, Plague Bearers is a core infantry unit with like the Tzeentch Demon Prince or Be'lakor. It seems like I think they're a little bit underrated is all I'm trying to say, and I think a large part of that has to do with how effective Plague Bearers can be in some matchups. For 700 gold, they're a pretty fighty unit.
It's like... Their main weakness is, it's sort of archer spam. And even then, they're quite tanky. Yeah. So, I think that along with, especially the Demon Prince buffs that we've seen recently, is like, they have so many more lords now.
Yeah, and they have a lot of variants. I don't think any of the Demon Princes have any items now that I think of it, but they did get cost reductions. But yeah, the Tzeentch Prince is amazing. Gaze of Fate's really, really good. Obviously, he's got Blue Fire, which is just one of the best spells in the game, and yeah, Be'lakor is still decent, I think, after some of the cost increases that he got. I think he's pretty viable, but there's this kind of like tech going around for the Demons of Chaos, which is using SEM spam against Cathay and High Elves. I actually had a tournament the other night where the Demons of Chaos were able to defeat High Elves 2 or 3 times and Grand Cathay twice, and they ended up winning the tournament by double Soul Grinder, double Blood Reaper, Be'lakor and or Blue Fire Caster, and then a Blood Shrine motorcycle. So it's opening up with 6 SEMs. Which is just bananas. Yeah. So then like the elves come in with like mass archers, and so does Cathay, and you just have like double bombard soul grinders with Be'lakor Pit of Shades, and it's pretty wild. So maybe Nurgle can do something like that is what essentially I'm trying to articulate, right? Like come in with like all these like double exalted hero, double soul grinder, like a Rotfly character, and just like have this really annoying, hard to snipe build.
Yeah. Right? Like you can't take 4 beasts of Nurgle too if you really want to go hard on the single entities.
Yeah, the problem with them is they can't juke very well, right? Like they're just such potatoes. They just kind of get focused down. Yeah.
To fight other single entities, not for rushing a range build.
Nurgle doesn't have a single unit with anti-large, does it? I don't think so.
I don't think so, but like
they
have units that sort of get the job done.
Like throwing axes.
Great weapons.
Yeah. Chosen Great Weapons, throwing axes. Like you said, their SEMs are pretty decent fighters too. Like Kugath is a pretty terrifying fighter for sure. He can get in there and bump and grind.
And he also has the armor to tank out most Wood Elf fire too at 70.
Yeah, Kugat does
along
have
with
a
his
decent
HP. Like,
Starfire Shaft. So I mean, Samurai Warrior, of course, known as being a meme master, but he's also a very skilled player. So I'm curious how far off the deep end he's going to go. Is he going to come in with like, just an Orion Wild Rider Rush, something just super wild like that, which I think would be pretty terrible against Nurgle, just like giving them the melee fight, or is he going to, kind of play more of a traditional ranged build? He's definitely going to bring like some cool lore though. It's not going to be like a Pravenoth Rema caster or like a Dweller's Below caster. It's got to be something fun, I think.
yeah, well, this is a pretty casual tournament.
Yeah.
So we're just here to have fun. I wouldn't expect like just the filthiest builds. Hey, chat can talk now.
They can. Oh, they were on emoji only. Oh, that's pretty funny. Just kept in the woods there, metaphorically speaking.
That explains that. Yeah.
Hey, welcome, guys. I just thought we were, man. It's good to talk with you guys. Yeah, so first match, Wood Elves versus Nurgle. You guys really did Elkai pretty dirty. For all of you guys in chat, you guys definitely gave him the the rough matchup here. But let's see. So what's the best outcome for Nurgle here? If they manage to get past Wood Elves, they for sure want to fight the Beastmen in the next round, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because Beastmen can beat Nurgle, but their missiles are much less effective. They have like 115 range, things like that. Not like Wood Elves that can like shoot from across the map with Way Watchers or Way Stalkers, things like that. Yeah, we could see a Treemen build. What about like Treemen? Like Nurgle not expecting like big SE usage, and then the Wood Elves come in with like Durthu and just like a bunch of Treekin and Treemen. Oh my god.
That would be a very spicy pick for sure. Very on brand.
Yeah.
But asking to definitely get out captured on Itza. We are playing on domination today too, so.
Yeah. You could get away with that, but Nurgle will definitely outcap Wood Elves, because Wood Elves would have to bring in a pure tree build. They would have to bring Dryads. And Dryads, how do they do against... Dryads should beat Marauders of Nurgle. They probably would struggle, obviously, against anything higher tier. They would get wrecked by Warriors, and then against Plague Bearers, they probably lose too. Granted, their magic damage wouldn't be terrible in that trade. Tough to say. Looks like Elkai is ready. So our Nurgle champion trying to establish dominance here early on with the quick ready up. Yeah. No, Nurgle's got some teeth, I think. Nurgle's got some tricks. What do you think they really need? Like, if Nurgle were to get, like, a magical DLC, let's say, like, next week, what would be the thing that you think would make them go from being, like, a 19% win rate faction in tournaments to being, like, 50%?
I'd say... Well, I don't know about their special lore units, so I'll figure out sort of what they need in their roster. I would say something to catch skirmishers, like skirmish cavalry and whatnot. Because the Soul Grinders do sort of well enough against sort of archers and cheap archer factions. But if they don't have like a slow to catch out skirmishers, I guess technically they already have Fate of Buna.
Yeah,
but
they do. Yeah.
They don't really have it on a lore that is like super great for them. Although, I don't know. The Demon Prince almost gets there with the Fate of Buna and healing.
Yeah, he's okay. Like what? I'm trying to think of what units Nurgle is missing. Yeah. So we do have the Toad Dragon, which is obviously not in the game, but is in the lore and tabletop, which is looks like Samurai Warrior is ready, but then he unchecked there. We're gonna have to ready up as soon as they're good to go. So it looks like we're all set. But yeah, Nurgle does have the Toad Dragon. There's a character in lore named Tamarkon, which is a pretty freaky character. It's an ogre tyrant who has had his brain and body possessed by a Nurgle parasite. And he rides on top of a giant toad dragon, like hybrid beast. And he's probably pretty quick and has like regeneration. So that could be kind of viable for Nurgle. Like, what if they got a big bruiser combat character? Like, imagine a Throt the Unclean, but like twice as tanky and like, hitting way harder. Mm-hmm. Right?
Look, if he actually has some speed to him,
like
an 80 speed Nurgle character would already that already pretty big for them.
He's just like as fast as like the Brood Horrors. How fast is Dreadsaurian? How fast is Dreadsaurian, by the way? Do you remember?
Dreadsaurian?
Yeah.
Oh, off the top of my head, I'm going to guess 60 to 70.
It would probably be as fast as a Dreadsaurian if they added the Toad Dragon, I would say. Yeah, I would say. Oh, man, look, these are pretty competitive builds, actually. I mean, a couple little nuances, but, man, they both look pretty good, huh?
Samurai didn't go mass trees?
He did bring 2 big trees, though, to be fair. We got to give him credit. He's doing Ecosia proud here. He's got Durthu as well as a Tree Man, so... Not terrible. Nurgle does sometimes struggle against SEs, right?
Yeah, like because Nurgle knows that they typically win the fight. They know that their enemy knows that. So they usually go a little bit softer on their own fighting lords.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're seeing today.
Oh, 100%, brother. And here in the front, looks like it will be triple Way Watcher for the Wood Elves. Way Watchers, of course, the elite of the elite for Wood Elf Archers. For anybody who's new to the game, they look really cool as well. 190 range, huge punch, massive armor piercing, and you certainly need some armor piercing against Nurgle, against some of the warriors and obviously soul grinders and things. And the two big trees in the back. Durthu going to be coming in with Flock of Doom, as well as Wyson's Wild Form, and Treeman with some great Stag Knights in the back as well. Maybe a little bit of overkill on armor piercing, but Samurai Warrior expecting a warrior rush. Now, what do we have here for the Nurgle army, my friend?
Well, indeed, we do actually have some armor, but a little bit harder to chunk through. A lot of Chaos Warriors of Nurgle, which will probably give the Way Watchers a hard time, as it's much harder to flank in domination.
Yeah.
We got the Festus with only Stream of Corruption,
wow.
which used to be an absolute terror, but got nerfed into sort of just a good spell now. And actually, some Chariots and Regiment of Renown Forsaken. So the Chariots will be, either they make it to the Wood Elf lines or they get obliterated. The Forsaken, yeah. They sort of don't really have a good target here, not until we see some Dryad summons or something, but whatever infantry they do get on top of, I would expect them to massacre. And then actually quite a bit of ranged. Nurgle actually has the same amount of range units as the Wood Elves, with the Soul Grinder, that's basically the Mortar War Wagon of Nurgle, and then some throwing axes, which will actually do quite well against the trees, I think.
Yeah, I think that Elkai had a little bit of a mind game tech here. He knows that the theme of the event is trees, so he was able to kind of correctly anticipate that Samurai Warrior is going to be coming out with the double trees. So we got Durthu and the Tree Man emerging from the forest, and if they can kind of maneuver away from the Marauder Horsemen, and maybe the Way Watchers can eliminate the range threats via the Soul Grinder as well as the Marauder Horsemen, those trees can certainly shine. Looks like we do have an initial Dryad summon going to Objective 1, whereas the Wood Elves are going to be contesting the fighting in the middle, it would appear.
Yeah, and I think most of this game is going to fall on how well the Way Watchers do. Either they'll be obliterating whatever unit they come into contact with, or they'll probably be getting zoned out by Chaos Warriors the entire game.
Yeah.
And that sort of just comes down to the maneuvering here.
Now, as far as Way Watchers go, is there any micro tips and tricks you have? Because I know one of the more common things in high-level competitive play is kind of duels between ranged units and skirmish units and things like that. What are the movement patterns you need to see to get more effective ranged attacks in general when you're trading with enemy ranged units? And big volley going down there in Festus, by the way.
Oh, yeah. It's actually quarter HP damage. They do so much damage. Basically, from what I've noticed, most of the time, you're just trying to get firing uptime on them. Mm-hmm. So you want them to be firing as much as possible while also avoiding the shields.
Yeah.
And very often what you see is players will turn off fire at will and just have a 10-second timer in their head that they will follow to get their volleys off as soon as possible.
Yeah,
and
certainly makes sense.
Especially in domination, where you can de-summon these guys, you can be a little bit more aggressive with your ammunition usage.
Yeah, no, we can certainly see it being aggressively used now as the Way Watchers unleash the full fury of their salvos into Festus's triple chin as he advances on the middle. Certainly not what you want to be doing with Festus, charging a giant tree man and face tanking a million arrows, but it's Nurgle's not the most maneuverable faction. Certainly can get caught in those little traps here and there. But Nurgle's going to be pushing up towards the middle. Side objective, currently 3, not being contested by anyone. And on the backside, a little bit of an unfortunate trade for Elkai, as his Marauder Horsemen look to be getting caught by those Glade Rider Spears. If they get broken off the battlefield, that's going to be removing one of the factors that can actually deal with the Tree Man. And look at your boy Festus, man. Yeah,
he's getting just annihilated. He actually has a quite large hitbox.
Yeah.
It's rather slow himself, and is generally very, very susceptible to ranged fire. And already routing. That is a pretty massive loss for Nurgle here.
It is, man. It is. And I have to say, as somebody who, exclusively plays Empire campaigns in Total War Warhammer, can't remember the last time I played something that wasn't an Empire campaign. Seeing Festus running off the map is certainly a very cathartic feeling. I know you're doing a campaign series right now, right? Where you're doing the Ultimate Crisis as the Empire. Have you had trouble dealing with Festus?
He's an absolute menace, man. The plagues, 24/7 plagues, man.
Yeah, it's certainly a pain. And the backfield Marauder Horsemen trying to dive desperately into the archers. We also see the same thing going down with the chariots as well, but very, very clean micro by Samurai Warrior. He's able to rout off the chariots, immediately breaking the horsemen. We see the double hound summon coming out. And let us see if Samurai Warrior is going to be able to pull his horsemen up there, or if the hounds will feast. It should be a tricky one.
Split on the hounds too, actually. Just since there's only one unit of stag knights, actually goes in both directions to sort of peel the stag knights apart from them. But it seems like with the extra cavalry, the Way Watchers are probably going to be pretty safe for the rest of this battle here.
Yeah, we're seeing pretty clean micro from Samurai Warrior. Like, some of the Way Watchers have taken a little bit of salvo fire, like 1 unit's down to 42 models. I think that's largely from the Soul Grinder getting some bombardments earlier on, and it would appear it's still bombarding in the back. But for the most part, it's been a very clean, efficient defense of the backfield, which I would say it's much harder for Nurgle to get into the backfield. You have to just have incredible pressure from all angles. The one thing that's doing well for Nurgle are the Chaos Warriors. Like, if you look at all the Chaos Warriors, they're in pretty good shape, trading efficiently against most threats and even enduring against the Tree Man. But Nurgle does seem to be on the back foot. Objectives are 1-to-1, so Nurgle isn't really taking advantage of the fact that maybe they could grab that side objective while the pressure is active. And Samurai Warrior is pulling a big lead, and Festus is just 1 volley away from going down here.
Mm-hmm. We have to remember, Nurgle does have a ton of healing. If Festus doesn't die right now, which... oh, it's looking very close.
I like how it lags with all the arrows in his face, you know? There's just a lag spike.
Yeah. The healing might bring it back. It at his current HP though, he's not the highest leadership lord in the game. And honestly, he might die at 400 HP left.
Yeah, I think the Way Watchers might get him. I mean, he's inadvertently dodging some of the shots, but obviously Samurai is going to be going for the kill here. I mean, he should 100%. So if you guys are a little bit newer to domination mode and Total War Warhammer battles in general, when your lord dies in a game or flees off the battlefield, there's essentially a penalty applied to your entire army. And you can kind of clarify the exact numbers in a moment, but if Festus dies, the entire Nurgle army for the rest of the battle is going to be penalized on leadership. And what are the numbers specifically on that?
Oh, it's gonna be a -16 leadership debuff for, I believe 30 seconds it was. But that's basically, that's basically as bad as being charged in the rear permanently. It is a massive debuff, and I would expect quite a few of these Chaos Warriors to start terror routing from Durthu at this point.
Yeah, Durthu's doing it for the trees in the forest, man. Him and his tree buddy in here, certainly planting some trees on the faces of these Chaos Warriors, which is, Nurgle's about trees as well, though. I would say, of the 4 factions we have, the 2 that are probably the most focused on actual, forests and trees and whatnot, most likely are the Wood Elves and Nurgle. Nurgle's entire realm in the Chaos realm is essentially that of a giant forest, a plague forest, but a forest nonetheless. So Nurgle trying a little bit of a maneuvering play up on the high ground. We see some Nurglings coming from the Vanguard point with horsemen, and the Demon Spear looking to overwhelm some Dryads, which are a little bit isolated, but he's not as far behind in value as we thought, I suppose. It's 4.5 to 3.1 with some healing taken into account, but Nurgle not having its magic here is going to be tough, and I don't see them effectively dealing with these tree men,
Yeah, it might come down to a case where the tree men are basically ignored, and Nurgle just wins the capture point race by playing the flank points instead.
Yeah. I certainly think that would be a good call at this point. And we do see Nurgle having some efficiency on the flanks. The tattered Marauder chariots, which kind of got bullied a little bit earlier, have come back around, running through the Dryads right now. And they might be able to get the 2 side points. We have seen that happen. Those early builds with Bellicor that were just kind of centered around big expensive pieces, and they would kind of lose to factions that could play the side points, or Malekith style builds where they have a big Air Force presence, but not necessarily the side pressure. But those Way Watchers, I think Itza is a good map for this tree build because he can effectively cover these 2 objectives with 1 set of Way Watchers, and yeah, Nurgle getting pushed off that side point pretty heavily, it looks like.
Yeah, and barely not capturing actually.
Oh no.
It looks like it's just a straight up Wood Elf capture there. So Nurgle will likely get the 2 points, 1 on the high ground, 1 in the middle.
Yeah.
But it's just going to be a constant value loss with Durthu and the tree men on that point. And given the victory tickets right now, it's gonna be a little bit rough. One of the loss conditions in domination is just getting army wiped off of the map. So if that does happen, it doesn't really matter how many tickets you have. That will basically spell doom for Nurgle if it does come down to that. Yeah,
usually it's kind of like if you're in a game and you're massively ahead on points but behind on value, sometimes you can pull off a win by, Helm's Deeping out a back objective or something and just trying to hold it desperately. But when you're behind on value and like the tickets are reasonably close, I mean, Samurai Warrior is actually ahead on tickets right now, and he does have a single cap. Looks like he's maybe going to be securing the middle right now with his Great Stag Knights as well as the Treekin. Nurgle doesn't really have a presence there at all. This game, assuming Samurai Warrior doesn't have any colossal blunders, he should be in a more commanding position. And also Nurgle doesn't have magic unless I, wait to summon Festus, which it looks like Elkai might be doing as he's banking about 1,100 supplies, give or take.
Yeah, it will still take him a little ways longer before he can get Festus, though, as I'm pretty sure he's like around the 1,500 range, even if you take him with very few abilities.
Yeah, and Festus is...
And also...
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
The Aura and Chaos Knights on the flank. How do you feel about the Chaos Knights of Nurgle?
I feel like Chaos Knights in general are one of the coolest looking units in the entire game. However, they're a little bit mediocre. I think one matchup in which Chaos Knights are good is Wood Elves. They have the shield, the heavy armor against a lot of the Wood Elf infantry like Dryads. They outtrade most of the Wood Elf cavalry on like head-on charges. So I don't hate them, but it's going to be tricky. And you can already see they're being dragged down by the Waywatcher fire. Though that Soul Grinder in the back actually getting decent value, up to about 1,600 just from bombarding the Waywatchers here. But man, oh man, it is going to be tough to get those trees off the point. And Nurgle just seems to be running out of steam across the board. That in conjunction with their leadership issues just seems really, really tough for them at this point.
Yeah, we do have to remember, though, the Waywatchers are running out of ammunition. And I feel like if there is a chance that Nurgle will come back, it will be probably through that, as they're pretty injured right now, too, right? Even if we do see a desummon,
yeah,
there won't be that much value given back to Samurai Warrior. And then once they're gone, Nurgle infantry should be able to win against stuff like the Wood Elf cavalry.
Yeah, potentially.
That's what I'm hoping here for Nurgle. It is looking a little bit bleak.
It's looking pretty bleak for them. I mean, we see like a little bit of a desperation summon. You know how when you're like playing against Khorne players and they're on the back foot, the only thing you see are Fleshhounds coming out, just like desperately trying to scrape value and trades on the battlefield. And look at that. Oh, this might be the end of the road here, as we do see the Soul Grinder just getting volley fired. Okay, he does micro it back, which is good. But Durthu isn't, he's not happy to just sit on the objective. He's actually going for blood. We see him moving across the battlefield, hunting down the Soul Grinder. I don't know if we'll be able to catch it, but yeah, Wood Elves seem to be pretty comfortable, although there is a big Nurgle flank coming from the high ground. Maybe he could be able to get the middle. We'll have to see how these Eternal Guard trade.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect them to trade super well. The Forsaken, even at half HP, are quite the menace, especially with their higher leadership. But with the Treekin there, I think capture weight favors the Wood Elves on that middle point.
So Treekin, being monstrous infantry, should have 3 capture weight, correct? And basic infantry units have 5. Cavalry, I believe, have 4. Correct me if I'm wrong in any of those.
I'm pretty sure those are the right numbers.
I know there's been some changes. There was a point where monstrous infantry had like massive capture weight, but that was found to be a little bit oppressive with some factions. I guess Ogre Kingdom certainly enjoyed that, but now they basically have that back. Waywatchers up in the sky shooting against Chaos Furies, getting a little bit of damage there, but Durthu is going to be able to maneuver over to this point. So even though the Soul Grinder was a decent presence, that might have been able to push off the Dryads, giving Nurgle this objective. As soon as Durthu arrives, this Soul Grinder is going to be getting just judo chopped right here. It's going to be brutal for sure.
Yeah, Durthu, he doesn't have anti-large, but he does have 75 melee attack. So I wouldn't be too worried about Durthu there. And as for the Furies, it looks like, the countercharge from the Glade Riders is... if you ever have problems with Furies, cheap cavalry countercharging them is definitely the way to go. Basically just free 600 gold unit there from the one charge.
Yeah, absolutely. They have very low melee defense. They're not quite like Fellbats. Like if you look at Fellbats for the Vampire counts as well as Carrion for the Tomb Kings, both those units have melee defense in the 40s. So even if you charge them, that's one of the most annoying things is it takes so long to get rid of them, whereas Furies are kind of the opposite end, glass cannons. But definitely looking like it's going to be a Wood Elf victory here. I would be massively surprised if Elkai was able to kind of scrap back, but big props to Elkai as well. He's played incredibly well considering how rough of a matchup this is, in at least my opinion. And Samurai Warrior is, even though he's, does play meme builds from time to time and brings kind of, more off-meta stuff, he's still a very strong tournament-level player. So this is a very, very impressive performance by Elkai, who, all of you guys in chat, you did him a little bit dirty. You could have given him Lizardmen versus Wood Elves, any of these other factions, but you had to give him Nurgle, which is, this is probably their worst matchup for them in the entire tournament. So there you go.
Yeah, at least we get to witness what it looks like. It is fairly, I think this is one of the more rare matchups just ever, as no one really plays Nurgle in tournaments, I think.
Yeah, they're uncommon. Yeah.
They're rocking the solid 25% win rate, I believe.
Yeah, and we can take a look at some of the stats after this game. We, of course, collect all the tournament stats from the tournaments that we host over in the community, so we'll make sure to show you guys all those numbers for anybody getting into multiplayer. And yeah, apologies, there's a little bit of lag going on. You know, we got these players connecting from all over the globe, so we'll do our best to resolve those issues in between games. But Nurgling's moving up. Double Nurgling, that is 10 capture weight, might be able to start to wrestle the middle. Granted, I think it's only a matter of time before the Treekin and the Tree Men are able to grind them down. Reinforcing Azrai Spears coming in. Not going to be amazing against these Nurgle units, but do have some armor piercing against the armor, I suppose. But do you see any chances for Nurgle coming back? I certainly don't.
Oh, most definitely not, especially considering it's mostly Nurglings on the battlefield right now.
Yeah.
While they are pretty good for capture weight, they tend to trade down. And in a situation where you already don't have the capture weight, they really don't pull their weight in a straight-up fight, especially against, you know, units like Eternal Guard.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of matchups in which Nurglings are actually like decent baseline fighters. I guess if you're fighting like Bretonia, like the Empire, like I feel like a unit of Nurglings can trade reasonably well with some like basic state troopers or something. But yeah, generally speaking, Nurglings are just kind of capture weight and or buffering units. I mean, for their price point, they have decent amount of melee defense, and the fact that they apply poison in a blanket really isn't bad, and Vanguard deployment for Nurgle is turbo valuable. But we do see the trickling in of these Nurgle forces now is they're basically just moving to their doom, and Wood Elves can probably resummon their elite archers, you know, very, very soon, I would imagine, as well.
Yeah, if the Way Watchers come back, that just spells absolute doom for Nurgle.
Yeah, and we got, you know, basically a bunch of, you know, we had Nurglings, Marauder Horsemen. Marauder Horsemen, of course, a decent inclusion to try and drag down the trees here. But the Wood Elves are just so entrenched. They currently have Objective 3 somewhat secured with some Dryads, and it looks like the top objective is being taken by Dryads as well. And Nurgle is kind of a... You have to be very tactical as it pertains to where you're sending your units, because much of your roster is very slow. So when you're really behind, it's not like you can be like, let's say, Vampire Counts or Vampire Coast and pull a very sneaky play with a bunch of Hounds and steal an objective. It's very obvious where you're going with Nurgle, and Wood Elves are a very reactionary faction. So if you react with some infantry to the side, they can have some, you know, 90-speed cavalry there in a second to react to your plays. So this is really, really not the position Nurgle wants to be playing from, and it looks like the bread of the Nurgle forces has indeed been buttered, as Durthu does use the Lamentation of Despair, most likely to close out the game. I would not be surprised to see Elkai tap out here in game number 1.
Yeah, and there he goes. Now, I think many people want to see Nurgle do well. The question is, what do you think the optimal composition would be here to deal with a Wood Elf build like this? With sort of the Way Watchers, basically impossible to catch you, and crazy single entities like Durthu who just will not die.
You know, I actually did not hate Elkai's build. I think there was some control issues with Festus that really, you know, really set him behind, because despite not having a Lord in Magic, and Nurgle does have good Magic. I mean, he only brought Stream of Corruption. Straight up, what I would probably do against Wood Elves is I would go double Soul Grinder. I would probably bring a Rotfly Lord on a Rotfly with the healing spell as well as Stream of Corruption, and then just mass Chaos Warriors from there. I would have Marauder Horsemen in reserves, Nurglings in reserve. Double Soul Grinders bombarding Way Watchers was one of the only things that Nurgle had going for it. Like, the Soul Grinder itself didn't even necessarily have the best performance, and it still exceeded its price, right? It got 1984 value. So if you just have a Rotfly character sitting in the back, healing up your targets at the Way Watchers focus, staying at range with the Nurgle Soul Grinders and bombarding the Way Watchers, and just kind of like letting the trees take 10 years to kill these like durable Nurgle infantry, I really think Nurgle could have won that with a wider build, and, you know, obviously not having Festus eat all those arrows to the face for sure.
See, I actually have I go the other way. Well, I think you go for more the Weather the Storm strategy. I actually prefer the 6 Cavalry Nurgle play.
Oh, yeah. Look at that with Toad. Do you use Toads ever, or is it just Chaos Knights mainly?
Oh, I honestly could probably do both, but like maybe like a 6 Chaos Knight starter, you know, mixed in a few Toads.
God.
Yeah, you can do it. Mix in the chariots, and then, right, double Exalted Hero and Reinforcements.
Oh my god.
So if there's a Durthu, you just gang up on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not, you know, if Elkai's listening, I'm not telling you to try it out, but
I mean, that's micro-intensive, though. That would be a very micro-intensive build, which I'm sure he has good micro, but yeah, I mean, that does seem really nasty to deal with, though. Just like mass Chaos Knights. Would you have your Lord in your starting army, or would he be in reserves with that playstyle?
Honestly, he could probably be in reserves, unless you would take, like, I don't know. maybe like a Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Nurgle. They're actually pretty good. Like high stats, high armor.
Yeah, and they don't have any. The Staff of Change is only for the Tzeentch one. Does the Nurgle Chaos Sorcerer have any like good items or anything, or is he just kind of weaker in that department?
He does have regeneration, like even faster than Festus.
Hmm.
So if you want a much tankier Lord, you can actually go for that.
He does have the Shrine, but the Shrine would obviously be pretty terrible against the Wood Elves. And on map 2 here, we had Itza for our first map. Our second map is now going to be Black Ark, which I think does give Nurgle a lot more play with the double Soul Grinder style. Granted, Knights also aren't bad on like the big open space, but I really do think double Soul Grinder would be very, very good here. Like incredibly strong.
Oh yeah, probably one of the more meta picks for sure.
Yeah, and I think Samurai will maybe switch up his build. Like since they're playing the same factions, I would imagine he'll probably come in with something different just so his opponent can't adapt too easily. I do think the core of the triple Waywatcher probably will remain. But what other lords do you see being viable against Nurgle? I even think like a Wild, if we're talking to like not meta lords, but fun ones. Like, do you see Orion being decent here with his like javelins and like, you know, his mobility and his ability to like chase soul grinders down? Could be good, right?
Honestly, he'd be pretty hype.
Yeah.
He'd be pretty great. Yeah. Orion, I don't think, just because of his speed, right? He's walking 55 speed. That's basically faster than any of the big fighters Nurgle can field.
Yeah.
I think he'd do great. Although, you know, the Hero Lord and Domination, maybe an Aerial.
Yeah.
Could see a, unfortunately no Coadil, but how do you feel about Aerial, honestly? We basically never see her in multiplayer tournaments.
So that's one of my conspiracy theories, is that she's a hidden gem because she has Dwellers Below and healing bound to her. So I've always thought like bringing her as a lore choice for Wood Elves wouldn't be bad because you get some good things out of it. Like she's a pretty good fighter, decent for sure. She has Soul Stealer, which is a really powerful ability. She has Dwellers Below. And she also has the healing, the Berry Wine, so she can heal herself. And if you're coming in with like a unit like Great Stag Knights, she can also drop like a fat heal and vigor buff to them as well. So I think there's certainly some hidden tech with Aerial. I don't know, but like maybe in like a brawler centric matchup, bringing her could be okay. Against Nurgle, though, I think like having Sisters of Sisters of Twilight would be so good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nasty.
Although
like,
they can be countered, right?
With
Nurgle does have that healing. Against Festus, he's doomed.
You don't bring Festus, that's for sure. I guess like a Rotfly Lord could kind of like juke their shots with really sweaty micro, and also maybe heal because he's got the bound healing ability with the Locust plus the heal. But yeah, like I could see Sisters on a Dragon being a viable pick, right? With the self-healing, that opens up other magic options because you don't have to like heal your Lord, and they can just breath attack the Chaos Warriors. They can fight the Soul Grinders in melee. They can snipe enemy Lords. I would not hate that at all.
Yeah, because like Nurgle's pretty, like Nurgle doesn't have a lot of tools to kill a Lord quickly.
Yeah.
So it's one of the rare instances where the Sisters of Twilight can get that healing proc off safely.
Yeah, yeah. It's a pretty long one. What is it? It's like 30 seconds or 25 seconds or something for that to proc?
It's forever, basically. Let's see here. Like they have a chance of routing off the map before it triggers sometimes, but it is 30 seconds.
I would say Sisters are pretty meta. We see them a lot. Like the most meta is probably just like a cheap Dwellers caster. If you want to get really boring about things, you know, just having like a character flying around Dwellers, because the ability as it currently stands is a little bit overtuned. But yeah, generally speaking, I think Sisters of Twilight are also quite good because you can still bring them in a Dwellers caster and get like a pretty nasty little goon squad, like an Eagle and a Dragon. But Dragon characters have been making a bit of a comeback, right? I guess Malekith is only terribly relevant because of Soul Stealer and his healing. Are there any other Dragon characters that are kind of prevalent in the meta right now?
Look, they did get a buff recently to mass and HP.
Yeah.
We've been seeing some Imric, which is something I never thought I'd be saying, but just because he's such a good fighter, he has insane amounts of HP now.
Yeah.
And the Wood Elves, or not the Wood Elves, the High Elves definitely need that armor piercing. It's been pretty interesting seeing him do really well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Imric's been very strong. I mean, he does have the Dragon Horn, which is a very strong ability, especially with the new, like if you're massing like Illyrian Reavers and kind of Wood Elf cheap mobility, getting that big melee attack buff across your entire army is very, very cost effective for sure. So yeah, I think Imric's pretty good. Obviously, Malekith is decent. What other big dragon characters do we see? We don't really see Lokir. and those type of guys in Rackhearth, simply because Malekith is just objectively better with his healing and the fact that you don't have to bring a caster in tandem with that. So yeah. Hard to say.
Well, like Vampire counts.
Yeah, they use dragons.
Yeah, Dragon Resurgence with Gorst getting his nerfs recently.
Oh my god, the Gorst meta those were some dark times, man. Those were some dark times. But yeah, Vampire Dragons have always been pretty decent. Like Vampires, I would say, have used them for a long time. Even at the end of Warhammer 2, they were somewhat meta. I mean, Hellsteed Lords are very cost effective too, but having Manfred up on a dragon with, Master of the Black Arts and the what is his sword called? The Sword of Unholy Power that gives him like infinite Winds of Magic reserves.
Oh yeah.
Very, very good. I don't think we have any factions today that get infinite Winds of Magic, though. I think it's just High Elves, Vampire Coast, and Vampire Counts, yeah?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't remember anyone else. I think Ike Claw has like an ability, but it might be one use that gives him Winds of Magic.
I think he can multi-use it, but I know it has a chance to hurt him. Like, it's like a 50% overcast chance. Looks like the players are indeed ready, guys. I'm quite excited to see what tech Elkai has come up with. Probably going to be switching off Festus, I would wager. Let's put our bets. I bet it's the Rotfly Lord. Let's see if he was listening to the stream. Okay. I don't hate that. Yeah.
Cultists of Nurgle. Now, he's also unarmored, but against Waywatchers, armor matters a lot less.
Yeah. And he's
not
a small
as much
target.
resistance.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, small target. Well, the question is he on foot or on a horse?
Or a shrine. That's the most important thing.
Shrine. Yo, if he brings a shrine, he's one in my heart.
That would be like the Dark Lord of the Bronze Leagues, just a massive Nurgle shrine into Wood Elves. But you know what's ironic?
Like
it would work.
Just bringing meta builds into that.
It would work though, because Samurai brought a bit of a meme build. He went with the true theme of today, the Ecosia Tree Rush. It is going to be Dryka, Mass Treemen, Mass Dryad. So, I mean, if he did bring a shrine here, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if the Wood Elves don't have archers and reinforcements.
Yeah, unfortunately, no shrine for Nurgle, though. It is the foot cult. No, horse cultist. He has basically nothing except for his summon ability. He does have to get low on HP to use it, though, but we can expect that with the number of just how much damage the Wood Elves can dish out. And it is going to be a Mass Marauder build. Actually pretty different from what we saw earlier. So a lot more chaff, which could do better against Waywatchers if they can actually catch and push them.
Yeah.
Way more Marauder Horsemen, all the way up to 6. And actually the Beast of Nurgle, which it could do well against things like single entities, but it would have to be very careful. Definitely against anything big like a Durthu would go down. Single dog. So mostly the same style, just sort of side graded and tuned up, I would say. But otherwise, mostly the same units. What are we seeing for the Wood Elves?
Yeah, certainly, like you said, pretty similar style. Going with the wider build to minimize the efficacy of the Waywatcher focus fire. I certainly don't hate it. Granted, I think Nurgle should definitely bring a caster. I mean, their magic is very good. He must have one in reserve, I would wager. And for Samurai, he's just going for a very simplistic build this time. He is bringing the Fury of the Trees, and it is Dryads, Treekin, as well as Dryka. Dryka does have Pendulum, which isn't bad against Nurgle Infantry, and also Pit of Shades, both very viable spells. And Malevolent Dryads, not bad at all against some of these Nurgle Infantry. With Wildwood Rangers in the back, Wood Elves are just straight going to push up the middle of the map, play Objective 1, and try and bully Objective 2, it looks like. Does not look like we see anything contesting the sides. Granted, Wood Elves could do some Cav or Vanguard play on the sides at some point to try and get that, but I think it's just going to be straight up a bull rush, and this is going to be a very low micro build for Samurai. And let us see if Elkai's Horseman micro is going to be good enough to drag down some of these Treekin, because that's really all he has that can kill those Treekin.
Yeah, but I will say the horsemen are uncontested this match. There's basically nothing that can actually catch them except for maybe a Drycha summon.
Yeah.
So they should do pretty well.
Yeah, Drycha summon could be good. We also have the Vanguard points, though. I would wager that Samurai Warrior most likely has a bunch of Glade Riders in reserve that can kind of pop out and chase these guys down. That's what happened last game. We saw Elkai really overextend deep into Samurai's territories. Granted, he was diving archers that game, and they just got picked apart by Glade Rider summons, so that's something you'll have to watch out for. It looks like both players are banking resources. Nobody summoned anything. Okay, Samurai Warrior coming in with the first summon, which is going to be some Hawk Riders, actually. What do you think about that?
Very interesting unit. They are extremely mobile, 110 speed, pretty good. But the DPS isn't amazing. I would expect the horsemen to get quite a bit of damage off before they get routed off by them.
Yeah, I agree. Hawk Riders are kind of a cool piece. They do have good armor piercing and melee, which is something that in Warhammer 2, we did occasionally see them in these very strange builds, where you would see like several Hawk Riders rear charging Chaos Knights as they like charged into your infantry, and you would have like an armor piercing rear charge, pinning something in place with their decent mass. But generally speaking, Hawk Riders are a little bit off meta. We do see the Wood Elves trying to fight back against the skirmish using Melkoths, which isn't bad. It does slow and do a little bit of damage. And like you said, the Hawk Riders will be moving up. DPS a little bit subpar. And now we get our first skirmish cap for the Wood Elves coming out, which is obviously going to be designed to take down Elkai's Marauders. And Elkai not summoning in anything yet, so I think he's saving up for a big expensive Lord.
Very interesting. I guess, well, we haven't seen his Lord yet. But I'd wonder what he'd bring in, especially given that there isn't a lot of range for the Wood Elves.
Yeah.
He could basically summon any of the Nurgle Lords and they'd be fairly safe.
Yeah, Festus would be actually decent here. I think the ultimate Terminator, though, if he just like came out with just a giant chunky Kugath, just like roll up on his motor scooter here, and like that would be so brutal against this build. It would more Dissension all the Dryads. Kugath would absolutely dominate Dryka in combat, and probably the Branch Wraith, like 2v1. And it looks like we might have a little bit of a Lord duel, as the Branch Wraith and the Dryka are able to maybe catch the Cultist, who is staying and fighting here. Certainly not what it wants to be doing. Granted, it will get its summon off, maybe.
Yeah, it could maybe intentional, taking just enough damage to get the summon. He does need a little bit lower HP though to trigger that. And we do have to remember the Beast of Nurgle, if it joins in with the Cultist, Drycha could get out traded. Maybe not killed immediately, but the healing I think would be in the favor for Nurgle there. And oh man, look at the dogs. The dogs in the back getting caught up by some cavalry is a rough time for them.
Yeah, I mean, we saw last game how good Samurai is with this, right? Like, we saw some very effective dives by Elkai in terms of, like, splitting units and, you know, really, really nice RTS fundamentals. However, Samurai was able to kind of match him on every front. We have the Hawk Riders buffering the center opening, so if he tried to dive there, the Hawk Riders can intercept them. And Glade Riders are obviously a pretty good unit, much better than Wild Riders in terms of cost effectiveness. So we are going to be seeing the Nurgle backline dive being shut down. Not that there's anything terribly vulnerable there. And the Wood Elves actually do steal the home objective with Nurgle, and Nurgle's kind of trying to figure out how they want to approach this. But yeah, Elkai, I think he's saving up for a Kugath or a Great Unclean One. We see him with 2,500 in the bank, not being spent at the moment, so yeah, it's got to be something big and heavy. And he's got to do it quick, or else he's going to start taking big value hits, and it's going to get dangerous fast.
I do wonder what is that expensive. And oh, look at that.
Oh, God.
I believe Uncle Funkle.
Oh, God. Okay. What do you think it's going to get value-wise this game? Let's do, and you guys in chat can join us. Over or under 1,000? I'm saying under.
Under 1,000?
I'm saying under, yeah.
I'm gonna say, I think he'll barely get over 1,000. I think like 1,100 seems about right for him.
Everybody in chat is like under. His odds are much better now though, because it's mostly a melee Wood Elf army, right?
Yeah. It's like it's built for him. This is where he's supposed to. This is his This is exactly what he's looking for. And he has like a Spirit Leech for Drycha too, which doesn't have that much HP. And look at that! Speak of the devil.
Yeah, very nice Spirit Leech on Drycha. He is currently sitting at about 83 value. Okay, guys. Somebody in chat saying 2,000 value. What do you think of that?
Oh, 2,000. All right, don't get too excited, chat. Remember, this is still not a perfect situation for Nurgle. Unless, I don't know, if Drycha doesn't move out, then that would actually pay for the full 2,000. But he's already used one Spirit Leech, and his AoE ability actually does a lot less damage than you might expect. It's only about 500 damage to all units in an AoE.
Yeah. I've always been kind of underwhelmed. Oh, look at that.
Huh. It's a SmackDown. Solid 388. Okay, well, I think over 1,000 seems quite likely now, unless this game ends immediately.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty ideal. I mean, having Drycha just sit here and being beaten by Uncle Frunkel, it's like the one thing he would potentially be good at here. In my experience, I've always been underwhelmed by his abilities. Like, I find they don't do that much damage, and he ends up just like kind of waddling around like a potato the whole game. But I mean, if he's allowed to sit and just beat on a character that's objectively weaker than him, then let's see. He's already up to about 400 value, guys. We're living a little bit dangerously now. Looking at the macro of the battlefield, we do see some horsemen being chased around the map and being methodically hunted by some of these Glade Riders here. No pressure from the Wood Elves on Objective 3. Objective 2, still owned by the Wood Elves, and it looks like it will be for the foreseeable future, as the Dryads and Tree Kid are trading very well. Samurai does also have some Hounds and Horsemen pinned on the sides of the map. Granted, there's a bit of a route there. And the Uncle for Uncle battle does indeed rage on, as it looks like Dryka is trying to get away from the battle here.
And it seems like Nurgle's actually starting to take a bit of a leg up. Fighting on your home point gives you a pretty massive advantage just based on reinforcement times. So the Wood Elves are already down a little bit of money just from the distance. And because of that, a slight gold value for Nurgle is a pretty good sign, though a bad sign is that new summon of Glade Guard. I think the one Glade Guard could just be the doom of Frunkle over there.
Yeah, Samurai obviously probably noticed he was starting to trade badly. However, his opponent isn't using any healing or magic, so that must be nice. The value is actually like a relatively true metric. It's not something that's like inflated by healing and whatnot. But yeah, now it's business time. He's going to be summoning out archers, which, assuming he can shut down the Nurgle skirmishing and horsemen, they should do very well. And I would wager like a Wood Elf Vanguard on Objective 3 with like a single Dryad right now. Feels like it would be a really strong play, right?
Yeah, honestly, Nurgle does not have the speed to react to that cost efficiently, so it could be a play as point 2 goes down. Of course, you don't have to always fight to the death on the point. You can always relocate and hit up a different area.
Yeah, Uncle for Uncle certainly having a jolly time here, guys. Let's take a look at the stats. 809, make him eat my words. I was about to say, from my anecdotal experience, which has been in the past 2 or 3 tournaments, that I've tried to bring him, and he almost never gets over 800 value. But again, in a sweatier tournament environment, there's going to be a lot more missiles to kind of punish him. But yeah, he's getting in there, man. He's fighting. He's doing you guys proud. So we'll see if he breaks the 1,000 mark. We do see our first archer in the back for Samurai Warrior. And I don't think we're seeing more than one archer at the moment. I guess he could Vanguard out some Way Watchers, but it looks like he only brought the Glade Guard here, because I think we would have maybe seen a Way Watcher by now. So the Wood Elves do hold on to their double cap, 332 points to 154. Not a massive lead, but still substantial. And Nurgle is now coming in with a bunch of Nurglings to wrestle Objective 2.
Yeah, and that is going to be capped extremely quickly. The Nurglings, one of the most cost-efficient capture weights in the Nurgle roster.
Yeah.
Aside from, I guess, maybe even with Marauders, except they have Vanguard on top of that. Though the Treekin do hold for a very long time. They've been fighting for basically the whole battle, and still have above 50% HP for all of them.
Yeah.
I think Nurgle might run into issues pushing the Wood Elf home point, but I don't know. How do you feel about this sort of mobile force getting ahead of themselves to fight these Eternal Guard?
Yeah, it's a little bit tricky. I mean, I think Nurgle should play a little bit tighter to the chest here, just kind of sit back and control Objective 2 and 3 instead of extending into the Wood Elf backline, because though they are doing reasonably well there, Samurai is going to be able to get archers up there quickly to start massive value trading. And also, we're going to see Wild Riders and, potentially Stag Knights like he had in his previous army, hammering in and isolating many of these overextended Nurgle units. Meanwhile, the Treekin will fight for quite some time here. What's really nice about Treekin, too, is they do magic damage. So against some of the Nurglings, they can actually, not massive damage, but they can do reasonable work. And Dryka, this is something a lot of people forget because she's not commonly picked. The more beat up she is, the bigger a buff she gives. So she becomes an even more angry tree. And she gives melee attack and base weapons damage, which scales with her missing HP in an AoE radius. So if you look at the Treekin around her right now, they're rocking some pretty serious stats with 36 melee attack, which if Dryka gets even more damaged, is only going to be going up.
It seems like because of that, Nurgle's actually starting to lose the home point pretty quickly, sending in more Nurglings who probably won't trade nearly as well here,
yeah.
But it looks like they will at least be able to hold it.
Yeah, and Uncle for Uncle's still going, man. He heard us making fun of him. He's up to over 1,000. No, he's at 925. So the prophecy still could come true, but he's certainly going to break 1,000 here. As nothing's going to be taking down Uncle for Uncle terribly quickly. He doesn't have natural regeneration, right? He just has healing via his activated ability. Yes.
I believe so. And well, despite the fairly minimal healing, he's actually heal cap, or he's at max HP, so he's barely been taking damage.
Yeah, there's nothing really there that can do effective damage against him. I mean, Dryka does hit kind of hard and does do magic damage, so she can circumvent the physical resist of the demonic units, but typically it's a little bit slow. Now, on the back objective, Objective 1, it looks like Nurgle is putting some ample pressure on that. Wild Rider cycle charging, able to take down the Hounds here. So we do see some Chaos Warhounds of Nurgle getting taken down. Wilded Rangers dispatching Marauders quite easily. And I would wager that they're going to come back onto the point and probably take that down shortly. Archers getting up. So Wood Elves do secure the back objective, and it looks like the side point is going to be taken by Samurai unless Nurgle intervenes very quickly, which I don't think they will, considering they don't have a bank. So objective 3 most likely going to be taken by a Samurai Warrior with some, simple Glade Riders and Dryads on Vanguard right there.
Yeah, I think at this point it really comes down to either the Cultist really bringing it back on that far point, or Uncle Frunkle just going to town. And as I say that, a pretty big hit on Drycha. Down to quarter HP. She's going to be giving 20 melee attack to all the Treekin there. But if she dies, it's a pretty big loss for the Wood Elves.
I think if Samurai has his micro, on point here, he should be able to get away. Just pulling back through his own Treekin. I mean, Drycha certainly has maybe 3 or 4 more hits before she were to go down, so there's plenty of time to react. But yeah, I mean, Treekin, with one of the big weaknesses of Treekin is their damage output, right? But when you see them at 46 melee attack compared to their baseline, which is like in the 20s, that's a really, really substantial difference. And you can actually see Uncle Frunkle starting to take some damage, right? As the Treekin with higher melee attack are actually connecting relatively consistently. So that's really, really kind of a cool tech, not something you see terribly often. Meanwhile, in the backfield, the Wood Elf Cavalry are just running over the Nurgle forces. So the Marauders here just getting absolutely some early Christmas presents from these Reindeer Cavalry as they do get run over. Side objective taken by Dryads. And we see Samurai Warrior close the value gap to only about 700 or 800. And now he's also probably going to be getting a triple cap, which will probably seal the doom for Nurgle, I would say.
Yeah, it's starting to look pretty rough, especially with Funkle taking so much damage. I'd say point number 2 looks like it might even lose to the Treekin. Something that I would not expect to say, but 41 melee attack Treekin actually pretty vicious here.
Yeah.
Even despite the poison effects. And look at that, like the Marauder Horsemen are gone. There's basically no infantry.
Yeah.
It's actually getting captured. And it's just a Beast of Nurgle and Frunkle there. Low ground is captured for the Wood Elves. And although there is a unit of skirmish cavalry to get value, they probably won't be able to steal it away from the Dryads anytime soon.
No, definitely not. Dryads are an exceptional unit at taking down Nurglings. Granted, Nurglings do give it back with their magic damage, but Dryads with their magic damage against the Nurglings, 0 armor, and I guess their HP pool isn't bad, but Dryads will take them apart very quickly. Glade Riders, the Spears, actually have reasonably good shock damage with a charge bonus of 40 as well, so they should be able to nullify the Horsemen and or push back those Chaos Warhounds, so Samurai would really, really kind of have to throw in terms of micro on the low ground to lose that point based on what I'm seeing there. Now, if like a Chaos Warrior with shields had been sent up to that point, it could have been something he could accrue over time. It looks like Nurgle is, yeah, look at Frunkle, man. He's getting dragged down by the Treekin here. Yeah, that melee attack buff is no joke.
Okay, much more importantly, though, his value. He's all the way up to 1,600.
Oh, man. Oh, I was just schooled.
You might get 2,000. You might actually get 2,000, though. I think he'll land just under.
I don't think it's going to happen. Demonic Crumbling is actually fair and balanced, unlike Undead Crumbling. So he is going to go down super quick. I mean, Demonic Crumbling does 132 to 264 damage a second, whereas Undead Crumbling does like 20 to 30 or something, 20 to 40?
Actually, about half of that. It's crazy. Yeah, on average, 15.
Yeah, it's a big difference. So when demons crumble, it's no joke.
Yeah.
Though, correct me if I'm wrong, you may know this. You're very into the analytics and numbers and kind of, gears behind the scenes. But when a human unit or a mortal unit breaks off an objective, whilst they're on the objective, they do not have capture weight, correct? Whereas undead units, even when they're broken, and demons still do have their capture weight on objectives, right?
Yeah. It matters a lot less for demons since they go away pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But for undead, it is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. You need to really design your build around either fighting them off the point or just severely out-trading them if you want to actually control the points and not get bogged down.
Certainly so, my friend, certainly so. Looks like the triple cap is on the horizon as the Wood Elves unleash their full fury. Uncle Frunkle, the metaphorical mascot here for Nurgle, he's going to be going back to the Garden of Nurgle and planting some trees, so don't you worry, he will be doing our charity stream proud today. And Drycha and Durthu, the 2 tree characters, have come in today, and both have claimed the W. So Wood Elves looking to be a pretty strong favorite in this tournament, I would say, as they close out this match versus Nurgle. So the next match, most likely, going to be Beastmen versus Lizardmen. I guess it has to be. And you guys, of course, will be voting on who plays what. And again, apologies for the lag. It should be resolved in the next game. Again, it's kind of just random depending on where the players are from. We actually tested before, and we didn't have any lag really, but sometimes things change when you get 4 people or different sets of people in lobbies, but we will do our best to make sure the lag is resolved before the next game. But again, I don't see any way for Nurgle to come back here, do you?
I'd say probably not. Let's see, with 750 in the bank, honestly, with the Treekin, I don't think there's a lot of great answers for them. Nothing that's fast enough to steal back points, that is. So, like, you know, Chaos Warrior Great Weapons would have been good if they were brought out much earlier, but anything fast would definitely go down to these guys. Magic damage to kill off things like Nurglings. Crazy high armor, so Marauders can't really do too much. I think they've got it in the bag.
Yeah, looks like it. I mean, the cultist of Nurgle is still alive, but ironically, it looks like his healing has kept him above the threshold for being able to summon the Plague Bearer, so he's just kind of trapped in this eternal purgatory of not being useful in that back objective. And yeah, it looks like Nurgle making it a desperate attempt to go to the side objective. Elkai's going to be summoning in a bunch of horsemen here. So we do have horsemen on either side, as well as a dual marauder. But Dryads, again, should be able to hold that well. You can see they're already doing very good at holding back multiple units. And Samurai Warrior can really just hyper-focus on the side point and just spam in cavalry, any number of other things. He has 1,200 in the bank in supplies, so probably could be a Wild Rider at this point. I would wager he's going to send something very, very quick over there.
Yeah, great against the Marauders. Very low armor, not a problem.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Wood Elves, as far as their matchups with the next round opponents, we've said that Wood Elves versus Lizardmen is a relatively even matchup. Wood Elves versus Beastmen is actually, I think, one of the most exciting matchups in the game. Both factions are very fast. They're also thematic enemies as well. They both like to hang out in the forests and kind of party a little bit, so that could be a cool one as well in the grand finals. All matches today are going to be best of 3, and we will also have FFAs. We'll, of course, touch base with the players and see if you want to do the FFA, considering some of the connection stuff, but we will check in with that as the horsemen do push. But yeah, wouldn't be surprised to see Elkai tap out here in a minute. He's completely lost objectives 1 and 2, and objective 3 looks like it's just moments away from the last of his forces being crushed.
Yeah, pretty brutal loss. Losing the ranged fight and losing the melee fight immediately after. Though, honestly, a Kugath here would have been insane with that Mortis engine.
Yeah, he kind of got mind-gamed a little bit too, because, like, you know, Samurai went with his nasty missile triple Way Watcher, so he's like, okay, I'm going to go wide and just not give him any good targets, and then suddenly it's a mass tree rush. So the mind games from Samurai were very, very strong, whereas I think if Elkai had brought his first build that he brought in game 1 against this build, he would have won for sure, I think. He had the Warriors, he had the Horsemen, he had, like, the Soul Grinder. Festus, of course, would have been able to Mortis engine down the Dryads. The Treekin may have still been problematic. I don't think he had a lot to deal with that, but yeah, Nurgle, basically in desperation mode, just kind of summoning out Furies and units like that. And again, like we talked about last game, you know, we see people summoning out pure skirmishers and dive units in the late game when they're behind. It's basically a sign that all has come to an end.
Yeah. The Zotes actually get summoned for the Wood Elves. How do you feel about Zotes? I feel like...
Yeah.
It feels like they should be good. It feels like they have everything that they would need to be great, you know, anti-large, armor-piercing mobility with spells.
Yeah.
But why is it that we never see Zotes, except for when Wood Elves are 2,000 points in the lead?
Yeah, you would think Zotes would be good against some of the Wood Elf natural issues, right? So if you look at Wood Elf matchups, they tend to struggle versus, like, heavy shot cavalry. They've always struggled against Bretonnian heavy cav, Knights of the Blazing Sun. Kislev gives them similar problems as well. And you would think that Zotes would be the kind of theoretical counter. Maybe it's that people haven't explored them enough, but perhaps it's also the fact that they don't have super high armor. Like at 60 armor, they can still take a lot of damage from shock charges and, like, cheap enemy archers and things like that. But I mean, Flesh to Stone, with its changes of just giving physical resist, I mean, 60% damage resistance against physical really isn't bad. And Earthbloods are, of course, just amazing. Healing in general is very, very good. But yeah, I don't really know what the causation is as to why Zotes aren't picked. But Wood Elves in general, I think, are very, very set in their ways. They certainly like their Glade Rider or Glade Archer spam, as well as Eternal Guard and Dryads and whatnot. But I don't know. You would think Zotes would be cool, but they just they usually don't do terribly well. Although they are killing the cultists here, but it's not really a fair fight.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know either. It is so strange. Such a perfect unit that just
yeah.
I don't know, something about them. They just never pay for themselves. I think you're onto something about their squishiness though. 60 armor. Yeah. They generally in their preferable fight they tend to take a bit too much damage. And then for whatever reason, Flesh to Stone doesn't save them. Yeah, it is only 19 seconds, and people know about my opinions on buff spells, so...
Yeah, I mean, your opinions are correct and valid, and I agree with you. I mean, typically, if you look at the history of Total War Warhammer competitive, multiplayer in general, direct damage spells have always been the defining catalyst of the meta, whether it's Spirit Leech or, direct healing spells for the same reason. It's just direct guaranteed value, whereas, buff spells are situational, they're easily avoidable, the duration isn't long enough to equate the amount of damage you're typically getting from direct damage spells. I mean, you did an excellent video articulating that, if I'm not mistaken. So if you guys want to check that out, head on over to Anticity's channel. But yeah, it's just always been that way. Spirit Leech, Burning Head, Pit of Shades, Dwellers Below. It's always direct damage spells that define the meta, right?
Yeah, for sure. Although it has shifted a little bit more with the nerfs to AoE spells in the change to Warhammer 3.
Did you ever play Warhammer 1? Were you a Warhammer 1 guy?
I never played multiplayer, but the stories are terrifying if you want to dive into those.
Oh, yeah, dude. Those are the wild times. So back in Warhammer 1, there was no healing cap, okay? So basically, if you were playing, had a Mortis engine or vampire counts, and, you could just infinitely heal your army, no cap. Also, summon units in multiplayer did not despawn. So basically, if you summoned a zombie, it's on the field the entire time. So you'd see people coming in with, triple vampire caster of some sort, necromancers, and they would basically be getting 20 plus additional zombies in their army, over the course of a battle. And, Morker summoned 4 Chaos Spawn permanently, so every Beastmen player was getting 4,000 extra value in their army just by bringing Morker. It was, those are wild times, man. Wild times. We've come a long way.
I didn't realize he had 4.
It was 2 and 2.
He just had extra charges?
It was 2 and 2. He had 2 of each of those abilities. So 2 of the Spirit Essence of Chaos and 2 of the Staff of Corruption. It was brutal, man. It was brutal.
That's terrifying. Were Beastmen top of the meta?
Yeah, they were very strong when Morker came out. He was the one anchor though, because they weren't exceptionally strong in any other regard. But that was back, and there was a lot of things that were different back then. Greatswords were also considered good back then before they got power crept by all these other superior infantry. Greatsword Demogryph Knight was actually kind of meta back then. That was a scary combo that people dreaded. Greatsword Demogryph Knight, Earthblood, blobs with all that sort of stuff. It was wild, man. But yeah, Nurgle's still scrapping. I mean, hey, shout out to Elkai there. He got that side objective back. Pure persistence and determination in the face of defeat. He's able to get that side point. But the Wood Elves have officially claimed victory. Samurai Warrior with a 2-0. And with that, the forest, the trees, have smote the lag from this tournament. Potentially. We don't know which one is causing the lag, but we'll have to see how the next match goes, for sure.
Yeah, and I'm pretty excited. It's going to be Beastmen against the forces of the Lizardmen. Now, this used to be pretty Lizardmen favored due to the heavy monster. Sort of not spam, but just in general, Beastmen don't really outduel the larger monsters of the Lizardmen.
Yeah, it's hard. I would say the rock, paper, scissors of it is very tricky, right? Because Lizardmen infantry, in my experience, outtrade Beastmen infantry. Beastmen, of course, can bring some viable anti-large with the Gorgon, the Bloodbrute Behemoth, Gorbals, but then Lizardmen have that Chameleon Skink backup shooting, which can really drag down big Beastmen targets. So it becomes a little bit precarious. But again, sorry about the lag, guys. Hopefully it won't be there in the next series. We'll do our best to avoid any of those situations. And that is going to be a 2-0 victory for Samurai Warrior. Getting the W for the Wood Elves, man, which I think is very thematic for today, for sure. They're the most eco-friendly faction, so yeah, I would say Wood Elves, they got to be doing well. And I like the Treekin build. Wasn't that cool? The tech with the Treekin with Draika's buffs? That was pretty wild. I mean, Frunkel ended up helping the Wood Elves win the game, I think.
I think that was huge. Treekin usually don't do that much damage.
Yeah.
So it's almost the perfect buff for them. And we saw that Treekin they killed Frunkel.
Yeah.
Against all odds, so maybe something to try out.
What other matchups could that be good in, right? We have so Treekin buffed by Draika, but the thing is, Draika usually isn't going to be taking that kind of damage, so her buffs wouldn't be quite as nasty. Furunkel really, even though he did exceed his value estimates, at least mine, he did end up helping the Wood Elves by beating up Draika a little bit, and then she obviously got enraged, and I think that was the causation for Nurgle losing that back objective, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was
if she had died there, though, right? Because there's so many factions that could just throw down an extra Spirit Leech and she's doomed. So
yeah, I mean, if Elkai had brought in his other caster and it had Spirit Leech, I mean, Draika's gone, and then suddenly maybe Nurgle wins that game. Elkai played very well. I mean, Samurai is like a very strong player. I mean, he obviously memes a bit, but he's got tournament caliber, control for sure. So Elkai did a very good job contesting those games with him, especially considering he was on, the rough end of the matchup.
Yeah. I think it was like his builds. His builds are great. It's mostly just it's just a Wood Elf thing. Nurgle, of course, walking. And I guess if these guys are making their builds and people are choosing the factions, we can actually look at Nurgle, who's 3% lower than the next faction above them, Kislev, at the 24% win rate. Actually lower than I thought.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that. I mean, I think Kislev has really good roots, though. That's the thing about Kislev is like, fundamentally, like their army passive is so good, right? You have like this crazy unbreakable trait. Their units are very stalwart. They kind of have their own variant of the Lothern Sea Guard, really good cheap skirmish cavalry. Like I feel like when Kislev gets like a DLC or two, they're suddenly going to become very, very ferocious. I mean, just imagine if they got like a couple more units to kind of give them some variants to their builds and things like that. I think that would be decent for sure. So let's go ahead and get into the next lobby here. So we are going to do, I guess, the next best of 3, just to mitigate the chances of lag. And of course, today we'll still be ending with a FFA. So are we doing a new lobby?
Yes. I'll send you the code.
Sounds good, brother. So here are the brackets for today. Game 1 has been won by the dreaded Samurai Warrior. And now we're going to be moving on to the bottom side for Arkcard versus Loremaster of Sotek. So votes will be opening up very, very soon. And again, today's stream is a charity stream. Creative Assembly has collaborated with Ecosia on this tournament to help combat deforestation by financing planting sites around the globe where they are needed most. So if you guys want any details, there is a bot in chat which is giving you guys all the details for today's charity. So thank you guys for joining. And, oh, look at this. Oh, man, the vote's up. So currently, we are voting on who is going to be playing the Lizardmen. Is it going to be Arkcard or Loremaster of Sotek? Are you guys going to be trolling Sotek and forcing him to play the Beastmen? That would actually be very funny, not to put my bias in it, but that would be pretty hilarious. All right, let's get this going. All right, so finding the lobby.
I saw the vote go up, but I think it got ended prematurely.
Yeah,
and it tied 1-1.
Okay, it looks like it's up now. I think,
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, War of the Woods lobby.
Great, it just want to play Lizardmen.
That would be really funny though if if it was he had to play Beastmen. Yeah, we'll find out.
Looks like man, Sotek.
Yeah, I mean we all knew they would vote for him. So yeah. No surprises here.
All right.
No surprises.
Yeah, chat knows what's up. All right, so this should be interesting. Sotek actually has been hosting quite a few of his tournaments lately.
Yeah.
Some of his Warhammer tabletop themed tournaments on Total Tavern. That is a site that you actually made or commissioned to be made for tournaments. And I would expect him to actually be pretty vicious here today if he's playing as his faction main.
Not only is he playing his faction main, but he's also playing in a matchup in which he's probably pretty favored. So I think Lizardmen, the Beastmen can win this, but it requires some seriously sweaty micro, in my experience. Like the Beastmen have to just be like playing in a pool of sweat and just like high APM, incredible decision making. Like Lizardmen can kind of just like do the dreaded mouth breathing approach where they just kind of like move a big blob of like monsters and heal them, and it's really tough to deal with. Whereas Beastmen gotta be going pretty hard in the paint for sure. Yeah. So we'll see here. One sec. Let's pull this up. We can actually look at the stats as well. By the way, if you guys want to see tournament stats, Anticity and I can review some of those. So we can actually look at this matchup specifically. So here are tournament stats that we have. So these are faction statistics for every single matchup in all the tournaments that we've hosted in the community. So looking firstly at the Wood Elves. Wood Elves have, what is their win rate? Not Wood Elves. Beastmen have what win rate versus Lizardmen? Let's see. Okay, looking here. Okay, so, actually not bad. It's a 5-6 record, so it hasn't been played too much, but it looks like it's almost a 50-50. Would you have expected that?
Between Wood Elves and Lizardmen?
Yeah, no, Beastmen and Lizardmen. It's actually like a 50-50. Yeah.
Ha.
It's only 11 games, though. It's only 11 games. It's a small sample size, right?
It's larger than most.
Yeah.
Usually there's like, it ends at 6 games or even 3 games for some of these matchups.
Yeah.
I'd say Man, that's just strange. It's fairly uncommon though, since both are fairly out of the meta.
Yeah.
But I'm really surprised. I feel like Beastmen really do rely on their ability to flank the Lizardmen to do well. But
Yeah.
we did see towards the end of Warhammer 2 where like Torok's sort of chariot build started to punch a hole there. So maybe that's it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that could work for sure. I mean, and again, these stats are from tournaments, so they're not from like more casual play. So this could certainly change things up. Granted, I think Sotek's going to go for the kill for sure. As far as Lizardmen versus Wood Elves go, it looks like Lizardmen have been losing to Wood Elves with a 38% win rate there. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see the change up. I mean, it seems like the matchups are close enough that it shouldn't be like super rough. No, oh my god, Nurgle's record is so brutal right now. 16 wins and 51 losses. Oh, that's rough, dude.
Yeah.
Nurgle literally has like 2 factions that they have like a positive win rate against.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Wait, let's see. Okay, well, High Elves.
It's only 3 games though, so it doesn't really count even. Oh man, poor Nurgle's just in the pits of hell, man. Oh, that's so rough.
50-50 against Norse, right? That's something they can be proud of.
Yeah.
At least, Norska's pretty meta, but I also did a little bit of an extra stat lookup. Just to be fair to the Beastmen. If they do manage to beat the Lizardmen here, they're rocking a solid 13% win rate against the Wood Elves.
Oh my goodness.
So I feel like Wood Elves, they're probably the menace in this tournament.
Yeah. Lizardmen are probably the best answer to them. Most likely, because they can just spam shielded infantry and like rev crystals to heal through a lot of the DPS, right? Rev crystals are so good, I feel, right? Like, man, how much do they heal? I think it's when a rev crystal is activated on a unit, you might know the math more specifically, but correct me if I'm wrong. It's 10% of a unit's total HP every single time you use a rev crystal charge, yeah?
Yeah, and 7 uses, which is basically, that's enough to heal cap anything.
It's crazy. Especially on like a Dread Saurian, right? Like if Sotek just comes in with like a Slan, like a Dread Saurian and double Rev Crystal, do you know how hard that's going to be for Arkcard to deal with? Man, that is going to be brutal. Like, just so much healing on those big dinos.
Yeah, and like, really, like Ungor Raiders, no way they're punching through a Dread Saurian. Not with, 100 armor?
Yeah.
So they're resisting 75% of the damage of the Ungor Raiders and 15,000 HP. Basically indestructible. So you have to bring the axe throwers, and then axe throwers get countered by a multitude of Lizardmen ranged.
Yeah. I guess it has to be the axe throwers, or I don't hate Bloodroot Behemoth. At least that thing has some sustainability. Like it can heal itself a little bit in combat. It's not like an amazing heal, but even still, the Dread Saurian gives it right back to the Bloodroot. I mean, the Dread Saurian 750 weapon strength doesn't really care about anti-large or anti-infantry. It just hits super, super hard. And then in tandem with that, Lizardmen can bring a ton of supplemental buffs, like, you could have Mazdamundi with Apotheosis, Shield of the Old Ones going down, Net of Amnitok to lock down enemy monsters and just goon them. Like, Lizardmen definitely seem to have the edge as far as monster master tools go. But how do you think Beastmen have been beating Lizards in the games that they have? Just kind of like Torok's, like Chariot play? Because Beastmen could totally win the flank engagements. If Lizards go for like a big kind of mouth-breathing blob fight, I think you could really see like just heavy flank play from the Beastmen coming in. Although, man, look at that. It's like a Bestigor rush with Spawn. No caster. Oh, boy.
No caster. There's a Morgar the Shadow gave. And also no Minobus, sadly.
Morgar. He's like the man-bear pig of this game. Yeah, he's okay here. I mean, Spawn summons aren't bad in SEM fights, and considering Sotek went with like a wider build to catch his opponent off guard, a Spawn summon on top of like Skanks will be effective. And Sotek also brought some, I would say uncommon picks in the Chameleon Stalkers. But they both brought super off-meta stuff. You would expect the Beastmen to be the wider ones, right? But they came in with a very elite build with no caster. I would wager he has one in reserves, though. Maybe like a Deathcaster or something. You would really, really want that against dinos.
You never know. The oft-forgotten caster.
Yeah.
Very much more common even at high-level play than you would expect.
Yeah, people do forget. I'll go over the Beastmen army real quick, my friend. We'll hand you over the dinos. And for the Beastmen army, it's going to be Bestigor Herd. So the school of thought here is that these Bestigors, of course, have 95 armor. So if you're looking at things like Saurus and Skink cohorts, which are pretty common troop choices, and or Temple Guard, Bestigors in theory should trade okay against most of them. Granted, the problem with Bestigors, in my anecdotal experience, is that they have very low melee defense and they're very vulnerable against even basic dinosaurs like Bastillodons with their low stats and, you know, obviously that type of stuff. Spawn, of course, give nice buffering, okay at pinning down big monsters. Bloodbrute is a good anti-large beat, kind of beatdown character, and Morkor the Shadow Gave. You know, he's durable. Spawn summons aren't bad, but what do you think here of this lizard army?
It's pretty interesting. It's a lot of skinks. I think that is the most standout feature immediately. Some chameleons, but also not just chameleon skinks, chameleon stalkers. A pretty rare unit. They do have their sort of explosive missiles, and while it says it does 67 damage, it's very selective where it does a lot. As it is explosive type damage, it's actually quite good against very large targets, I've found. So you can potentially snipe the Bloodbrute Behemoth. Yeah, it actually does way worse against infantry than you'd expect.
Yeah.
But lots of red cresteds, which is an interesting choice. Maybe attack against. Actually, you know, it's actually almost perfect for the Bestigor herds. A nice pick there. And Colossedons. So actually going for more of a. This build's actually, it seems almost perfectly built for what the Beastmen have right now, as the Beastmen can't really make the best use out of the big fighters, and the Lizardmen with sort of their wider lines will have an easier time charging the large targets like the Bloodbrute.
Yep, 100%. I do like the Colossedon Hunter pick if they're able to kind of isolate the big dino. And also their armor piercing is pretty good against Bestigors if they can get a rear charge. Here on the flank, we do have a little bit of a skirmish. Chameleon Stalkers versus the Goreherds with shields. Goreherds should win that trade. And the first big Air Force duel is upon us, although I think it's more of a massacre here as the Harpies are taken apart. Doesn't Tic Tac give dual, buffs to aerial units as well?
He definitely has some nasty buffs, but it looks like, at least on this tic-tac-toe, no crazy buffs. Though the Skink Priests of Heavens, anytime they cast, it's massive. There's no way Beastmen take the air fight here.
Yeah, flank engagement goes very heavily to the Lizards. Granted, in the middle, it looks like the Beastmen are going to be trading reasonably well. We do see what appears to be some sort of a Comet Cassandora coming down. Yeah, nice dodge there. So Arkcard able to dodge that, but Lizardmen are being kind of folded up in the middle. They committed very heavily to the sides, and obviously the Beastmen have a very kind of static army that's going to be kind of fighting as a big blob in one position. But Sotek can totally play this game by playing the sides as well. If he just wants to hold on to Objective 3 and Objective 1, I mean, he's going to be certainly sitting back and enjoying his best life. And I think with a character like Tehenowin and all these relatively squishy units that you want to be isolating things with, like Colossedon Hunters, playing the side points is going to be his go-to here.
Yeah, and if I'm correct, I'm pretty sure this is a full tic-tac-toe, or what's it? Yeah, this is a full tic-tac-toe themed army. It's a massive air squad with a million skinks and not a single Saurus in sight. I think Sotek is fully committed to this theme.
Yeah, he's staying in the flavor of it. And honestly, it's not terrible. You know, he, like you said, he had many of the tools to deal with his opponent's army. Chameleon Skinks, I would imagine, will be summoned shortly. We do see the first batch of Chameleon Skinks coming out on the eastern side of the battlefield here, which are doing good damage against the Chaos Spawn. Obviously, a very natural counter. We see Skaven do the same thing with Skaven Slave Slingers and Night Runners to kind of deal with Chaos Spawn. So very, very clean stuff there. Objective 3 is going to be taken by the Lore Master of Sotek. Objective 1 as well. And this is where it gets a little bit dicey for the Beastmen because they have to start splitting up their army to play multiple sides because they can't just sit on one point and win. So this is going to be kind of on Sotek here to see if he can isolate this big, scary Beastmen blob and get picks here and there and then maintain his value.
He definitely has some good tools. He is vastly more mobile than the Beastmen right now.
Yeah.
And he has just skinks, chameleon skinks everywhere to punish them in whichever direction they decide to go in.
Yeah, I mean, basically the entire Beastmen army is pretty weak against Chameleon Skinks. I mean, yes, Bestigors do have armor to mitigate some of their damage, but even still, it does add up against them. We do see some Chaos Poison Warhounds coming out for Arkcard, looking to chase down some of the annoying quick units here of the Lore Master of Sotek. But we'll see if the Beastmen can maintain or get the high ground objective and like anchor some tanky units there and then just kind of play those two. They're certainly not that behind in value. I mean, it's 3,400 to 26 right now, so the game is pretty darn close in terms of just pure value trading.
Oh, it does get a little bit worse, though, with the pick on the spawns near point number 3. So that basically means Beastmen are fully committed to point number 1 now. And oh my gosh, Coatl summon. I don't think I've seen a Coatl since its DLC. Look at that.
Yeah, that's like a rare spawn for sure. I mean, what do they even do? So the Coatl has an ability that makes things invisible under it. It also has a Chain Lightning and Uranen's Thunderbolt. Okay, so this is kind of cool. Applications against Beastmen. It is an armor-piercing monster against Bestigors. Relatively weak against the Spawn and the Blood Brute, but its bombardments also can help to clear Beastmen infantry with good casts and obviously a lapse in micro of your opponent. Top objective taken by Beastmen, so Beastmen do have a double cap right now, and Sotek definitely needs to get some chaff onto objective number 2 and wrestle that because obviously the points are still pretty close, and yeah, everything is just kind of close in this game. And Beastmen do have healing too. The Blood Brute Behemoth is going to be healing as it's in combat, so that will help to kind of mitigate some of the value that was accrued against it.
I think I see a chance for Beastmen to come back.
Yeah.
The Minotaur summon in the distance for the Beastmen. Minotaur great weapons too. Basically, they're a glass cannon unit, but so are the Ripperdactyls. I think if the Beastmen can nail a solid charge onto those Ripperdactyls or possibly the Coatl, they could make a vicious comeback here. I think that's the main play that they have to focus on right now.
Oh, it's gonna be so hard though. So Tech has all these, Pterodon riders up in the sky, which are just like darting down all these different units. As far as the ground-based forces go for the dinos, there are a couple Chameleon Skinks. He's got his Heavens Caster kind of hiding in the bushes over there. And yeah, you can see the Beastmen army. The Bestigors just proving why they are the great swords of the Beastmen. They just randomly break and don't do much. And yeah, I mean, Colossodon Hunters definitely going to be pretty happy here, getting a nice rear charge onto the Blood Brute Behemoth. And where are the Minotaurs? Looks like they're coming in to engage against the Pterodon Riders on the ground here.
Yeah, AoE does Pit of Shades, actually, to catch out the Pterodons. Now, the Minotaur charge, they get the Pterodons down. But it seems like the Ripperdactyls will be safe. In fact, even that Pit of Shades honestly hurting the Minotaurs a bit. Yeah. A little bit unfortunate for them. But, oh my gosh, another one on the far side to chase off the Skinks off point number 3.
Yeah.
I don't know. This could swing.
Minotaur great weapons just aren't a great inclusion here. I mean, obviously against dinos, I understand the philosophy of bringing them in general, but against Sotek's army, which is just so skink focused, Minotaurs are just such a vulnerable thing against like Chameleon Skink Focus Fire, against Pterodons, and just so many of the different units they have. Even just putting like a Haggard unit of like cohort into Minotaurs, like, isn't it going to be the most cost-effective trade for them? We can see the Blood Brute Behemoth actually very, very low in health, as Sotek is putting some pretty consistent fire with the Powhawks and Sentinels into them. Where did the Pterodon Riders go? Oh, it looks like Colossodon Hunters did kind of get wrecked there. Sotek only has a 1,400 value lead now, much of which, of course, could be mitigated with the healing on the Blood Brute Behemoth.
Yeah, and the Minos, they have routed off the Skinks on the far side. I feel like we just haven't been giving them enough credit.
Yeah.
They did get buffed recently to be significantly cheaper. Chameleon Skinks are shattered on the far side now. Although it looks like the Blood Brute Behemoth will be going down. Extremely low on HP now, so it really is only on the Minos.
And if Sotek starts to spam out cheap infantry too, the Minotaurs are going to be so much less effective. And like you said, if Blood Brute dies, which it just did, oh man, that bad boy got karate chopped. There's no chance to reaccrue that value via healing, really.
Yeah, it's oh man, it's just such a heavy swing from a unit that costs 400 gold, no less. Oh man, what is the value on this skink cohort? Yeah, they paid for themselves.
Oh yeah,
brutal.
The cheap infantry are just, I mean, in the Bestigors of course will be able to defeat skinks, but they're just very vulnerable. Even like a Coatl is going to be pretty good against Bestigors. Bestigors have melee defense like in the 20s, which is pretty painful. Sotek going to be grabbing objective 1 up on the high ground, chasing off the last remnants of those Warhounds. On the side, we do see a very expensive objective holder via the Minotaurs with great weapons, which will probably maneuver over to the middle right now. But again, then Sotek can just send some skinks over to the side. Oh no, we didn't capture the point. Oh, that's rough.
Ooh,
so that objective 3 is going to stay with the dinos, which is going to be a huge setback, and it looks like Sotek actually manages to hold on to the middle as well.
Yeah, and I guess that is a triple cap. That is a triple cap on the Beastmen now. Now, middle will go down, but a full HP Coatl is an absolute menace. Terror for the Beastmen in general is always one of their weaker points for sure. So unless they have something crazy to take that out, it's going to be an uphill battle.
100%, brother. 100%.
Future.
Skink cohort javelins too. I mean, their javelin DPS is going to be quite exceptional here. The difference between Beastmen Minotaurs and Khorne Minotaurs is pretty substantial. Khorne Minotaurs do have 70 plus armor, whereas the Beastmen ones only have 35, so they're much more vulnerable against this type of action. Looks like a Thunderbolt going down. Pitishades attempt to miss on the cohort there. Didn't do too much damage. Best cohorts might get into melee here, but we can see Lore Master of Totek pulling a really big value lead as the Desperation Harpies do begin to come out here.
The Harpies, really good at getting to a point very quickly. Probably not the best at trading. Although this situation is basically as good as it gets with the Ripperdactyls out of the question. We'll see how well they do against the Skinks. If they do get a full surround, they will actually do pretty decently there, I think.
Yeah, no, they're not bad. I mean, Harpies battling against Pterodons is pretty cost effective, especially like the Palhawks of Sentinels, as we do see here on the other side. And you know what's actually not a terrible tech is Harpies against like Colossedon Hunters if you can get them in like an isolated fight because they are an anti-large unit and Harpies are infantry size. It's still not like amazing, but if you get like 2 Harpies on a Colossedon Hunter, it might not be a bad trade. Another big strength of the dinos that we do often see in tournament play is that the chameleons, or not chameleons, but skink units in general, are not considered expendable units. Therefore, they have the maximum amount of capture weight, and they have 40 plus speed, so they can get to objectives and actually take them very, very quickly with their capture weight. As we do see a little bit of a fight, Minotaurs and Harpies battling the dreaded horde of skinks here of Sotek, but Sotek going to be getting there with reinforcements pretty quickly. Big combat of Cassandora in the middle, and do you think the Beastmen will take the side point here?
Yeah, and it's a lot of point trading, like you said. The Lizardmen is one of the faster capture weight factions in the game. Oh, and look at that. Oh, maybe a dodge. Now a Pit of Shades does land, killing off most of the skinks, but it's looking a little bit sketchy. Do you think there's a, in your opinion, what would be the best tool here for Beastmen to pull it back? Because there are a lot of skinks. But they have also single entities to kill.
You know what the Beastmen need are like some shielded infantry. Like if they were able to get some like gore herds with shields out, like that could. I mean, I think at this point it's a little bit too late. I think Sotek has maintained a pretty substantial value lead. The Beastmen casters on death's bed here being attacked by the Quaddle. Tic-tac-toe is raining tyranny from the skies. Side objective Minotaurs with great weapons are losing against basic skink cohorts. So probably at this point, unless Sotek had some colossal blunders, like threw away his lord, threw away the Quaddle, I don't see too many avenues for the Beastmen to come back, especially considering we do see Colossedon Hunters now back out, as well as another Ripperdactyl. The 2-for-1 summon, but I think at the beginning, how could you possibly know this? But just after hindsight being taken into account, like, yeah, Goreherds with shields would have wrecked most of those skink infantry. Sotek didn't bring any Bastillodons, nothing, right?
Yeah, no, he went full on air squad with skinks. He committed hard to the theme of his build today.
And the mind gaming of it was really good too, right? Like that's very clever because yeah, everybody you're playing a faction with T-Rexes and Triceratops and all sorts of cool dinosaurs. So people are going to be expecting that. That is the meta. Like typically there's Rev Crystals at least. Some sort of stuff like that. Maybe a very wide SARS skink build, but yeah, like literally mass skinks with like Air Force and tic-tac-toe, that is very, very hard to predict. And that's one of the cool things about the multiplayer in this game is the meta can be defied by bringing things that are really kind of, wild like this.
Yeah, and with so many factions, that's actually one of the great things about Warhammer. You do get to sort of just explore the meta. It hasn't been fully figured out.
Yeah.
Although I guess the top factions have been, but if we're talking matchups like this, there's definitely a lot of space to sort of show off your builds.
100%.
And
100%.
Minotaurs. Place your bets. Do you think the Colossedons win against them?
Oh yeah. I mean, the thing is the Colossedons got the charge too, so the Minotaurs don't get their charge bonus, like coming from the air, and they also have the Toad Rage ability, which puts them up to 200 plus weapon strength, which is pretty bananas. Yeah. Granted, some of the Chaos Warhounds are actually getting some good DPS in the Ripperdactyls there, but yeah, looking around, it's basically the death row. Yeah, the Beastmen are on death's bed here, sending in some shielded gore herds, which is a little bit too late. We do have Terror from the Quaddle. Looks like a nice wind spell. Wind Blast going down there on the Vestigores, doing some topical damage. But yeah, Morker is doing what Morker does. The reason why he's so good in land battles is because it takes like 3 hours to kill him. But here in domination mode, you can win on points. And it looks like that is going to be the case as the Lizards are not only ahead by about 3,000 plus value, but also do have the triple cap here. I would imagine Arkcard here will be tapping out here in just a moment. Or just kind of, giving his all in this last minute fight. But yeah, nice, cool build by Sotek. It'll be cool to see what they do in game 2. Like, I'm curious how both players will adjust.
Actually, the Minotaurs, they actually traded evenly there despite getting charged.
Oh wow.
I wouldn't be surprised to see more Minos. I feel like they actually did really good this game.
Yeah, they didn't do bad considering it wasn't even like an optimal setup for them. And I wonder if we could see from Arkcard if he could come in and just do like the exact same build and see if Sotek like mind games himself into switching builds. That's kind of like the cat and mouse of like a best of 3. We see that in other RTS games, right? And like classic RTS titles that only have like 3 or 4 factions, for example. You see them play like a best of 10 with the same faction or civilization faction over and over, right? You don't see that often in Total War. In Total War, it's almost always a different matchup every single time in competitive play, right? So it's really interesting to actually see that, like them changing builds or staying on the same build, maybe a slight modification. What do you think is going to happen?
See, I think due to the sort of this being a more sort of friendly tournament,
yeah,
I think we would likely see different builds. But I have played in many a faction war where, or I've seen many where people just bring in literally the exact same thing, just to try and throw off their opponent.
Yeah, I think that makes sense for Sotek too, since he is already up 1-0 in the series. He's got the first W. Like, he can afford to take more of a risk in bringing the same kind of build that worked for him. Obviously, the fear is on his opponent here, but it looks like Sotek did bring some dinos in his reinforcements. He had a Stegodon, but didn't end up bringing that bad boy in. For Arkcard, wow, look at that. He had double giants in reserve. Okay, so outside of the Bestigors, he really did not have much infantry.
Yeah. And the scores, if I remember their values, it's pretty low, right? Sub 500 for all of them.
Bestigor is actually 1,000 on one and 1493 on the other. However, I think they were summoned twice. I think a couple of them got summoned twice, so maybe their value on average would be like maybe 750 for one, and for the other one about 500. So I think your prediction is correct.
Yeah. Though I will say I'm a huge fan of the Minos, especially with how much cheaper they are now. Like at 1,200, they cost about the same as Vestigors, only like a slight markup.
And they're so much better.
Yeah, it's like a whole new unit was added to the game.
Yeah, Bestigors are just kind of like in that same territory, in my opinion, as like greatswords. I think they're a little bit better than greatswords because their damage, like the charge and their output's a little bit more consistent. But yeah, they just like get folded so quickly. Like, I feel like baseline Beastmen troops, like just Goreherd shields, whatever, would have maybe gotten a similar amount of value against the Skinks. I guess Bestigors will outtrade a Saurus Warrior, but I feel like it wouldn't be by that much, despite the fact that they cost like, what, 200 more, give or take?
Yeah, usually if you're barely out trading a unit in your perfect situation, it's pretty bad because they run into so many other counters.
Yeah.
Most of the time you want units that, like, in their perfect situation, they will do amazing.
Yeah.
Like, if you're talking about like skirmish cavalry, right? In their perfect situation, they pay for themselves like 2 or 3 times over.
Yeah, definitely.
And Bestigors are like, you have to be trying real hard to like find places where they do well.
Yeah. So. Man. Do you think greatswords would be good if they cost fair if they cost 800? Like, I feel like that wouldn't even be a big deal, right?
Oh yeah. Because everyone runs halberds right now.
Yeah.
Greatswords can totally get a buff. There's a lot of in general, there's a lot of units that could use like a pick me up. Like bloated corpses.
Oh yeah, the bloats. Of course, you being the pirate king, the Lord of the Vampire Coast would like that. What would you do to bloats? Would you make them cost less?
Oh, if CA could design a new ability, I would make it an activated ability and give them more HP.
Nice. Oh, that'd be
that would be so good. But I bet it's some like AI thing. That's my theory on why we haven't seen that. So
yeah,
make them cost like 200 and they would be meta. Make them cost 300 and I think meme builds could viably run them.
What do they cost right now? Aren't they like 400 or close to it?
Or 25. So if they kill a whole unit of dryads, they haven't paid for themselves. It's so sad.
Yeah, it's rough for those guys, man. Yeah, I think if they couldn't be popped on the way in, like if you had to get through their full HP pool, because can't you just pop them right now? Like even without getting through their full HP pool, just by bumping them with SEMs?
You can bump them with like cavalry too, and
run away. Yeah, just like bump and run. Yeah. That's a shame. Yeah, if they could only if they only detonated on either HP reaching 0 or a manual detonation by the player, I think that would be really cool. And I honestly think people would enjoy that more. Like, I think that would be a win for everyone, not only for multiplayer, but I think people in campaign would, have more fun using them if they could be a little bit more controlled. But bloats need some love. I think another unit, we could have a little discussion on this. Wild Riders, I think, need a cost reduction. I feel like they've been power crept. They cost like, what, 1,000? Isn't it 1,100 for those things?
1,200 for the shielded versions.
Oh my goodness. I feel like that's so expensive, right? Like, you look at Reichsguard, which costs like 1,150, but they're like massively armored, have similar stats, a little bit slower, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like Wild Riders could definitely use a cost reduction of at least 100.
Like now we're seeing cavalry with like that was like even like let's say Seekers of Slaanesh.
They're so good.
They're so Slaanesh should have good cavalry, but like they are so good.
Yeah.
And then let's not even talk about Hellstriders. No, we don't need to bring that.
Yeah, those are like they that shall not be named. Yeah. No. Seeker. My conspiracy theory is that Seekers of Slaanesh will become super meta once and hopefully if Hellstriders are like actually effectively nerfed. Like Seekers of Slaanesh are just so. I mean, they cost 1,000. They have a crazy speed. So if you're like a really like MLG Micromaster like yourself, you can like get those like rear charges and like dictate the charges so your opponent isn't getting the charges on you ever. Dude, they melt things. Their damage is crazy good. And they have devastating flanker as well, yeah?
So that's doubling their charge bonus.
What is it?
They're basically...
What is their charge base?
The cheaper Custom Knights that are faster.
Yeah. They're so good. They're so good. I mean, yeah, they're squishy. Like, if you charge a Seeker of Slaanesh, like, head on into a shot cavalry, like a Winged Lancer, it's not a great trade. But, like, in the right hands, a Slaanesh player isn't going to let that happen. You're going to be either snaring them, rampaging them, like, or just waiting for them to go elsewhere and then countercharging them. They really, really do dictate the pace of those fights. And, Slaanesh is such a high skill cap faction. I wish we could see them more, but they're just always banned because of the Hellstriders.
Yeah.
Do you think you would main them? Do they like suit your playstyle, would you say?
Yo, I that's what I was grinding a ton. I played loads of Slaanesh early on, but I think ever since the changes to domination, where we needed more victory tickets and it sort of, like armies would more often get wiped. Mm-hmm. That's when Slaanesh has really started coming into play. Because before it used to be super Khorne favored. So since then, you just can't play Slaanesh in tournaments. They're I think one of the most banned factions right now.
Yeah.
Aside from I guess Tomb Kings have taken a recent lead.
Yeah, them and Tomb Kings are both very strong. And I mean, Warriors of Chaos may be even stronger than Slaanesh in some regards because of the fact they can bring the best unit that Slaanesh has, and they also have like a pretty crazy set of lords. Like, I think Archaon is like super good. They have Be'lakor, like all these crazy cost-effective lords. And Warriors of Chaos can also bring Marauder Horsemasters too, right?
Yep.
Oh my god.
Very
look at this.
cost-efficient skirmish cap.
I feel like they like talk to each other in Discord to come up with these builds. Yeah. Is it just like Croxagors versus Minotaurs Royal Rumble here?
Yeah, no, I've been watching them build the armies and just...
Oh my god.
Now, okay, look, as casters, it is our duty to give a good analysis here. Between Croxagors and Minotaurs, all right? Now remember, these are gold chevron Minotaurs.
Yeah.
I have no idea why, but it is. I would put my money on the Minotaurs here, but they are outnumbered pretty dramatically.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. I mean, Croxagors have god-awful stats, but their stats are kind of helped by their bonus versus infantry, right? That's where Croxagors get their value. They have a bonus versus infantry of 20, which is really substantial, so it compensates for their low melee attack and low melee defense a little bit. But Minotaurs are more of a generalist. Like, they have really, really high stats, especially with these gold chevrons. You can see 43, 56, 110. So they will heavily outtrade Croxagors. However, we do have some of the Space Marine Croxagors in the back, the ones with the Power Fists. And those ones have slightly better stat lines, but again, not as good as Minotaurs. Like, we do have Nakai here with the Perfect Vigor, but then there's Torox. Like, this should... If they just, like, slammed their armies together, I think the Beastmen would probably come out a little bit ahead, considering Gorbel is there as well. Granted, the Beastmen don't have any magic either.
It is a 2-1. It is a 2-1. We have, like, 5 Croxagors to 3 Minotaurs. Usually, the wider army does get a pretty good lead, even if they aren't as elite.
Yeah.
So I feel like the extra HP is good. That's almost like that's a 40% HP lead over the Minotaurs. And Sotek, backstabbing his opponent by bringing in a non-monstrous unit,
I know.
red-crested skinks.
I thought there was some weird gentleman's agreement or something. But they had just like, they had, you know, it's like in the beginning of Troy when they have like the, you know, Achilles fights Boagrius, like the giant champion, and they just like have their leaders meet in the middle and duel. They could send Nakai and Torox. They should just have them fight to the bitter end just to end this battle and, you know, save the troops. They can all go home and just let their leaders fight it out. That's how it should be done, right?
Croxagores and Minotaurs. I feel like Nakai would get dumpstered though, right?
Yeah, probably. Torox is just so much better. The brass body, right?
Yep.
Oh.
41 seconds. That is a significant amount of time to have 40% ward save.
Yeah. And in tandem with that, you get 24 melee defense. I mean, that's no joke. Nakai does have the golden tributes, which makes him like have perfect vigor, which is good over the course of a long game. And he's got some nice AoE buffs. Torox is a little bit more selfish, though. He's more of like a duelist type character, whereas Nakai is like, yes, he's a good duelist, but he's also a bit of a support character with his primal roar. You know, he's cold-blooded, the golden tributes, which do give the 10% ward save and an aura around him. But what do you think the Beastmen are going to be summoning in? They look to have gotten... did they summon something else in? Oh, it looks like another Minotaur Great Weapons. Okay, that's a big winner against these Crocsagores for sure.
Yeah, it'll definitely... The bonus versus large, 28. Yeah, that's a massive. They're going to be doing like maybe... probably like 30% at least more damage to these guys, but... I feel like the addition of red-crested skinks, and not to mention the terror from the Bastillodon, I think that's going to be a big swing play. Though I guess, you know, this is a matchup I've never seen before in my life, so who knows? And the charge.
I think all of our anecdotes pertaining to, you know, meta and the matchup are kind of insignificant with the builds they brought. It's just like so wild. So we do get the big epic charge in the front, shock damage going down on both sides. You can see Crocsagores and Minotaurs alike taking quite a bit of a beating. Sotek does have the advantage of having unit buffering and healing, though. So Red Crested Skink supplying poison, and he's got magic and a Rev Crystal going down.
Nikai's getting wrecked, though, as expected. Just annihilated, 2v1.
Oh, man, poor Nakai. Look at him go. He does have a Rev Crystal, though, so that's going to be quite a bit of healing on him. And he did get some damage despite it being a 2v1. Looks like the Gorbel's going to be going for the Skink Priest in the back. You see that?
Oh, yes. Oh, but the miss. The sneaky Skink Priest. You can't actually dodge some attack animations if you went to the side, but he's going to be getting bullied. I think Nakai might be able to win it over the long con, especially with the Gorbel getting split up. Looks like the flank does go down to the Minotaur shields, taking almost no damage from the Crocsagores, but everywhere else is a little bit more sketchy.
Yeah, it's a wild one, but Sotek having infantry buffering is so cost effective. I mean, if you ever played Ogre Kingdoms, you can see how much more effective it is to have like Gnoblars under your Ogre Bulls in terms of sustainability and long-term DPS. And Sotek looks like he knows this. He's going to be summoning out more baseline troops, so he does have Chameleon Skinks coming out, which were a proven tool last game. But our card is quite ahead on value, and on the side point, we do see the dreaded Minotaurs with great weapons, with the masked chevrons taking it to those skink cohorts. Absolute bully beatdown. And I think the Beastmen are going to be able to claim objective number 3 on the side eventually. And of course, they have their home objective, and Sotek seems to be fighting on the back foot here. Granted, his healing will compensate for a little bit of that variance in terms of value.
Yeah, and I will say, the value difference is made up by the fact that the Minotaurs are on the low ground. So that is like a 1,000 gold difference that is not participating in the main battle.
Yeah.
Potentially that could be huge. And Nakai still, you know, he's losing against Torox, but he's taking his time with it. I think Sotek might be able to sort of stabilize the situation if Nakai can just live a few more minutes longer.
I think he will. Although the Rev Crystal just got broken. That's a really good play by Arkcard. He grabbed the Gorbel. He was able to chase down the Bastillodon Rev Crystal. He's probably going to be able to shatter it here as well. He's kind of chain rear charging it and doing substantial damage. And it looks like the Lizards don't have anything to kind of buffer it. So that Bastillodon probably is going to be chased into the hills. However, like you said, if Nakai does indeed go down to Torox, the Brass Bull, will be a substantial leadership penalty to all these somewhat low leadership Lizardmen units like the Skink cohorts. You can see they're sitting at 46 leadership right now. Minus 16 will put them down to 30, which will make them break very, very quickly. And for the Beastmen reinforcements, looks like what are we seeing? Yeah, dude, this man just loves Minotaurs. That's like all he's bringing. He does chase the Skinks. He's got objective 3, but yeah, no Centaurs, no Vanguard play, just straight up Minotaurs from the spawn zone. Going for the W here as we do see Nakai get broken.
Yeah, that's a pretty big swing for the Beastmen, but with the Chameleon Skinks, I honestly, I'm not used to charging Minotaurs into Skinks, but I'm pretty sure that's a terrible trade for them. I'd be a little bit worried for the Beastmen, and you know, just based on where it's going right now, my guess is that there will only be Minotaurs into the horizon, and I don't know if they can kill off Skinks, though. It seems like they're doing okay so far. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the Beastmen got a massive initial lead by just having a more optimal trade as it pertains to the Lords and the Minotaurs versus the Kroxigors. But Sotek certainly does have the opportunity to kind of crawl his way back here with, you know, Skinks and sort of, poking and that type of stuff, especially if the Beastmen get a little bit bloodthirsty and overextend into the Lizardmen kind of spawn area. That could be a big way for them to get back. But we do need to make sure the Beastmen player, Arkcard, needs to make sure he grabs that side point, because if he moves off here, that would be just a huge, huge Bronzodia play. Really needs to get that, man, because that is going to be giving Sotek so much more time to come back. Whereas if he just took that objective, it would put a lot more pressure here on the Lizards. That's a big blunder, though. He does not get objective 3, man. That hurts. That hurts.
Yeah, it's so close. It's so close. Like, this is the second or third time we've seen this today.
Yeah.
Absolutely brutal to see.
Yeah, and, you know, I've seen it in the World Championship. Right now we have the Total War Warhammer World Championship going on. Our qualifiers are taking place, and I've seen that happen in, like, high-level games, too, where people will get it, and it looks like it's full, right? Like, if you look at Objective 3 now, it looks like it's yours, but it is not. You need to get it fully capped, wait for the notification, and check your little scorecard up at the top. But it looks like the Beastmen have cleaned up their home objective here, or, excuse me, the home objective of the Lizards. But will they actually capture it? Will they capture it this time? What do you think?
Home objective? I would say Beastmen look like they're gonna take the Lizardmen home objective, but and actually probably their own home objective too, with Nakai just going down.
Yeah.
I was hoping that his perfect vigor would hard carry, but unfortunately not, and that is a mass route for the Lizardmen.
Yeah.
That's looking pretty rough. I think Beastmen might even get a triple cap here in a second.
They might. It depends on how many Chameleon Skinks and Skink Skirmishers Sotek has in reserve. Because, I mean, against a mass Minotaur army, that's all this man has on the battlefield. Pure madness. He does have the Minotaurs, Minotaur Great Weapons, Minotaurs, Taurox, and Agorable. He literally has no infantry. So I could see a weird circumstance in which Sotek can pull back the game just with, like, really obnoxious skirmishing. Cohorts. Oh, the Dread Saurians here. Granted, it's not going to be amazing against Mino Great Weapons, but it certainly will send a message, and does give him a little bit of stopping power to isolate some of these Minotaurs here.
It is the Dread Saurian with the ranged attack. Now, this is a unit that I have a lot of unnecessary testing on, but it does actually fire sort of like naval combat. It shoots towards the side, so if it does actually turn sideways or get surrounded by the Minotaurs, it could potentially actually pick off quite a few of their models here. And then with the Terror too, I think honestly that might swing it.
I mean, I think the game's being swung right now. I think the Lizards are starting to get some nice picks here, and the fact that the Beastmen don't have any actual capture weight, it's just all Minotaurs being dragged across the map by, like, Skink Skirmishers. It's like the Oxyotl versus Taurox trailer. It's just like, you know, the Minotaurs are certainly struggling here a little bit. But, yeah, I honestly think Sotek's going to pull this game back and make it close, especially if he only continues to summon Minotaurs, especially unshielded variants here.
Yeah, and honestly, you know, if I have a hunch that if Lizardmen only summon in Chameleon Skinks for the rest of the game, that might actually be unkillable at this point. Look at how much damage you're doing. This is brutal.
Yeah, the Dread Saurian's taking a little bit of work from the Mino Great Weapons, but they are just so unsupported. I mean, now we got red-crested Skinks in here, not that they weren't already poisoned, but should be able to just terror out those guys and buckle them off. Minotaurs, like you said, are a Glass Canyon unit. On the backside of the map, another unit of Minotaurs being dragged down, overextended into enemy territory. And now Sotek is just going to be sending up capture weight towards Objective 3. So he's got Skink Skirmishers, which again are like a dirt cheap unit. And if the Beastmen are having to respond with like big, heavy hitting Minotaurs as their only recourse, like I straight up think he only brought Minotaur variants, man. I don't think there's anything else in this guy's army.
I would not be surprised. We have seen no other units.
Yeah.
Maybe another hero, you know? Maybe another Gorable.
Yeah.
That would actually be good against the Saurian. Taurox actually juking it out. He does have the brass body. Still getting sort of clobbered by the Saurian. But he might be able to get it low enough where it, you know, if it routes off, right, and they trade into each other, the Lizardmen won't have that terror piece.
Yeah.
Could be huge.
Yeah, like you said, it's doing its broadside shooting, the naval Dreadsaurian combat, as it continues to shoot into the hordes here. And we do have skink cohorts moving in to buffer a little bit. Skink skirmishers putting some shooting as the Dreadsaurian does kite backwards and get a little bit of DACA in the process. But we do see the Beastmen come into the pretty scary unit. It is going to be the Butchers of Kalkengard, the regenerating milk cows of the Beastmen here with their silver shields. Definitely one of the better units he does potentially have. But I mean, this would be a very impressive victory for the Beastmen to win with a pure Minotaur build against dinos. That would certainly be wild. And their gold chevron as well, yeah?
Yeah, and that's actually helping their leadership immensely. Like Butchers of Kalkengard with 90 against something like the Dreadsaurian.
Yeah.
That causes terror. The fact that these guys haven't routed yet is huge.
Yeah.
And although it does kill off Gorbel, it does still have a Torox to take out. Sotek is on a little bit of a timer, though the low ground capture definitely is great. The counter Minotaur summon in the distance to shut down the Chameleon Skinks. But I still don't really see anything killing that Dreadsaurian.
Yeah.
Not unless... Oh, with the Rev Crystal? Ah, okay, never mind. It's a... You know what? Lizardmen got this.
Yeah, yeah, they've won. I don't think there's going to be any... And yeah, more skink skirmishers coming in. Sotek saving up another 1,100 as well. He might even resummon to Kai, although I'd be a little bit surprised. And Torox is now just going to get handled by this Dreadsaurian, especially considering it has Harmonic Convergence with a 91 melee attack, man. That thing is not messing around.
Oh, yes, I think one more hit's gonna... Yep, that's a hit. Torox is out of there. Might even get shot to death on the way out, or just attacked. No, it misses.
Looks like Torox is 800 HP, so he might be able to get away. Minotaur is moving in, but lots of support here, lots of skink skirmishers. Rev Crystal, its cooldown should be coming up in a second for another heal, which will heal over 1,000 HP on the Dreadsaurian. And the Beastmen just seem to be getting routed on many fronts as the Haggard 300 gold, or how much do basic skink skirmishers cost? Is it 400 or 500?
Basic ones are 400, so they are very, very cheap.
Yeah, and I mean, they're going to defeat like a 1,500 gold unit here with these like triple silver chevron Minotaurs. And yeah, they can outcap them too, right? So they could just like poke and run, and the Minotaurs will have to stand on the edge of the objective and just eat those shots. That's like their best bet. But dinos are going to push up and take the Beastmen home objective. Sotek has pulled what appears to be a 3,000 value lead right now, if not a little bit more. So yeah, this is looking like it's going to be GG. But valiant attempts by Arkcard, 100%. That was a wild build, and he almost made it work.
Yeah, put the Lizardman on the back foot up until basically the Saurian was summoned. Sotek couldn't really push forwards, but especially on Black Ark, I think bringing a kite build like this and sort of pulling them all the way back to your spawn point to get your value is basically as optimal as it gets for the Lizardmen here. Look at that Torox. Death by 1,000 blowpipes.
We've all experienced this before. Yeah. I can't tell you how many nightmarish experiences I've had playing against Lizardmen. Mostly in Warhammer 2. Like, I felt like it was more annoying back then when like you'd have like mass chameleon skinks and like your big combat lord just being dragged through the mud. But it's yeah, Torox is he kind of has the Achilles thing, right? Doesn't he have like a weak point in like his neck or something like that where he's like vulnerable? Yeah. I think that's his lore actually, but yeah, he's down 103 HP. Beastmen, hey guys, big surprise here. Another unit of Minotaurs coming in for Arkcard. Going to be absolutely taken apart as the Dreadsaurian and the Rev Crystal, as well as Nakai. He's back in business, baby. Going to be moving to Objective 2 and looking to close out this game.
Yep, Torox taken out. Nakai, I think that basically seals the fate of the Beastmen here.
Yeah.
As a single unit of Minos. I think the healing from the Rev Crystal does out DPS them on the Dreadsaurian now. So more... I think, let's see, I guess he does have one more summon left, but we do have to keep in mind, Sotek is banking 1,600 gold for reinforcements, you know, in case something other than Minotaur shows up, he could hard counter them. Oh, wow, another Croxicors.
Yeah, Croxicors. Right. That's right, he might not have other options, I guess. It's like, like, I think a lot of his skinks are probably on cooldown and recycling right now, you know, making their way back into the pool, but... Yep, Minotaurs get absolutely hammered by the Dreadsaurian, Nakai, and Skink Priest combo. Obviously, they're good against these things, but numbers are numbers, man. And the Dreadsaurian is an absolute raid boss. Rev Crystal support, Nakai getting his big club and dancing about as he usually does. But it looks like the grand finals of today's tournament, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be the Lizards, led by the Lore Master of Sotek, facing off against Samurai Warrior and the Wood Elves, battling in the War of the Woods, which is very, very thematic for sure. Now that should be a fun duel of fates. And of course, we'll be closing out with an FFA. So again, thank you guys all for joining, but I do not see any way for Arkcard to come back. Despite his best efforts, I think this is over.
It is a good thing that we saw the Dread Saurian now, though. I think it'd be very unlikely to see Saurians or Croxagores against the Wood Elves.
Oh yeah.
So nice to see them. In general, usually it's a lot of skirmish, I think, for Wood Elf versus Lizardmen. Do you know of any other playstyles other than that we might see?
Well, back in Warhammer 2, there was a couple variants. Sometimes you would see Wood Elves come in with Mass Eternal Guard backed up by Wildwood Rangers, like 2 in support, and then you would just see Mass Glade Guard Starfire Shafts, right? And then the old meta was double Solar Engine for the Lizard. So it was double Solar Engine backed by Saurus Warriors and Spears, just like Solar Engine value trading against the Archers and just trying to outgrind them over time. So yeah, we'll have to see. By the way, quick guess, do not look. What do you think the value on the Dread Saurian was?
Oh, I'll put it at a solid 3,200.
3,200. What do you guys in chat think? Let's see who gets the closest. So let us know what you think the Dread Saurian value was. I did peek at it on stream, so you guys might have seen it, but let's see if anybody gets close to it here. I'm curious what you guys will say. And once again, today's stream is a charity stream. Creative Assembly has teamed up with Ecosia to help combat deforestation and planting trees around the globe with the gaming community. So make sure to check out that link if you guys are interested in supporting today's charity. Okay. Somebody said 9,000. A little excessive.
Over 9,000.
Little Dragon Ball Z action there. We always love it. Okay, 4,000. Okay, we're going to close the... I don't think people were paying attention when I looked. So the winner of the value guessing contest is going to be the Tech Priest Toast, with a guess of 5,000. The value on the Dread Saurian, the Dread Beast, was 5,550. So congratulations to Tech Priest. You get a cheers from us. So you had the closest guess. I would have guessed the same as you, like about 3,000 myself. But
actually, a lot of undervaluing on the Dread Saurian.
Yeah,
I was surprised how much it got, but that's just Taurox.
Yeah, it was taking out Taurox. It was just taking out Minotaurs left and right. I mean, just value city. That was a really cool build by Arkcard, though. He went out like a hero. He fought a strong player in a tough matchup on that player's main faction, and with a pure Minotaur build. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool indeed. All right, so let's update these scorecards. Lore Master of Sotek has claimed victory, and we're going to get that finals lobby set up. And after the finals, we will close out with an FFA between all of these players and pray to the dark gods that it's not laggy. We'll see what happens. All right, so the winner is going to be Sotek. So grand finals are Lore Master of Sotek versus the Samurai Warrior, and we will see who is going to be winning today's War of the Woods. Let's do it, man. Predictions? I feel like these two are evenly matched. They're both solid players. They don't play in a lot of tournaments, but they have that kind of like background where they have that competitive skill set to an extent. So it'll be very interesting to see what they do against one another. Okay.
So from what I heard from Samurai Warrior talking earlier, he's not as comfortable as the Wood Elves as some of his sort of more undead mains that were inaccessible today. So he might be a little bit more uncomfortable here than Sotek.
Okay. Maybe we'll see some wild stuff then. Yes, I didn't know Samurai was an undead main. I guess I've seen him play vampire counts and other factions like that quite a bit. Yeah, undead in general are just so strong. I think if we let me look at the stats real quick. I think undead are just legitimately, undead have the number
top 7.
I think if you nerfed Hellstriders from Warriors of Chaos and Slanesh, I think number 1 and 2 and potentially 3 could be undead, like Tomb Kings, Vampire Coast, and Counts. Yeah, Counts are a little bit lower in the win rate now, but that's partially because of the bug that they had in the beginning. So they got off to a bad start in terms of our stat tracking, but yeah, hard to say, man.
Explains that.
Yeah, very strong faction.
Although I will say it's surprising to see Skaven. People have slowly been pushing the Skaven meta.
Yeah,
Skaven have they were not doing this well early on, but it's sort of been a newly discovered A to S tier faction that have.
Yeah. There's a pretty easy explanation for that. There's 2 variables. One is that the Skaven magically got their entire roster buffed for 8 leadership because of the power grab cheese. So if you guys are new to domination mode, what you can do is you can bring a Skaven chieftain as your lord, okay? Skaven chieftain have an ability called power grab, which means that when your lord either flees off the battlefield or is killed, he takes over and gives your entire army 8 leadership. So what people do in domination is they make their lord a Skaven slave, they unsummon it immediately, and it counts as your lord having fled the battlefield, but it doesn't like give you the penalty for doing so. And then you get 8 leadership on your entire army. So like all those cheap Skaven units, which are supposed to have bad leadership, are getting a massive buff to their leadership of +8, which is huge. And on top of that, Globadiers are an extremely overpowered unit. At only 500 gold, they just trade absurdly well. So that is why Skaven are S tier. It's very, yeah, like every build does that. Like when was the last time you saw a Skaven build that didn't use the power grab cheese?
Oh, actually, I saw that super recently.
Really?
Weirdly enough.
Did it win?
Yeah, I was very surprised. Oh, wait, no. I saw them bring the cheese.
Okay.
But they didn't desummon their lord.
Okay.
Yeah, but they won anyways, against all odds.
Yeah.
It was a very close match that would have been easily won with the cheese, but
yeah.
Still.
So in that case, they basically did do it, but it was just the player made an error in the beginning and just forgot. But
yeah, they put them like far in the corner, and then I think they just forgot about them.
yeah, I mean, as long as they don't like rush up and get karate chopped and like give you the lord penalty on this Skaven, that would be. Although, yeah, well, so power grab doesn't replace the lord penalty. So if a Skaven lord were to truly die, like Ikitclaw, for example, they would have -10 after the initial buffer and then +8. So the lord penalty would only be +2. Like, I feel like that's something that Creative Assembly might change at some point. And if they did, I still think we would still see the power grab character being brought in support, even with like Ikitclaw as your lord. What do you think?
Sorry, the power grab with Ikitclaw?
Yeah, so let's say that Creative Assembly fixes that, for example, right? They change the thing. So your lord is your lord no matter where it is in your army, right? So like Ikitclaw is always your lord. Do you think Skaven players would still bring a power grab chieftain?
Huh.
I feel like they might. It's pretty good, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like even if they don't go for, let's say they don't go for Ikitclaw.
Yeah.
And they go for a super cheap lord, like a caster lord for like 600.
Yeah.
I think that's worth it.
Yeah. And chieftains can be brought on foot, right? Like really cheap, like a chieftain with just power grab.
Yeah. I'd say so. Like unless CA made it where your lord actually has to die for it to trigger, I think Skaven will be wanting to bring that for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Rush fact. Yeah, somebody in chat making a good point. I mean, I think most Rush factions do really struggle against globes. In my experience of casting the World Championship games and looking through all the replays, it seems like Skaven have really dominant trades against Rush factions in general. Like, I'm trying to think which Rush factions have good stats against the Skaven. But what's cool about this, ladies and gentlemen, is we actually have some data to like back this up a little bit. So let's have a brief discussion while it looks like one of our players is resetting their connection here. So if we take a look at Skaven, currently one of the top factions, it looks like bad matchups for the Skaven are... Oh, Greenskins kind of make sense, right? I mean, I guess Greenskins just have a ton of like decent swarming units, right? Is that how they win that matchup?
Yeah, a lot of, I think one clan in particular really likes sort of the infantry spam Greenskins. So a lot of just normal orc boys, shielded, and then you just sort of overrun your opponent type playstyle.
Yeah. Let's see. Aside from that, Skaven don't have too many bad matchups, though. Like if you look at that, like all these matchups here, guys. So if you're looking at this, these are the overall win rates for the factions. And then if we click on like Skaven, for example, you can look at the specific win rates for all the factions based on what they play. Like Skaven really only have negative win rate factions against Wood Elves, Lizardmen, Greenskins, Warriors of Chaos, Slanesh Coast, Counts, and Tomb Kings. So they have a pretty good range. Like most of the Rush factions, yeah. Let's see. Dark Elves, actually, no, they have a really solid win rate versus Dark Elves. Huh. Ogre Kingdom's pretty even. What do you think about Ogre Kingdoms in the meta right now? Have you been seeing them do pretty well?
Ogre Kingdoms, they've been doing better than before, for sure. They do actually have a fairly high win rate, but in sort of like the super top echelon, I think there's a lot of factions that like they do really well in some matchups, but then they do really bad in other matchups. Yeah. So they can be a bit risky at times.
Wow, look at this, man. So we're loading into Game 1 of the Grand Finals, best of 3 showdown between the Lore Master of Sotek and Samurai Warrior. Lore Master of Sotek on Lizardmen, Samurai Warrior on the Wood Elves. It's going to be Oxyotl against Orion, the King of the Forest, man. Perfectly fitting for today, but it looks like once again Sotek has mind-gamed his opponents with a mass width build, not bringing any big dinos, certainly nullifying the efficacy of those Zotes, to say the least.
No, Orion was actually pretty meta in previous in previous, in Warhammer 2,
Yeah.
Lizardmen versus Wood Elf matches.
Well, he was awesome because he had that the Cloak of Isha, which is an amazing item. So let's go ahead and show you guys that. I'll take a look at the Wood Elf army, and then we'll hand you on over to the Lizards. Looking at the Cloak of Isha, it used to be even worse. Basically, when he's below 25% HP, he gets a 20% ward save and a huge heal. It used to be, I believe, 40% ward save, and also the healing was more. So he was basically indestructible. Like you could. It was so hard to kill Orion when he was sub 25% HP. But basically, it's a rush build for the Wood Elves. I mean, he's got Wild Riders, Glade Riders, which are reasonably good against skinks. Wild Riders do have really good shock damage against light armor. So if they're running into Chameleon Stalkers, cohorts, they can do good damage. And Zotes are obviously designed to kill big dinosaurs, which there aren't very many. But at the very least, the Zotes do have some spells, like a regrowth for Orion, Earthbloods for the Cav on the flanks. Not completely useless, but overall, based on armies, let me know if you agree, my friend. But I would say that the Lizards probably have an advantage army-wise.
Oh, I think so for sure. These all of the Lizardmen infantry with ranged here are very happy about shooting into low armor targets, and at 60 armor, Zotes don't really have enough to tank many shots. We see an Oxyotl, which is terrifying versus Orion. He can slowly chip him down over the course of the battle.
Yeah.
And, of course, Chameleon Skinks, not too worried about cavalry. Now, I really do wonder, the Umbral Tide. This is more of a rare pick for the Lizardmen. Obviously, we have, a million just skink cohort, but the Umbral Tide could potentially be one of the larger threats here. We have anti-large flaming attacks, flaming great against trees, but the anti-large against the cavalry will be more than enough. And I feel like without many threats, the Umbral Tide will probably be the big winners here today.
Yeah.
You think, how do you feel about them?
I agree. I mean, yeah, anti-large, really good against all this light armor. On the flank, we get a pretty wild engagement. Wild Riders do charge into a face full of javelins and looks like blow darts, but they do manage to run over one of the chameleons quickly, which is 600 gold. Glade Riders with the Spears getting a nice charge. Orion getting absolutely torched in the middle, though. Big damage going down on him, as the Enigmas of Giron going to be moving in with a 60% charge bonus on all these Wood Elf units, so really going for a huge Wild Rider rush. The Wild Hunt is on. And the value trading, though, still does favor Sotek, as he is able to counterpunch very effectively with all of his javelins and darts and some of the poke from Oxyotl.
Yeah, and it seems like while the left flank is holding well, the right flank actually sort of collapsing very quickly. You can see the flank skinks opened up on the skink cohort, so they're actually routing off extremely quickly. Not to mention, Orion also has Terror, I believe. So that's going to be a pretty massive collapse and probably the shutting down of the Umbral Tide. This might be the swing play. Do you think Sotek is going to be able to stabilize here with this sort of mass rout?
Yeah, it depends on his defensive macro here in the backfield. Like, he needs to be able to get the Umbral Tide away. It's one of his big victory pieces. And, now in the center, now that we're starting to see Dryads coming out, Dryads will outtrade cohorts pretty effectively and the Chameleon Stalkers for a decent price point. So there is a chance that Sotek is going to get pushed back, as we do see Samurai Warrior start to kind of equalize the value. Currently 22 for Sotek, 2,000 for Samurai Warrior. But also we do see a little bit of a vulnerability in the back, as the Salamanders are being hunted very fervently by the Enigmas of Giron there. But it looks like they're not going to be continuing the chase, and Sotek will be able to stabilize the Umbral Tide right there. So we will have to see. Objectives aren't even open yet, man. We've been in a pretty pitched fight so far.
And the early trading, this will probably end up deciding the game. Though it does seem like Sotek being able to fight on his side of the battlefield is helping him out quite a bit, as he can sort of bring in his infantry to support the Umbral Tide immediately, while the Dryads are still taking their time to make it to the main engagement. So I'd say that, along with Oxyotl still continuing to poke Orion, it seems like Sotek is probably in a minor lead right now, I would say.
Yeah.
It's just a rough judgment.
I would agree, for sure. He's got a lot of loose skinks over on the side that can go grab Objective 3 as soon as that opens up, like you were kind of articulating. Sotek also going to be grabbing Objective 1 up on the high ground with some Chameleons, so very, very effective play. And I would say the burden of difficulty is certainly on Samurai. Like, his army and his maneuverability is going to take a lot more effort in micro than Sotek's, which is just kind of putting Chameleon Skinks in skirmish mode near these units if need be, and just kind of letting them poke and sending capture weight units to the sides. And we do see the Wood Elf army is very isolated in the center. We do see Orion and all of his elite units kind of slowly being dragged down a little bit, as Sotek does reaccrue a value lead of 32 to 27 at this point. And the Umbral Tide, though, does get caught in the forest here. It looks like some Wild Riders have been able to discover them, which is quite nice.
Yeah, a pretty good pick. Though, with the capture point sort of swinging on to Sotek's side, I would say that is a very nice long-term advantage. If it does come down to sort of a more long-term kite game situation, smaller armies should vastly favor the chameleon skinks. So even though it might stay pretty close right now, I think that late game advantage could be pretty huge. Look at that, Glade Riders getting routed off too before they make it to the middle. Orion's actually in a little bit of a scary position. I don't think he'll die, but definitely trading down here, with especially those Zotes getting full surrounded by the infantry.
Yeah, Zotes are obviously a unit that really wants to be fighting something large. Orion, I don't think is in any danger necessarily. He's kind of like a bit of a classic bait situation where, you know, you'll think you have him and then the Cloak of Isha is going and you're like, he just won't go down. Even if he's getting blasted by Oxyotl, you would probably need some sort of a magic supplement or additional DPS. But I guess like Chameleon Skinks and things like that can do some work. Looks like a Flock of Doom going down on the Lizard army, or excuse me, on the Wood Elf army. Not going to be doing much damage against the Zotes. In the meantime, Dryad still battling for Objective 2, Objective 1, and Objective 3, currently taken by the Dinos, but the Wild Riders on the side with a very nice cleanup. So incredibly nice play by Samurai Warrior, able to clean up those infantry, which appear to be some skink cohorts and more skink cohorts. So that objective could be going to the Wood Elves. So certainly very scrappy, but Sotek is maintaining that value lead. But do the Wood Elves have any healing in their army that you see?
They don't, but they do have Colossedon Hunters for Orion, which, given how much of a problem the cavalry is being giving in Orion, I think this might actually be pretty massive. Now, I don't think there's any healing just because the caster is just a beast caster. And no rev crystals, but if the Colossedons manage to avoid most of the damage, they could probably kill off most everything here on this battlefield. Really depends on how they fare against Orion, though.
Yeah, those Colossedons aren't doing badly, but they're also fighting Zotes, which are anti-large. And I mean, I guess there is some healing from the Zotes. We do have a regrowth from the Enigmas as well as an Earthblood. I think 2 Earthbloods from the standard Zote. And they are getting a little bit of a decent value trade back on the Colossedon Hunters, but we do see the leadership of the Zotes start to waver a little bit. But Colossedon Hunters, I think, wisely pulling back for a cycle charge. Let those cheaper skinks get in there and kind of buffer them out and then charge back in, or maybe do a rear charge on them. I think that would really tank their leadership. Now, on the side, looks like the Wood Elves and Samurai Warrior have been able to kind of potentially wrestle Objective 3, though Sotek does respond with some Chameleon Skinks of his own to poke those guys down. We'll have to see how that all unfolds. And the battle does continue to rage on as Sotek maintains his value lead, trapping much of the heavy value of the Wood Elf army. And a nice charge coming in from Colossedon Hunters. Orion probably going to take some big damage here, 2,900 HP.
Yeah, the extra mass too means he probably can't escape. Now, the Wild Riders do catch the Chameleon Skinks on the far side. That is a nice pick. But honestly, I don't know if Orion makes it out of here. There's no cavalry to really support him. A full surround by the Colossedons. And then even after that, if he manages to escape, there'll be Oxyotl too. That would probably spell doom for the Wood Elves unless they can bait the Lizardmen into overextending to try and kill Orion.
Yeah, certainly so. It's going to be tough for him to get away. The King of the Woods, he might be able to escape, though, I think with some proper control. Like, typically, if you're playing from outer space, it can be a little bit hard to sometimes get units out. You have to, like, zoom in on the unit like this, see where the enemy mass is, and try and path him out. I think he could escape with some good micro, because the Cloak of Isha is now active, so he's getting ward save and healing. Maybe, but it looks like he's not even attempting to get Orion out. I think he's just standing and fighting to the bitter end, which, with Orion going down, the leadership penalty will certainly give Sotek some good momentum. Sotek has a great stranglehold on Objective 1, and Objective 3 is owned by the Wood Elves. The Wild Riders doing a good job there, but I think the Lizards should be able to move up and probably take that center objective soon, especially if Orion does go down here.
Yeah, and it seems like, let's see here. I don't know, if he continue, he might be able to fight his way out. Not to mention, it looks like a few spells dropping too. Yeah. Oxyotl can't get good line of sight, and it seems like that's probably him surviving.
Yeah.
Now, Cloak of Isha is just ward. Okay, yeah, it's damage resist. So Oxyotl's magic damage won't help punch through that. I think Orion might be able to just hard carry here. It's really do or die, right? Either he barely lives or he dies just an unglorious death. But look at that, the Spellslinger of Life, no regrowth, but the Earthbloods, I think that's probably gonna swing it in the favor of the Wood Elves here.
Yeah, Absolutely. I mean, that's going to be very scary. So if you guys are looking at the value right now, you're seeing, oh, Sotek 8.5 to 6.8. Clearly, he's very ahead. But you also have to remember, much of said value has been accrued at the expense of Orion's HP. Orion is still a relatively fully functional character, with the exception of course, wounds, mitigating his damage by 20%. So if Orion doesn't get finished off here, a lot of the value lead that Sotek has accrued, which is from Orion, is going to be less significant. So that's something you always want to kind of take into account here when you're looking at domination games. It is certainly a fairly common variable. But yeah, Orion is and always has been one of the biggest raid bosses in the game. Very, very tough to finish. I actually went back on quick battles the other day, and I was like, you know what? I want to get in there and play some land battles. Have some fun with that, right? The very first game I run into, it's a Wood Elf player versus my Kislev, and he has Orion. I kill his entire army, and he draw kites me around the map for 20 minutes with Orion, and I just couldn't catch him with my infantry. So I can tell you from experience that Orion is certainly very, very tough to kill, especially as of late. But
yeah, unbreakable. Doesn't have a lot of armor, but
he's fast.
He's fast. His speed is crazy.
And
like with the Glossodons going down, it's basically just Oxyotl. He's very likely to heal cap at this point.
Yeah.
And Sotek sort of running thin. If we actually look at, not just the numbers in the top left, but army on the battlefield.
Yeah.
If you assume Orion's going to heal cap, it actually looks pretty even.
Yeah, I think he's going to heal cap, because with the 20% ward save in tandem with the healing and the fact that Oxyotl isn't going to hit every single time, he'll definitely be able to outpace Oxyotl's DPS. Looking on the side, Sotek does opt to bring in a Ark of Sotek, which is kind of an interesting choice. Now, it does not look like the Wood Elves have any ample answer for it on the battlefield. Granted, Orion could certainly take care of it if he can get his hooves over there and kind of stomp on it. What did we see anything that was kind of anti-dino in this lizard build, or excuse me, in this Wood Elf build initially, outside of Orion? Not really, right?
There were Zotes. There were Zotes. The oft forgotten Zotes.
Yeah, I literally forgot they were in the game just because that's just how much we forget them. Yeah. Hey, and Dwellers Below too does good SEM damage, so you could always Dweller with some Zotes and give him the business.
Yeah, still though, that Ark of Sotek's gonna be a pain to deal with any light cavalry. Even Wild Riders, it's going to be tough. I do like this Feral Manticore summon, though. Potentially another attempt on Orion's life.
Yeah.
Though, yeah, it's at some point you start overcommitting, right? If you just keep sending these sort of high-value plays into him, and he keeps surviving, you haven't actually reduced the size of the Wood Elf army at all. But actually looks like he's going for the Spellweaver instead. Orion... he's given up on him and is just gonna go for other targets now, which I think that's pretty good, especially with Oxyotl.
Yeah,
with actually fairly high DPS on Orion.
I think it's a prudent decision. Just set Oxyotl on him to kind of heal cap him a little bit quicker and send your other assets elsewhere on the battlefield, right? Because yeah, Orion's going to be tough, and you raised a great point about overcommitting and trying to take down Orion at the expense of your other positions in the battlefield. High ground objective still owned by the Dinos. Looks like a little bit of pressure coming in from Glade Riders here on the Skinks. The Manticore Summon being drawn out by the Spellsinger of Life, so Manticore Summon probably not going to be doing a whole lot. Might as well dive it in to have it help those Skinks on the position there on the ground. Middle owned by the Wood Elves, and a bit of a blunder by Sotek. He actually sends the Ark of Sotek in to battle the Zotes in melee, and sends it within range of Orion, which I think is a colossal mistake, because basically just going to be giving Samurai Warrior the capability to catch this thing, whereas he would have had to run across the battlefield to get it. But yeah, that's a pretty big mistake right there, which could potentially cost the Lore Master of Sotek the game, in my opinion.
It does drop those little ground snakes. Sotek's poison, solid 5 to 10 damage a second. It could. Yeah. The Sotek's poison ability only really does a lot of damage to infantry. Although, do you remember in what was it? Remember when it was bugged? Didn't it one-shot infantry?
Yeah, there was some weird thing at the launch of Immortal Empires where the Ark of Sotek snakes were you just machine gun, just insta kills infantry around it. There was some weird thing with it. It got fixed pretty quickly though. But I mean, Orion is getting low also, and Oxyotl is not he's not sparse on ammo, guys. He's got 17 ammo right now. It kind of makes me think Orion isn't that expensive. Would it be such... Oh, big Dwellers in the back. It hits all 3 of those Skink units. Brutal stuff. Ooh. So Samurai bringing out the competitive tools to hammer down Sotek's infantry corps. And that could have been a big game-winning play as well. A couple things going very, very well. But Orion might also go down. He's got 900 HP, almost healing capped. And could you see Orion being resummoned at this point?
I think so. Honestly, with how much of a menace he's been, though, Oxyottl's been chunking them pretty well. Like, maybe we see a resummon on Oxyotl to take him out.
I don't think so.
He's done the majority of the damage to Orion at this point.
But it's been over the course of 8 minutes. I don't think there's going to be like that much. Like, yeah, it's kind of like have you ever run into this, like, where you've seen, like, starting out with artillery, like if you're playing Empire with like Hellstorms or like other artillery-based factions, like it's really strong, but summoning an artillery in the late game, it never really has enough time unless it's like a gnarly Sunmaker to like accrue the value for its second wave. It's usually like something you start with but don't want to resummon later, right?
It's very true. Generally, I think like if you're not summoning artillery in the first 3 minutes, you're probably done with it.
Yeah.
Though, I guess Orion as a single entity would run into similar issues.
Yeah.
He'd probably get out-captuated by like a million skinks. But oh, look at that. The man goes down.
He did, man. The Bastillodon stayed the course, and it looks like the Zotes might get routed off. I mean, that ended up working out relatively well for Oxyotl. You know, I thought that the Orion and the Zotes would take out that Ark of Sotek quicker, but it's easy to underestimate the durability of these Bastillodons. Up in the high ground, Objective 1 currently is potentially being flipped. It is owned by the Dinos, but the capture weight, it's hard to tell where it's actually going. It looks like it is under the control of the Dinos. Objective 2 by Wood Elves, Objective 3 on the other side by Lizardmen. So Lizards do have a double cap right now, as we do see Azrai Spears moving out. Azrai Spears will be good against the Ark of Sotek if it doesn't have the Snake Launcher, but will not be terribly effective against the Hordes of Skinks, as Samurai does take Objective 3.
Yeah, and especially if it's cycle charging and sort of... Well, mostly if it's cycle charging and has infantry support.
Yeah.
I don't think the Azrai Spears will really take it down too fast. Not unless they get like a full surround.
Another Dwellers, man. Samurai pulling out the big guns to try and get back in the game, bringing out the overpowered spells as it does melt down these red-crested skinks. And the Ark of Sotek, has it launched its snakes? It has. The sneaky snakes are out. And the Azrai Spear is going to be taking some poison damage here, it looks like. Is there no, like, damage effect? Okay, Sotek's poison. Yeah, there it is. It didn't appear in the buff card. Yeah, not bad at all, man. Not bad at all. But looks like the Wood Elves getting the side point. They have some Eternal Guard kind of anchored there. That's going to be very tough to remove with their silver shields. But the middle objective still owned by the Lizards. What are the Wood Elves going to summon in to try and wrestle this middle objective? Will the King of the Woods come back, or is it just going to be more Cav? Dryads might be able to get this high ground point as well. So it looks like Samurai Warrior is definitely clawing his way back into this game here.
Yeah, it's very close, and like we have to remember too, Oxyotl, once he's out of ammunition, is sort of just weighing down the value trading. So Sotek's actual like fighting armies is quite a bit smaller than we would imagine here.
Yeah.
I will say though, the Chameleon Skinks, as always, will likely be able to trade their way up over the course of the battle.
Yeah.
And Samurai, okay, he actually goes for the cavalry summon. Unit of Wild Riders. This is like one of the swingiest units that he can bring right now. Either they crush it or they get shot to death. Right now, pretty brutal volley on them.
Yeah, Cohort Javelins are just such a cost-effective unit, man. Just, you know, pretty decent stat line for what they are with 26 melee defense, shielded, pretty quick. But they do eat the charge in the face, but, you know, they're okay at that. They have a big HP pool as well, and it also did buffer for the Chameleons. Oxyotl putting solid DPS into these cavalry as well. So he may live to regret summoning out the Wild Riders. Granted, I don't know what choices he did have. Is the Eternal Guard on the side also potentially losing the fight? The dreaded Skink Sandwich is coming in, so the Chameleon Skinks are going to be surrounding those Eternal Guard. In response, Samurai Warrior does summon out some Glade Riders with spears, but it looks like Lore Master of Sotek starting to swing the momentum back with the Wild Riders having a relatively ineffective trade against that horde of units. And also, the Spell Singer of Life is on the run right now. It got a little bit beat up in that engagement as Oxyotl, I think, has gotten close to 3,000 value this game. Yeah, look at that, 2,800.
Yeah, he's been doing just a load of work for single entities. He's just always had a good target to fire at. But oh, look at that. Actually, a possible assassination attempt on him with the surround on the Wild Riders, but he's still pretty slippery. 45 melee defense, gets knocked around 24/7.
And he's like, he constantly gets knocked over instead of taking damage, at least in my experience. And those type of like foot characters are so hard to finish off. And we do see the Mage of Life actually landing. We see the Spell Singer of Life, and looks like it's actually wavering. Oxyotl might have gotten in there with one of his melee attacks, which aren't insignificant either. He does have 400 weapon strength against light armor. Looks like there's going to be a Dweller's Blow coming in, or an Awakening of the Wood. There it goes. Not much damage, but it does trigger the healing passive for the army, as Oxyotl looks to be getting a favorable trade here. Side point is going to be taken by held by the Wood Elves. Yeah, so the Spears and the Glade Riders doing an excellent job Arc of Sotek moving into some spears as well. So it looks like on this side, Samurai will be able to hold on. On the high ground, Samurai holding on as well. And Samurai is actually closing the point gap, currently 800 to about 700. So not going to be long before Samurai overtakes him in points, his mobility helping him to win on these sides.
Yeah, the question is whether or not he can pull it back on the value trading. Sotek has about 1,000 gold in the bank to bring in units. Samurai is only at 600, so I would expect some sort of swingy play. Maybe Sotek's saving up for those Colossadon hunters. I know that is one of his favorite units. So we could see that to sort of help clean up the cavalry. It looks like point number 3 even going barely in the favor of the Lizardmen too. And I think that puts Samurai in a much worse position now.
Yeah, the Arc of Sotek doing some work, man. It heard me talking smack earlier and has certainly been looking to make a point here as it's gotten about 1,300 value, which is very, very good. Orion, of course, healed quite a bit, but yeah, the leadership is going to be hurting. The Dryad's currently sitting at 56, base leadership minus 10 for the Lord having died, which is really going to help the Lizards push them off the points, because normally Dryads are a pretty high leadership unit for their price point. But yeah, the Arc of Sotek buffering on top of the cohort of Sotek, these unbreakable skinks that can refuse to die, is going to make this point incredibly tough to get, and I think that Sotek's going to get that one back, while also holding on to the middle. And yeah, Sotek can just play 2 objectives the rest of the game. I think that's the correct play, not to like overextend and allow Wood Elf mobility. And look at that, man. You called it. You nailed it. The prophetic anticity here, as the Ripperdactyls have been resummoned.
Yeah, only normal Ripperdactyls though. No Colossadons, but good anti-infantry. Going to be helping them against the Dryads. I'm interested to see what Sotek decides to do with Oxyotl too. The question of desummoning versus keeping them on the battlefield. Always an interesting one. He does have, honestly, 50 melee attack, 45 melee defense is like... He's sort of like a rune lord in terms of his stats, except for armor.
Yeah.
Which is actually pretty good.
It's not bad. I would probably keep him on the battlefield, considering he's lost some HP. Like, I think he costs, like, what, 1,400, something like that? I can't quite remember, but... You'd probably only get like 400 gold back for that. And, you know, I think he's enough of a presence. He's like a durable, guaranteed 3 capture weight on an objective, right? So yeah, probably keeping him there would be good. Nice sandwich there, though, by Samurai Warrior. He does pull in his big cavalry and is able to hammer down those red-crested skinks. Very vulnerable to charges, as we are going to be seeing more cohorts coming out. Their high DPS javelins into the unshielded Wild Riders should be very cost-effective. But really, I don't think the Wood Elves have any tools to actually clear off Oxyotl. Like, I think he's just going to sit there and buffer his infantry and, you know, pick off those Wild Rider models one at a time. And we see a crushing defeat on the side objective as the Lore Master of Sotek, with his dreaded pet Bastillodon, able to come in here and just absolutely hammer down those Dryads. Just brutal stuff. And now they're going to move to the middle, and I think this is probably the end of the road for the Samurai Warrior. This was a very back-and-forth game. There was points where I thought the Wood Elves would carry it. You and I were discussing, like, Orion's going to get this. Oh, yeah, he's going to carry this. And then suddenly he's, like, down, getting darted. It's been a very good game.
Yeah, like I really, it's been sort of a fast rush play style against a more sort of longer, grindy Lizardmen style with like sort of tools that can get you a lot more value the longer they live. Oxyotl, the Rev Crystal.
Yeah.
And then just like Chameleon Skinks into the horizon.
Oh yeah, the classics, man, the Lizardmen classics. I wouldn't hate an unsummon on that Bastillodon on the other side. I guess 700 HP, it still is a source of terror. Could unsummon it and then bring it back in with Sotek's surplus of supplies that he does have. But, yeah, Colossadons are back, baby. Back on the menu, the Toads are here, and they're going to be unleashing the Toad Rage on these units. So Samurai tries to bring in some archers to supplement his melee core, but they won't be terribly effective against the Skinks, and Oxyotl is on the hunt.
Yeah, actually, a melee Oxyotl into archers is a rare sight indeed, but almost a perfect situation there. And Samurai taps out.
Yeah.
Another win from Sotek. He's on the warpath.
He is,
this guy with Lizardmen.
He's doing the old ones proud. And, you know, of the 4 players that played today, he is probably the only one who got his main faction. So that worked out pretty well. And Sotek does have a lot of multiplayer experience. Definitely in Warhammer 2, he did a lot more multiplayer stuff. I had played a lot of games with him back then, and he participated in some of the early Everchosens. So certainly has got some competitive, reps there. But that is going to be game 1. Oxyotl, man, 3,000 plus value. He really certainly farmed Orion there, but Orion didn't do badly either.
Worse than Oxyotl, though.
Yeah.
To be noted.
Yeah.
The Zotes, too. The solid Zotes. I think, they tried. Honestly, they could probably be a bit cheaper just looking at their performance.
Like maybe bringing is like a single Zote as a reinforcement piece wouldn't be terrible, because like opening 2 Zotes into a mass skink army is just that is not a good feeling. But despite that, Samurai played very well. Like he was in that game, which is certainly a testament to his skill and ability. But yeah, double Zote Orion, like all these anti-large characters into like a massive width army with nothing large in it except like an extremely maneuverable salamander is pretty bleak in terms of the opening. But yeah, it was fun, man. Dweller's Blow almost got him back in the game too. He got like 2 of those that took out like 3 infantry units of Sotex. But yeah, the Arc of Sotek and of course the Oxyotl Snipe on Orion definitely carried that game.
Yeah. The question now though is how will they be mixing up their builds?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Sotek probably. Well, Sotek switched to a mass Crocsgore rush in game 2 last time. Granted, that was against a very different faction. I wouldn't be surprised to see Sotek do something very similar. Although his favorite character, I think his namesake that he likes to play with is Tehenuin. So I wouldn't be shocked to see Tehenuin on the big engine of the gods. I think we could see something crazy. That's like my tinfoil hat, but we'll have to see what they end up doing.
I would love to see Tehenuin. Let's see. He's represented. Sotek's been going. Has he just been hitting up all the legendary lords for the Lizardmen?
Yeah, the skink characters though. Oh no, actually he did the Crocsgore too. But Crocsgores have they're like buddies with skinks. They're like little adorable pals. So yeah, he's been kind of playing that route. But I think his like channel avatar is literally Tehenuin, who's the prophet of Sotek, right? So it totally makes sense.
I never see him take him though. If I had to bet, I would say Gorok is slightly more likely to be seen.
Yeah, for sure.
Just as a character that I've seen him run more often.
Yeah, Gorok is like
Tehenuin would be thick.
He's like a discount Sigvald, basically, right?
Yeah. No healing.
Sigvald is so much better. It's like, man, and I think like Gorok only has what, like 28 speed or something, or 32 speed. He's pretty slow.
More.
Is it 34?
He's slightly faster than Plague Bearers.
Yeah. And wait, you said 24 speed?
34.
Oh, 34. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because Sigvald's got 40 speed, right? And he's got Strider, and it's just the healing is so good. And perfect vigor. Yeah, so good.
Regeneration.
How come it's always Slaanesh getting all the overpowered stuff? Like you look at all the marks, and then there's Slaanesh. Yeah.
Mark of Slaanesh, definitely the best mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's because I think all the other marks have a downside.
Yeah, Slaanesh, they're just like, no downside for you guys. You're perfection. Khorne gets lower melee defense. Nurgle gets like speed and melee attack penalties. What does Tzeentch have?
Was it less melee attack? I don't think so.
Tzeentch might not have a downside, but I don't think their buff is that great either. It's like some, I don't know. I don't even know off the top of my head. I don't really play Tzeentch often, but
it is shields that technically is part of it.
Yeah.
So like, I think if you had to choose, because the shields it's like plus 10% HP.
They're so good. Well, and it's like assuming you have clean micro on a single entity model. Yeah. Dude, the amount of infinite healing you can get on SEMs is crazy. Like if you're cycling them, it's just so much healing across your entire army. So Tzeentch is. Are you surprised to see that Tzeentch has such a low win rate this season?
Very, very surprised actually, especially with the buff to soul grinders.
Yeah.
What I found is that he always runs into issues with capture weight though.
Yeah.
He's really hard. He's really bad at getting boots on the ground, sadly. But, I think like it's a mix between that and the fact that he has a lot of counter cavalry in screamers.
Yeah.
But not a lot of great cavalry himself.
Makes sense.
Until we see Chaos Knights get buffed.
Yeah. The Tzeentch and Chaos Knights are, I guess, having the extra HP isn't bad, and they also do magic damage too, right? So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like a lot of I'm a big fan of like Tzeentch Immortals, like Tzeentch Warriors, and even Tzeentch Chosen. I feel are pretty awesome. I mean, if there wasn't such a prevalence of Dwellers being so meta and like Pit of Shades and dominating for so long, I think we'd see more elite units. But like Tzeentch Chosen having magic damage really helps them out in a lot of the matchups, right? Where you have like, for example, against Khorne, the Exalted Bloodletters, of course, weaker to a magic damage, and yeah, there's a lot of cool techs with them. I
actually saw Tzeentch Chosen recently.
They're not bad.
Yeah. Against Khorne of all factions.
Oh yeah, that's where you bring them. Like I had a tournament game against Hadri's a while back where I went village and triple Zinch Halberd chosen, and it was like they're really devastating. Like really devastating. Because what in the Khorne roster could effectively deal with Zinch Halberds with regenerating shields and, nothing really, right? They don't have any magic, so.
Nothing that doesn't get obliterated by, like, Infernal Gateway.
Exactly. So they would bring in some of their, like, Exalted Bloodletters, and not only do you have magic damage against them with the Zinch Mortals, but you also just Infernal Gateway them. Or even Pink Fire does decent damage, too.
I think we're seeing an aerial. We're seeing an aerial for the Wood Elves.
Yeah, and some horned ones as well, which is super exciting. And what were the changes to the Rampage? Didn't they change it so Primal Instincts only has upsides now?
So it doesn't Rampage anymore.
Yeah.
It gives 5% physical resist, and also some melee attack bonuses too. Like I think it's actually fairly significant. Is it 12? Surely it's not 12, but it really, really helps the Lizardmen once it drops below 50% HP.
Yeah, it's really good. So yeah, like Dark Elves got that, Lizardmen got that. Dark Elves got a lot of crazy buffs, like in Warhammer 3, like to Bleak Swords, and obviously to those Cav units, and percentage-based healing on Soul Stealer effect is pretty good on Malekith. A lot of cool stuff. So I will take a look at the Lizard Army here real quick. We do have the double Horned ones. Now, Horned ones and heavy cavalry in general have heavily armored cavalry have always been pretty good against Wood Elves, right? Because most of the Wood Elf cavalry, like Glade Riders, Wild Riders, don't have good armor piercing, so they tend to get dominated by the heavy cav of other factions, and typically have to rely on pulling back and using their archers to take them apart and soften them up. So we'll see how that goes, but it is going to be Horned ones, Krokar, as well as a Beastcaster with Flock of Doom and Manticore Summon, very much Warhammer 2. And Krokar's great anti-large. I mean, he can certainly go after any big targets. Now, what do we have here for the Wood Elves, my friend?
Wood Elves, it's a pretty simple build. We got the Lost Sylvan Knights, very expensive elite cavalry. Got slightly nerfed with the changes to Ethereal, but extra damage. They got a little bit more glass cannony, along with Stag Knights, which have actually been quite popular recently, due to them being armor-piercing cavalry. Load of Dryads, and of course Aerial, as we mentioned before. Tempest to deal with the flying shenanigans we've seen from Sotek almost every single game. Apotheosis, and okay, Berry Wine. So she's going like basically a heal build for those very expensive cavalry units. Acorns of the Oak of Ages. Fun fact, this spell is pretty terrible now. Yeah, with the spell changes, explosive hits don't really do as much damage anymore from knocking units down. So it will do about it'll do like 7% damage to infantry and cavalry if it hits the entire unit.
Oh my god, that's awful.
Yeah, 10 damage. Like cavalry have like 150 HP, so at least it's armor piercing.
Yeah,
we have to give it that.
You got that going for you. Could be worse, right?
Compared to the Dwellers, walking the solid, like 150 damage.
God, Dwellers is so overpowered, man. I hate that spell so much. Ugh. There's always something. It's like whack-a-mole, right? We find like, oh, Pit of Shades, and then like the people move on from that and just look for the next thing, and it's like they Dwellers emerges like a week later. You're like, and we'll get you guys eventually. But looks like the standoff phase is upon us. Low ground objective going to be taken by some Saurus. I really like that play. Saurus are a really hard to move unit. They have a pretty big HP pool and leadership, and also not bad at sustained fighting. So it is going to be a Royal Rumble in the middle as we do get the first charge as the Horned ones decide to go into the Dryads as well as Aerial. And look at the big damage there. Ooh, and a big fight in the middle as well. Check that out.
Oh my gosh, that is... Oh my gosh, there's Wild Rider. The Stag Knights got just obliterated by that. I think, okay, there we go. There's a sick Acorn of the Ages. Not going to be enough to save these guys, though. That is a massive win for Sotek.
Yeah, Sotek's able to get in there, hammer down those Lost Sylvan Knights. Anti-large Spear Riders coming in, and Krokar with the Sacred Spawning of Zotl. Doesn't help him too much, but does give him physical resist against some of the basic Wild Riders and Stag Knights that were in there. As far as the flank engagement goes, good cycle charging from Sotek. He doesn't stay in sustained combat with Aerial as the spears do approach, so this is very, very clean control from him. He's able to pull back his cavalry and is going to be able to get them back in there for a charge and easily clean up those Dryads. So the initial skirmish does go to the Lore Master of Sotek a little bit, but it's not that it was super one-sided. A Berry Wine could heal up those Sylvan Knights, and on the low ground, it looks like the Dryads going to be fighting against the Saurus, but with the rear charge of Wood Elf Cavalry coming in, that point could go to the Wood Elves with some spear support as well.
Yeah, and with that, Sotek would have to choose to either try and contest the low ground, where he's sort of getting out-mobilitied, or push deep into the Wood Elf home point, where he doesn't have as much of an advantage. So a little bit sketchy. And yeah, the healing too. Lizardmen don't have any healing right now, so that will skew in the favor of the Wood Elves here. The Sylvan Knights looking pretty healthy. I think that's apotheosis on the Stag Knights too.
Yeah.
They've barely lost any entities. In fact, the Sylvan Knights haven't lost any entities, so they could be brought back all the way back to full. It's pretty massive.
And there's Ariel's Dart. When was the last time you've seen that? The I don't even know what that ability is called.
It's a quarter damage.
It's called the Dart of Doom. And it does also apply a damage weakness modifier, so you can see the weakness debuff of 25% less damage, which isn't terrible, but yeah, it's a pretty haggard ability at the end of the day, probably from a cost analysis perspective. But low ground's going to be going to the Wood Elves, and the mid ground looks like it's a pretty contested fight, but the Wood Elves have kind of gotten some decent engagements here, as like you said, those Sylvan Knights now get the Berry Wine, which is 3.2% HP per second. What is the duration on that? Looks like it's 10 seconds. Give or take, so that is like almost 40% of their HP being healed on the Sylvan Knights. Talk about cost effective, man.
Yeah, that's basically gonna put them very close to the heal cap at this point. But I think there's still a little bit of a problem for the Wood Elves. As much as they can sort of skirmish the infantry here, I don't know what they really have for Arkcard. With even a little bit of support, he's probably going to be causing a lot of issues here.
Yeah, that's a great point. Really, really good dwellers by the Wood Elves, able to hit those horn ones, and it looks like they are going to be able to partially escape that as Hotek does flee the scene. But yeah, Arkcard's going to be an absolute raid boss. We see some Eternal Guard coming out, but they're not going to be like, you know, yeah, obviously Arkcard can maneuver away from them. He can attack them with some sort of a skink unit and then just charge them in the back. And now we see Ariel on the run. Arkcard's on the hunt, man. He's looking to drag down the Queen in the Woods here. As in reinforcements, we do see some Eternal Guard and Glade Riders coming in, and the Lizards, very smart from Sotek as well, going to be buffering off with Star Spears. They'll be very, very good against this army.
The surround on Ariel actually going great for Sotek right now. He uses both of his horned ones to block up the cavalry, and that basically lets Arkcard just solo Ariel right now. Looks like a miss. So she is a relatively tanky character.
Yeah, she is.
Wouldn't expect her to go down, but it's gonna be a little bit sketchy if she takes like another massive hit and she has to worry about healing herself. Sylvan Knights have heal cap 2. They're taking a lot of damage, trying to shut down Arkcard. But oh, look at this! Maybe an overextension from Arkcard. Are you feeling? How worried do you feel about Arkcard right now?
Oh, he's definitely in a little bit of danger. I mean, he can get away, but he's not going to be able to do, you know, finish off Ariel, that's for sure. The Horned Ones were also left in sustained combat a little bit too long. You can see right here, they've both started to get broken by these Eternal Guard, which were able to kind of saturate into combat. And honestly, Samurai Warrior is like just getting a lot of momentum. Like, I know the value is even, but just looking around the battlefield, it seems like the Wood Elves have a lot of pressure going on all fronts. We see Dryads moving in here, claiming the back point, so it's going to be triple Dryad against some Sara Spears, and Ripperdactyl's a nice choice here for clearing out Dryads. But yeah, Arkcard's going to be forced back, Ariel will stabilize, and Sylvan Knights are still at 26 of 32 models, so their combat efficacy is still pretty darn good. And most of the Horn ones appear to have been dispatched, as the value lead is taken over by Samurai Warrior here.
It's very good considering that he has almost a triple cap at this point.
Yeah.
I'm still surprised that Arkcard hasn't taken more damage at this point.
Yeah.
Considering how long he's just been in the thick of it. But that's probably where Sotek's big play is. All of his infantry are sort of pretty beat up. I guess probably the Ripperdactyls too. They could probably get some sort of comeback going.
Yeah.
But it's a bit sketchy. Big charge on Arkcard. Full surround. Probably going to take a lot of damage at this point.
Yeah, I think he can just hold there. Like, if I were in, you know, Sotek's shoes, I would actually rather have him, like, just waste time surrounding Arkcard while the rest of my army value trades over here. You can see Ripperdactyl's doing a really good job against the Dryads, but now they're potentially going to be charged by a couple Stag Knights. Really nice micro, though, by Sotek. He does pull them away and gets them partially back up in the sky, but it looks like it is a triple cap for Samurai. Now, remember, Samurai's army has taken a fair amount of damage, like on Sylvan Knights and Ariel, but he's been spamming Apotheosis and Berry Wine, which has probably mitigated over, you know, 1,500 value easily, right? So realistically speaking, considering Sotek doesn't have healing, it's probably more of like a gold damage value, you know, lead for Samurai Warrior of almost 2,000 gold, I would say. And we're seeing that reflected on the battlefield, right? With a triple cap, the Lizard army looking very sparse, and Sotek really on the back foot here.
Yeah, he's like he's made back over 1,000 gold from healing the Sylvan Knights alone.
Yeah.
There's guys on the low ground which sort of show off that's the difference in gold. But you mentioned earlier, Sora Spears actually in the thick of it.
Yeah.
These guys are going to be very hard for Samurai to kill. Oh, you know, I guess unless he unless it throws down a dwellers, in which case.
Then it's very easy. Yeah.
Yeah, extremely easy. Actually, not a problem in the slightest, but there we go. They are down, and that is very bad for Sotek.
Yeah, I hesitate to call games early, but with the healing variables taken into account, I would say that this looks like it's going to be Samurai Warrior, evening up the series 1-1 here. That would be my guess. That's my early prediction, because it's just going to be so tough. Samurai is accruing a pretty substantial point lead as well, and the Lizards are going to have to push into Wood Elf territory, which is now going to be buffered off by a lot of archers, which can pressure Krokgar. We do see some horned ones coming out, very, very tattered. But yeah, Samurai still has his Sylvan Knights. Man, those Sylvan Knights going hard. They got 2,000 value this game, man. Really not bad at all.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, almost on the mark. Though, I guess they did get healing to make that value, but
Yes.
usually when a unit pays for its own value, it doesn't count for stuff that they routed off.
Yeah.
So quite a bit for them. Though I will say it is still a pretty pitched battle. Look at that, the Colossadons are back in it again.
Yeah. Colossadons will be okay here. I don't think it's going to be as good of a summon, considering that though the Wood Elves still do have some great Stag Knights, a lot of their army is transitioning to infantry. We see Double Archer coming out. We see Spear coming out, Dryads from the Vanguard. There are Dryad and Spears on the low ground. So I think Lizards probably... It's tricky, man. Wood Elves just have so much more than them on the battlefield. Samurai is up 78 to 6.5 right now. And realistically, like we've been talking about with healing, that it's actually probably much more than that. I just think the gold value on the battlefield heavily favors Samurai Warrior. Krokgar is being taken down and poked by spears and archers, and the Colossadon hunters probably aren't going to do much, as we see the other Ripperdactyls on the run right now as well. Tempest, too. Tempest is on the table.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Although, let's see how much Winds of Magic Ariel has. Seems like either choosing to save Winds of Magic, let's see, because he has been spamming a lot of Dwellers.
Yeah.
That is a very expensive spell at 17 Winds of Magic.
Yes.
So he might be empty at this point. Though we haven't seen a D-summon just yet.
Yeah, we haven't. Lizards haven't even been able to really get their home objective back, which is very precarious. We do see the Mass Skin Cord coming out now, which I think is good. I think that's like the right direction, you know, kind of buffer Krokgar a little bit, but Krokgar seems to be having some trouble as well, as he's kind of wandering around the periphery of the battlefield looking for an engagement. You can see he's trying to escape with his beloved Colossadon hunters, which are not having a good time at all. Basic Wood Elf archers are just some of the best in the game, and beautiful Tempest is going to be coming down. This will basically seal doom for that unit. It does a lot of damage, and will be able to kind of slow them down by, I think, 70%? 66%. So, GG to those Colossadon hunters. And now Samurai Warrior can grab all these infantry that are pretty much freed up, just move to the Objective 1. And even if Sotek's able to wrestle Objective 1, it's going to take him a ton of effort to get 3 as well as 2.
That tornado is sort of going crazy. You have to remember the fact that we also have a 700 victory ticket lead for Samurai Warrior. If he wants to take it slow and play for value, he definitely can.
Yeah, Sotek's more in desperation mode now, right? He's like having to send just quick capture weight units on to get points, and he probably will get his home point back. Samurai can always just chill on Objective 2 and, play the 2 cap like you said, and just, kind of focus on value and efficacy. Really just the burden is on Sotek here. Is there what Lizard unit, so let's say you were in Sotek's position right now, what would be like the one unit on your wish list you would just like to have in your pocket that you could just bring out? Would it be like a solar engine to start value trading? Is that too late for that considering your opponent's too far ahead? Would it be more cavalry, maybe like a horned one to get down there and try and get 3? What would you be thinking right now?
Something that Sota could actually afford, I think an Arc of Sota could actually do really good. There's only one Starfire Shaft, loads of infantry, great versus the cavalry.
Yeah.
If I was uncapped on price, a Shredder of Lustre would probably win it for Sotek right now.
Yeah, saving up for that. What is a Shredder, 3,000 plus something? It's just
1,000 almost.
And look at Samurai as well. Look at his supplies. He is banking 2,600. I don't know if that's because of inefficient unsummoning, or if he's just trying to lull because now it looks even, right? Sotek's been spending his money, and the armies look similar in size. But yeah, I think Samurai honestly just forgot to summon things, and now he's just kind of just going to be spamming out whatever he can here, because he could resummon Lost Sylvan Knights here in a minute, 100%.
Yeah, he's probably saving up money for that exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the times, these super high impact units, people will just leave some bank, after they route off the battlefield, they come back in 30 seconds anyways.
Yeah.
Pretty short price to pay, and then you get them immediately.
Looks like it's going to be Dryad Vanguards on the side of the map. Not a bad idea. Dryads trade incredibly efficiently against Skink cohorts with their 36 melee attack and high weapon strength against the low defensive stats and armor of Skink cohorts, making that quite optimal. Though they don't enjoy being javelined, that is for sure. Spears coming up, Aerial still chilling, and yeah, I mean, Blade War Dancers are okay here. I've never liked them against lizards that much, simply because of chameleons, but yeah, I mean, assuming they're not getting shot, they should do well.
Yeah, and in this case, most of the range tools are shut down. They could do all right. Though Eternal Guard tend to be, Eternal Guard and Dryads tend to be the bread and butter infantry.
Yeah.
These guys are okay, Anti-infantry. They also have the Shadow's Coil. A really interesting ability that swaps, melee defense for melee attack.
Yeah.
Though most of the time, I think most will just run these guys vanilla.
And Christmas.
And look at that!
Christmas coming a little bit early here, as we do see the Christmas cap coming in. The Great Stag Knights going to be rear charging into the Skinks, and will give you some stopping power against Krokar, because most of this Wood Elf army here isn't terribly effective against Big Boy Krokar. So maybe the old Great Stag Knights can kind of turn around and go after him. We'll have to see. Krokar does jump in, attacking Aerial here, but Samurai now using all of his Vanguard summons to really push back the Lizard army, maintaining his value lead. I think we're going to be seeing Sotek in some trouble here.
Yeah, Manticore summon, it'll do all right, but will probably disintegrate before it's able to kill everything here.
Yeah, Manticore summons are good. I mean, they have really high weapon strength against light armor, which is most of the Wood Elf roster. I would say that Manticore summons in general were definitely more meta in an environment like land battles, where they could do irreparable damage, or there's not going to be reinforcements coming in. You really feel it more. Granted, I still think they have a niche here, but certainly not as much as they did in Warhammer 2 land battles. Sotek coming in with Ripperdactyls, going to be trying to land. Their bonus versus infantry not going to be terribly pertinent against all these Wood Elf Cav units, and still 2 archers in the backfield, going to put a lot of hurt on those guys.
Yeah. A little right off those guys, but man, look at that. Full HP Great Stag Knights. Oh, look at that. Another Doom. What is it called? The something of Doom?
Arrow of Doom, yes. It's such a rare spawn of an ability. You should do a video on it. I don't think people know it exists. But
oh boy. Yeah, Aerial, despite landing 3 of those darts, only 2,000 gold value.
That's about,
actually the Skink Priest did more.
I think that's around what she costs, which is surprising. Yeah. But there was some good utility plays too, though. We got to give her more credit than that, because she healed. The berry wine heals were huge. The apotheosis was really big. So she certainly brought a lot to the battlefield. But yeah, overall, a solid victory by the Wood Elves there. And that's going to be tying up the series 1-1, ladies and gentlemen, as we go into the rubber match, which is going to be on the best map in the history of domination mode, Silver Spire. So let us go ahead and fire that bad boy up. We're here. The good time shall roll. What will the text be?
No. Silver Spire, Turin.
I think
Silver Spire.
Oh wait, that's our last map today, isn't it?
Yes, and then free for all.
Oh god, Silver Spire. Ugh.
Now, just dig into the magnificence of this map real quick. All right.
Yeah.
We have 2 lanes into the middle point, and and a lot of trees. It is a tree. It is a fairly heavily forested map. So you actually don't have much of that outside of Grove of Slaughter, right?
Yeah, Grove of Slaughter. I mean, and again, if we're talking like custom maps that we use for tournaments, there's a couple of good ones. But yeah, it's not like this doesn't have like big forests that are terribly obstructive for missiles. Like missiles work here. More of the issue with this one is choke points, right? So like you can really get caught and stuffed in kind of like narrow like choke points, and pathing's a little bit strange on some of the sides. But overall, as far as this map goes, who does this map favor? Probably Lizardmen, right? Because they can utilize some of the trees to like line of sight Wood Elf archers, and with the choke points, they have some really nice effects like banishments, ruination, dwellers, all that kind of stuff that I think should be pretty strong, right?
Yeah, I think. What's it? Well, wait, you said samurai?
Yeah, well, I think it might favor. Like, I'm not saying like based on the player's like skill per se, but
yeah.
I think like Lizardmen might prefer the choke point thing, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Silver Spire. It doesn't favor really wide range lines, which Wood Elves prefer.
Yeah.
It doesn't really favor cavalry. Just because of the nature of the choke point in the center. Sort of battering ram type factions that, loads of shielded infantry that can really just push you back, have a really easy time securing ground on this map.
Yeah.
So I feel like Lizardmen are pretty happy here.
Yeah, I think they'll enjoy it. I mean, you could totally go for like What do you think about the playstyle against elves too, of having like the classic distraction Carnifex? So like in Warhammer Tabletop, there's a Tyrannid unit called a Carnifex, which is like it's like a big tanky alien basically, right? So ideally you send the Carnifex in and your opponent like focuses it with everything, and then the rest of your army just shines, right? Do you think we could see that strategy from Sotek, like a giant Dread Saurian with like 15,000 HP, double Rev Crystal, like being over focused by the Wood Elves while the rest of the lizards like capture and trade efficiently?
100%.
Yeah.
I think a Dreadsorian, there's not a lot of space to kite back. Legit could do pretty well. Alternatively, it gets focus fired and dies immediately, but it really depends on what they decide to build.
Yeah.
I feel like legit, Saurian could kill a lot here. We've seen Samurai actually have a 50-50 pick rate on melee builds to sort of ranged mixed builds. And I feel like a Dreadsorian could be quite apt.
What if Dryka comes back, dude? Or Durthu? I think like for the sake of today's charity tournament that we're having, I think Durthu needs to make an appearance. He needs to come and establish himself as the king of the trees here. And honestly, how would Durthu fare against a Dreadsorian? Probably not that good, right?
I think Durthu loses that one.
Yeah.
Saurian is intense. Like a normal Saurian, I think Durthu would win it. The Regiment of Renown one is just like a Durthu has what? 10,000 HP?
Yeah, somewhere in that ballpark. It might even be less. Might be like 8, 9, 10, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. The Shredder of Lustria is just tremendously more tanky.
Yeah.
Though it would be a fun tussle to watch.
We did see Samurai in one of his earlier games today. He brought triple Waywatcher, Durthu, and Treeman. We could see something similar to that, like it's kind of screening and buffering with the two big trees, and then. But I really feel if you want to do like Durthu, you need some sort of healing. I guess you could go Durthu with no spells and like Sword of Daith for like a little bit of AoE, and then just bring like a Branch Wraith for some Earth Floods. Like I feel like you need healing with Durthu, right?
Yeah, almost always you'd see like I think sometimes there's like a Spell Singer, sometimes it's a Branch Wraith, but like without healing, it's like you're losing so much value.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like the thing is, he doesn't die to skinks, so you did see this back in land battles for Warhammer 2. Chameleon skinks just burn all of their ammo on him.
I think like a competitive option for the Wood Elves too, which I don't think we'll see, would be a Tree Man. So an Ancient Tree Man, just with like a Dweller's Earthblood combo. I feel like that's always been pretty good. He's like a nice middle ground between like a brawler character, someone who can go fisticuffs with the dinos, but also like can bring your magic utility. You don't have to spend on another caster. So he could totally fight a character like Nakai, for example. So maybe maybe we'll see a Tree Man. Who knows?
Yeah, it's sort of like the balancing of the scales. Who's going to go slightly stronger?
Yeah.
Because optimally, you want to have a slight advantage on the single entity front.
Yeah.
To get the most value. Or you go all in and get that Dreadsorian.
Have Wood Elves been something you've been training at all? Like, I know, like, what would you say for yourself, or your like your top 3 factions that you're best at, and where do Wood Elves lie in the spectrum of factions that you've like trained a lot? Do you think they're underrated, or do you think they like need some improvements in terms of balancing? What are your overall thoughts on Wood Elves?
Honestly, I haven't played them a load.
Yeah,
but I find that they really suffer versus rush factions. They don't have the time to kite or the flanking anymore.
Yeah.
But it feels like they're like almost there. Like even a minor buff could kick them into A or S tier.
Yeah.
Especially because of like the Starfire Shaft type builds on maps like Itza, let's say.
Yeah.
Basically what you see is like they have the range to just force the enemy to fight at the spawn point, and then they just they summon right on top of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I think they're kind of like because I think they're sitting around a 40-50% win rate right now, which isn't bad. Certainly a lot better than the last seasons we've had, but I don't know what it is. They do struggle against rush factions. Like I feel like factions like Khorne can trade really well into them. Just shielded warriors with like flesh hounds and like all that stuff is so incredibly nasty. Hey, look at that, Gorok, your boy, he finally made it versus Dryka. Oh, that's actually kind of a fun one with Lord Croak. This is it's a good way to end the day, man. Looks like we got some cool, fun units, both of which may have some viability here. I guess Croak, his explosions, do they do fire damage as well?
Oh, I'm gonna guess yes, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, because that could be like decent utility against Dryads. Like I feel like at the highest levels of like sweaty play, like Croak is kind of haggard because people are just really good at dodging his effects, but maybe he's going to be able to kind of bombard archers and Dryads with his like level 1 deliverance of pizza. What do you think?
It only takes a few hits to rapidly swing the game.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, if things get hectic enough. Though this map is it's one of the least hectic maps out there. Looks like Deliverance only does magic damage too. But against archers, it's almost perfect. Like a level 2 Itza would probably rout them off. And would also be very hard to dodge too.
Yeah. No, 100%. I love the just the Bronze League combos with those type of spells too, where you have like a net combo and you just drop those bombardments. It's so much fun. But yeah, you guys can see what we're talking about. Very, very narrow passages with which to move your army. For the Lizard army, it's going to be the Legion of Shaqua, which is very good. If you guys haven't seen these guys, they do have a missile resist, a kind of activated ability, so very nice to have near Croak if they're trying to alpha strike him or any big dinos. And yeah, mainly going to be Spherosaurus. We do have an Arc of Sotek, or Solar Engine. Okay, kind of going back to Warhammer 2, with Gorak looking to anchor on the objective. So now, it looks like Samurai is coming in with his signature style, huh?
Yeah. The Treekin build. It's what we've seen earlier. This time with a few more range units. So some Glade Guard, 2 Starfire Shafts. But aside from that, it's trees into the horizon. We got Dryads. We got the Treekin. Firebark Elders are special because they give 20% fire resist.
Ooh.
It's actually negates the fire weakness that these guys would otherwise have.
Yeah.
They minus 25. And of course, Drychut, Pit of Shades for the Saurus. And then her summons. It looks like this should win against the Lizardmen frontline fight, I'd say.
Yeah, the Lizard front line isn't bad. I mean, it's still Saurus are going to take a long time to drag down, and the Lizards do have the advantage of having, a pretty decent combat character in Gorok and the Snake Launcher on the Arc of... Oh, no, that's not a Snake Launcher. That's right, it's a Solar Engine. And the Firebark Elders will be imbuing the Fire buff, which will mitigate the damage of the Solar Engine, assuming it shoots into that blob there. Granted, I think the Solar Engine will most likely shoot into the archers in the back. A lot of what, Silver Spire comes down to, typically if both players are playing optimally, it's just kind of a grind for the middle because it's so incredibly tough to get your opponent's back objective. With these like choke points, they can easily just kind of buffer off. So I think we're just going to be seeing like an old school land battle-esque Royal Rumble in the middle. That would be my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think so for sure. Not unless someone manages to pull a crazy lead, but just the transition, you're asking to get flanked by cavalry if you try to get to their back point.
Yeah.
Though, because of that, it does mean that usually you want to get your back point captured pretty quickly. As, if you have a sort of a toss-up in the middle. You might end up losing on points. And look at that. Chameleon Skinks instantly ambushed by cavalry. That is a terrible charge.
Yeah, that was really good damage. My goodness. Like, I've seen Wild Riders do less damage than that. But those, like, Glade Riders... got in there and just ran over those Chameleon Skinks. I guess, impact can sometimes be a little bit tricky, but that's a big loss for Sotek initially, and Samurai Warrior trying to establish himself as the King of the Woods in today's War of the Woods tournament. And Lizard squaring up. I think some pizza is going to be delivered. We do see Solar Engine shots going down, and some topical damage has come in, but the Firebark Elder is certainly not the target you want to be shooting with the Solar Engine. That is for sure.
Yeah, any damage. You don't even have the fire weakness either. So they just straight up take 20% less.
Yeah, it was barely any damage. Looks like they took like 200 or 300. Poor Chameleon Skinks on the flank just got absolutely run over. But I have to say, it's kind of cathartic to see Chameleon Skinks being taken out. They are probably one of the most frustrating units to play against. And now we just have the big mouth-breathing frontline engagement. It's just going to be Saurus versus Treekin and Dryads. But maybe, do you think Dryko will pick a fight with Gorok to try and get her buff active? What do you think?
Pretty scary for her. Gorok can tear her apart real fast. And the thing is like, if she gets routed off here, it's a risky play, but she does have a lot of space to fall back in. Oh, look at that. Nice Shield of the Old Ones.
It's the Supreme Shield of the Old Ones. It's Supreme.
Yeah. Oh, but the Pit of Shades actually gets canceled because of the Dino. That's actually going to sort of ignore the effect of this extra ward save. And if that comes in a little bit later, it could do more damage. Croak going for some AoEs. Just AoEs into the horizon here. But I think Croak probably not going to do too much versus Treekin here.
Yeah, we see a pizza being delivered in the back line, so it's going to go down on the branch rates right here and the Dryads. And, pretty good damage against the Dryad core. Pit of Shades, though, really, really nice. That's like a beauty. just tearing up those Saurus spears. Pterodon Riders looking to dive into the archers. Obviously, Samurai does have a nice engagement here, but that Pit of Shades is brutal, and I think Samurai may be starting to get decent trades, but we could see what happened earlier, where Dryka takes like 50% damage and then suddenly starts to go Super Saiyan with her AoE buffs on the Treekin. Pizza being delivered in the back looks like it's going to be dodged.
Yep, or maybe not.
Oh!
Partial dodge. That's pretty good damage, actually. I think a rock drop on those Starfire shafts would probably get them routed even. And we have to remember, in this case, it is not a single Nurgle sort of unclean one fighting here. You know, we have the Rev Crystal and Gorok and actually very elite infantry.
Yeah.
The Treekin might suffer a bit more versus this.
They might. And as far as reinforcements go, it looks like it's going to be Pterodon Riders coming in from the back. We did get a somewhat efficient rock drop, but Samurai Warrior was able to respond and kind of shooting at the Pterodons and routing them off despite the cold blood. But those archers firing just kind of sustained over the course of the game is going to be very problematic. Croak does not really have the capabilities to juke effectively as an SEM, single entity model, so he is being popped. He is on fire. He is weak to fire. And losing Croak would be pretty devastating for sure, as it looks like there's going to be another pizza delivery going down here. Let us go ahead and see what kind of damage this does, my friend.
Looks like a nice dodge from the Dryads. Gonna be, well, you know, the summon Dryads will get obliterated, but, you know, these Dryads pulling away does actually help out quite a bit, though. It does open up one of the flanks for the Saurus to pop, to jump on top of the Glade Guard. And once those guys are down, I think the middle fight does go to Gorok here. He is quite a beast.
Yeah.
Drycha getting trading actually fairly evenly with him.
She's
but he does have healing, so
he does. Yeah, she's a deceivingly good fighter though, Dryka. She can also just pull back through her Treekin and stand on the other side of them. And Treekin with high melee attack will absolutely dominate Saurus. Granted, the Legion of Chaqua not doing bad here, but it looks like Samurai Warrior had that exact same thought. And is going to be trying to punish them with the Pit of Shades, which I think is a very, very strong play. One big issue for Sotek is, due to the nature of this map, that it's like such a choke point. You know, I guess my kind of speculation as to it favoring the Lizards was a little bit off. I didn't really think of the concaved archer line. Is that these archers are just kind of shooting, and it's incredibly tough for the Lizards to do anything, simply because they can't really get around them effectively. They're having to take the classic Homer Simpson approach of just like, you remember back that like the old Simpsons episode when Homer Simpson gets into boxing and like he's just like, he's like a terrible boxer, but he just like is great at getting punched in the face and just like can just take it all day. That's like what the Lizards are having to do here. They're taking the Homer Simpson push as the Glade Guard basically just massacre every Lizard unit that moves in.
Yeah, like the Legion of Chaqua was a nice pick to secure the middle, but they, you know, most of the range are just retargeting elsewhere.
Yeah.
And like all of these skirmishers are getting routed off. You know, honestly, I feel like a Shredder of Lustria might have been able to do it here.
Yeah, because they're not all Starfire shafts. Two of them are, one isn't. So I think that 2 Rev Crystals plus a Saurian and even a Slann could easily heal through that and mitigate a lot of that damage. We do see some flanking attempts coming in from the Lizards. Skank cohorts coming in the side, but Samurai Warrior really on point with his flanks today. As the Glade Rider Spears get around, some of the clever girls, Velociraptors, do come in here and get buffered down by Treekin as well as Eternal Guard. So ultimately, decent diving attempts, but Samurai continues to maintain his 1,000 value lead. And I don't know if Samurai has any healing in his army. Didn't he have a Branch Wraith in tandem with Dryka? He does, so he does actually have healing for Dryka here.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say it's still definitely far from over. If we take a look at Dryka, she is taking quite a bit of damage, all the way down to half HP soon. Still has a lot of single entities to fight here, and the Treekin aren't doing nearly as well as earlier. I don't even know. Yeah, they don't actually have armor-piercing damage, so they only do decently against things like Gorok and this Bastillodon.
Yeah, Dryka's happy to be at half health, though, because of the Fanatic resolve. So I think right now she's giving plus 15 melee attack and plus 15% base damage to nearby units. So even just with that, with like Eternal Guards, I don't know if it actually affects missile damage. I don't think it does. I think it's just pure combat stats. But man, those Treekin are just so tanky. Like 14 models here on this one. The other one's sitting at 9 models. The Firebark Elders at 13. And the Legion of Chaqua is being worn down, so the anti-large capabilities of the Lizards are rapidly dwindling, and they're starting to just more desperately throw things into the back line, which appears to just be kind of chain routes, as the archers are just perpetually able to outmaneuver your boy Croak, who's certainly going to be croaking here in a minute if he's not careful.
Yeah, it's extremely low, and he's gone. Man. Now that is very rough. He probably had quite a bit of Winds of Magic left, and no more Supreme Shield of the old ones. Means that that is basically buffs for the entire game now gone.
Yeah.
I feel like this probably comes down to Gorok and the single entities. Maybe this grind goes well though. If we look at the Lizardmen, this long flank along the far side has actually done a pretty good job at, disturbing all of the Wood Elf range units. And without them shooting and sort of getting into a more melee grind situation, it might go a little bit better here.
I think the grind will massively favor the Wood Elves, like massively. Like Dryka buffing these Eternal Guard up to 41 melee attack. The Glade Riders are going to be plus 40 melee attack as well, crushing down these Saurus Warriors. They still have magic. They have Earthblood. They have Pit of Shades. Treekin are just holding back that Bastillodon Rev Crystal, and the Legion of Jaqua is basically a wet noodle here against the Dryads, right? Like spear units typically aren't terribly effective at cutting through troops. Sotek's down, 2,200 value at this point. Both sides do have healing. Sotek's healing may mitigate some of that value, but we've also seen Earthbloods going down over the course of the game. And yeah, man, it's just feeling like the Lizards are running out of steam here as this, once again, the dreaded Treekin Dryka build. I think all the pro Total War players are in here taking notes on this build, fervently writing on their notepads. But maybe there's a little something. Look at the Firebark Elders, 49 melee attack on those dudes, man.
It is really impressive. I think especially against lower armored factions, something to consider.
Yeah.
Especially if you can get Drycha down to lower HP, right? Because either, it's hard to just ignore her too, right?
Yeah.
She has like 60 melee attack base, so she does a lot of damage.
She's like a decent character too. I mean, Shadows is a pretty good Lord of Magic in general. Like Pit of Shades is a very, very good spell. Just even after the nerfs, it's still a decent, not quite as good as Dwellers, but functional. And, Malevolent Dryad summons are useful. She used to have 2 charges when she first came out, which would be pretty strong now. But yeah, it's great usage from that. Good AoE buffs. Kind of Sigvald-esque in terms of like her capability of holding objectives with 80 armor. And look at her rocking 80 melee attack right now. And yeah, this entire Wood Elf blob just totally augmented. And once again, Sotek just kind of sending in quick units. We get Razordons coming in. What do you think the application is? I guess just trying to kill the Treekin, huh?
I think so. They've been a thorn in Sotek's side for the entire battle. They've just blocked up that entire middle area and just gave his infantry a hard time. Razordon's actually, with their armor piercing, that's actually a good option for them, but a little bit too late at this point.
Yeah.
As most of the infantry is gone. And unless Gorok can win against everything here.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah. I don't think he has the time even. Given 10 minutes, I don't think he kills this Wood Elf.
It would probably take him like 30 minutes, and he might even lose too, because Eternal Guard have decent AP, with their stats being buffed. Branch rates aren't terrible fighters. There are archers nearby, but shooting at Gorok and a blob isn't really going to be functional. We see Eternal Guard or Azrai Spears coming out for Samurai Warrior in the back. Meanwhile, the Razordons are hunted down by some cheap Glade Riders, which is very unfortunate. And I think you raised a really good point when you said that if we had maybe seen Razordons in the initial opening, in that blob fight, like just shooting at the Treekin, they could potentially be gone by now, right? And then maybe the fighting would have gone a little bit different. Yeah,
look, with 90 armor too, they are like fairly resistant to missiles. They're not like the easiest things to shut down ever for the Glade Guard.
Yeah.
Of course, you'd still need some way of shutting them down, but Croak can keep them moving. Possibly a play could have been made there, but I don't think anyone really expects Treekin to be such a nuisance until today.
Yeah, I've seen them be relatively effective. Like factions that typically don't bring a lot of AP infantry, like maybe Treekin would have some applications against Beastmen as well, right? Because Beastmen with like Goreherds, Ungors, Raiders, like they could just kind of counter all of those units theoretically. And Dryka could probably survive being hunted, although Torox would be pretty good at hunting Dryka, that's for sure. But yeah, if she's hiding amongst Treekin, certainly tough to bring her down. Big cap charge, Wild Riders in the back. Looks like the Razordon Hunters are at the end of the rope.
Yeah, Razordon's down. Now, the Solar Engine does live. Solar Engine, there's not much in the Wood Elf army to kill it, but it's a very low DPS unit. It can more or less be ignored at this point.
Yeah.
Gorok going down.
Dwayne Gorok Johnson in a little bit of trouble here. He does have his physical resist, however, Dryka does do magic damage, and many of the Wood Elf units do. Not going to be terribly helpful, as his giant shield is not going to be saving him from the Wrath of the Forest, which I think is a very fitting way to potentially end today's tournament with a glorious Wood Elf victory, of course. And if you guys are just joining, this is a charity stream supporting Ecosia, which is going to help combat deforestation by financing planting sites around the globe. So make sure to check out the link in chat if you guys are interested in supporting that charity. is working with Creative Assembly. And, yep, looks like the trees are rolling, man. Gorok at 76 HP. Any closing thoughts here in this Duel of Fates?
No, I feel like definitely Sotek's build had a good shot at it. Although I will say it's some impressive dodges, not getting pizza too much.
Yeah.
With Croak only at 600 gold damage. I think that, you know, like even a couple good deliverances probably could have swung it, but Samurai really showing off his multiplayer expertise here. Just really shutting that down, and a fancy build on top of that too. You know, the Drycha Treekin, something you don't see every day, but has a little bit of teeth.
I'm stealing it.
I will say I'm surprised with how well it did.
I'm gonna just have like a power fantasy about how good this build is. I'm gonna go play in the tournament and I'm gonna lose the first game. That's the plan. Yeah, it's you know.
I'm not gonna risk it. You can try it first though. I'd be happy to see it.
Yeah. I'll give it a try. So now, ladies and gentlemen, the winner of today's tournament. The stream is not over yet. We have some more action coming, but the winner of today's tournament is going to be the Samurai Warrior and the Wood Elves. So the Wood Elves have won the War of the Woods, which is certainly no surprise. Look at that. Power of technology. Dragged his name over there. Samurai Warrior is today's winner of the Ecosia Charity Tournament. And congratulations to all the other players. Great games from Lore Master of Sotek, Arkcard, and Elkai. And now I think it's time for the dreaded FFA. I know we've had some lag today. It's been a little bit rough. So apologies for that, but hopefully you guys still enjoyed it. And now we will try and have a 4-player game and see how it goes. So you want to check in with the players and see if they're still there. Worst case, Anticity and I could jump in and play if the other two aren't still here. So no worries. Yes, we'll have some fun. Pizza will be delivered one way or the other. So for the maps on the FFA, let's go ahead and switch to a forested map to keep it in character. Let's do the Woodland Ravine. That one's pretty wild. Have you seen that one?
Woodland Ravine.
Yes.
This one is...
It has like a giant king of the hill in the middle.
Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that one's like trees for days.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gotta
that one's quite fun, though.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It changes up the dynamics of the builds, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. You know, whereas like Desert Canyon, you're going to be seeing, you know, typical kind of, you can see bow lines, gun lines, different things like that. But all right, one sec here.
Yeah, we're just gathering the players.
Perfect. So they're on their way in. Let me check the messages here.
Looks like we might have a chance of jumping in.
I'm down to play, dude. I would have a lot of fun with that.
Honestly, watching games,
yeah,
makes me itchy for a fight. But I think the players are.
Well, Elkai is here, so if Arkcard is still here, then if he's not, then we can have you jump in and just be the Dark Lord. You'll be like the Sauron, just emerging with the giant mace and just hammering everyone aside.
Super try hard.
Yeah, you just come in with like the most filthy, sweaty, awful build. You just be like at the beginning of the Lord of the Rings trilogy when he's just like battling and just swinging his mace. Oh my god!
Hopefully that we're saved from that. Arkcard does have he has arrived. Just needs a password.
Man, if we manage to get through this without a lot of lag, I'm gonna be very shocked.
Yeah, there's no way, man. There's no way.
Oh god.
It's too bad. We actually had our smooth game earlier today, but I guess just the midday.
You know, the lag seems to have been falling Samurai Warrior, so hopefully he can. Hopefully,
I wasn't gonna name names.
Hopefully, he can solve that in it for his own sake. But
yeah, it's great. We had a time where for a while we would just lag if we saw each other at all. Like it would be terrible.
I think it was only when we were both streaming though, because you and I we would both be streaming at the same time when we were doing those winter stays on, and I think it just was like punishing our bandwidth too much, and it just caused issues. You know.
Yeah.
That's my.
Actually, I'm upgrading my internet, so that maybe I'll be lagless forever.
What kind of upload speed do you have right now?
Oh, it's like terrible. I think it's like 10 watts.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah. Well, it's getting upgraded to 30. So.
Yeah, that's like what mine caps at like 25, 30, and it's like great. Like,
oh yeah.
You won't need more than that, you know.
Yeah. At that point, that'll be enough for like anything. And it's gonna be great for uploading videos though.
Oh yeah, you're gonna love it, man. It'll be great. All right, let's get rid of these. Cut this. Get rid of the scoreboard. So guys, this is the ceremonial FFA.
Yeah, place your bets.
It's an opportunity for a moral victory for those who have fallen. So maybe we'll see. We should. Okay, unit caps are on. Good. I was going to say, if you don't do unit caps, you're going to get like 15 Dreadsaurians running around. You know, it'll be one of those kind of mass war wagon FFAs.
Oh boy, yeah, Empire. Oh man, Empire and free for alls. The war wagon.
They're really good. They're really good.
Yeah.
Don't forget to switch the map also to so they know which one we're doing.
Oh yeah, I gave Sotek the map.
We could also do Troll Country.
Woodland Ravine, right?
Troll Country could be good. And if we have lag, Troll Country will end faster. Maybe we should do that. Let's do that. There's trees there.
Yeah.
Because if it's really laggy and we're on a big FFA map, it's just going to be brutal. So I think we should probably go to Troll Country.
Yeah, I'm swaying. I'm letting him know.
Yeah, do it, brother. Do it. We'll get there. So how's everyone in chat doing today? You guys all doing good? Thank you for joining. It's been a fun little adventure.
Yeah.
I'm here with the great Anticity. If you guys haven't seen him on YouTube, he does all sorts of fun stuff. Make sure to check him out, and I too also do YouTube. And yeah, that's pretty much the jam. Thanks to CA for putting this on. And we'll see who's going to be the honorary King in the Woods. This is like getting an honorary degree from a college here. This one, it's like the second one.
All right. But the thing is, who though? Who? Surely not Nurgle, right? Nurgle.
No, Nurgle's actually not bad in FFA because they have the healing. You can go double Nurgle Soul Grinder, which I know I've been hyping all day, and you can just sit back and like accrue value with them, and just move in with a bunch of Marauder Horsemen too. Nurgle has some weird degenerate ways to play in FFA. Although Lizardmen are for sure the strongest FFA faction, hands down.
Really? No Wood Elf kite action? No,
they're too flimsy. It's like if they get 2v1'd or caught, like it's so hard for them to survive. Like Lizardmen are so durable and grindy. I think their playstyle really suits FFA well, unless they get teamed. Obviously, we'll have to see how that all unfolds. Yeah, you have not named yourself in the time. My name is Turin. Yeah, Turin. I do YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, we sort of just assume that everyone knows about you.
Yeah. It's all good.
You've been like casting CA streams for like
years,
ages now.
Years. The boomer. I think the first one we did was TwitchCon. We did one in TwitchCon in like 2017. I think was the first one I ever did. A long time ago, dude. That was like 5 years ago, man.
Yeah. Now we're here. Warhammer 3.
I know, crazy times. And then we had the Everchosens. Those were really fun.
Yeah.
Because before all the madness, we got to go into the studio and do that and meet everyone. That was really fun. Oh, look, it's gonna be Chehenowin coming in. So Sotek finally bringing his namesake, and no healing though, which is tricky for lizards in FFA. I feel like you really want it. I like Samurai's build a lot. He went with like a mobile build, which is so important in FFA. I think the highest win rate builds in free for all are mobility builds. It just makes you so much tougher to snipe for sure. Yeah.
And let's see here. Okay, well, I guess we'll alternate. I'll start off with Nurgle. Speaking of mobility, we do have some dogs and chariots. And that is the end of the mobility because it's an exalted great unclean one. Loads of heals, stream of corruption. The usual, just mega anti-blob text. And of course, Uncle Funkle. Fan favorite of the Nurgle forces, with a piece of Nurgle too. And a Chaos War Shrine. Okay, so this is pretty much pure blob, but and a chariot. But
yeah,
to contest that, it seems like the Lizardmen are up against that. What are we seeing there?
Yeah, so it's a pretty standard. Yeah, he's got some monster mash. No healing though, which is a little bit going to be tough in FFA. Ribberdactyls, various mishmash of various skinks and whatnot. We do have the Thunderous One, the Ark of Sotek, and Engine of the Gods. Certainly some big point magnets. I mean, they can get some huge points for sure with some of those abilities. But look at the crazy Vanguard. So Wood Elves, we saw, they have mass mobility. But Beastmen with a mass Vanguard of the Wood Elves, oh my god, are you seeing this Vanguard situation over here? Look at this.
They Vanguarded each other.
Oh
backs to themselves. It's going to be a massacre. There's no way that fight lasts longer than a minute.
Yeah, this is gonna be great. And why is it that we seem to be having less lag with additional players in here? Is it maybe because we switched the host up? Huh.
Well, like we didn't switch the host for the FFA. I think it's just the curse of lag, man.
Yeah, actually no. Okay, it looks about the same. It's good. It gives us more time to give in-depth analysis. But anyways, the battle does start here, and the Wood Elves of Samurai Warrior immediately spot the Beastmen Vanguard of Arkcard. And it looks like there's going to be a huge Wood Elf sandwich coming, and I think the Beastmen are going to pay the troll toll here pretty hard.
Oh yeah, they have Malagor in the air. Not the best fighter in the world. He will go down to the Hawk Riders.
Flock of Doom, though.
And the Sylvan Knights too.
Yeah.
Anything kill the Sylvan Knights for the Beastmen?
For the Beastmen army, I mean, Malagor himself, strangely enough, doesn't do... Whoa, look at that. Acorn to the Ages or something. Oh, that was actually... what was that? Did you see that spell going down to the Beastmen army right there?
I saw something purple.
Yeah.
Is that what was that? Is that a Malagor ability?
I don't even know what that was. It'll be a conspiracy till the day we die here. But Lost Sylvan Knights do get tagged with the Flock of Doom. And, you know, ever since they changed the ethereal units, it's not quite as brutal as it was before with the 90% plus physical resist. So they do still get worn down a little bit. Wood Elf Cavalry, good engagements here. You can see the two chariots get hammered and the Minotaurs get surrounded by Wild Riders. Overall, a very favorable engagement for Samurai Warrior, I would say.
I would also like to note that Sotek is beelining it towards the Wood Elves.
Yeah.
He is, just not a fan of taking an engagement against Nurgle. I would say that's probably a good idea. And is looking to pick up the scraps. Probably going to want to clean up there. And maybe his plan is to just clean up the end of this 1v1. And then possibly just kite Nurgle for the rest of the game.
So here's my predictions. I think Samurai Warrior is going to win the game on points. And I think Nurgle will be the last man standing. Would you agree with that? Do you think it'll be maybe Lizardmen last man standing? What are your thoughts overall?
With only 2 chameleon skinks, I think Samurai doesn't win on points.
No?
Yeah, I feel like Sotek, after fighting the rest of Samurai and then fighting Nurgle, I feel like the Lizardmen might be able to get it, especially with, I feel like the 2 skinks is enough to get value.
Yeah.
But Sotek would end up losing. That's my theory.
Dude, but Wood Elves are just farming so many points right now. I mean, Arkcard is getting points, but he's losing the fight, which pretty much will probably take him out of the game. Some people in chat are asking how FFA works. So very simplistically speaking, you get points for doing damage to enemy armies. Army losses are essentially removed, so your armies get to fight to the bitter end. And if you are the last person standing, you get a bonus points of 2,000 or 2,500, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I've done an FFA, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, my gut tells me it's 2,500, but
yeah.
I don't play many FFAs either.
Yeah.
Like, Turin's mostly multiplayer caster, like hardcore tournaments. And then for me, I'm mostly, mixed campaign and tournaments.
Yeah.
FFA is play like an FFA maybe like once every 2 months.
Yeah, they're fun for like these type of, events and things like that. But overall here, Samurai Warrior with a pretty big point lead, but the Beastmen are actually pulling it back relatively decently. So Arkcard at 3,800 to Samurai Warrior's 46. And I would imagine the Wood Elves are going to kind of scatter to the winds right now. That's probably what I would do. Use your mobility, use your speed, salvage your Lost Sylvan Knights, which you don't have healing for, unfortunately, and get your Wild Riders out. And just let the other armies fight, and then just kind of work as like a vulture around the battlefield. Now for Nurgle, this is the classic fate of Nurgle. You just kind of, an FFA or a giant potato, nobody wants to fight you or play with you because you're, kind of gross. And, yeah, not surprised to see what's happening in Nurgle, are we?
Yeah, and anyone who goes for a slower faction, you will, very similar with the dwarves too, but at least they have artillery. I can see why you recommend the double soul grinder for their range attacks.
Yeah.
But
have to.
Most definitely they will live.
Yeah, like nobody's going to be able to take Nurgle. I mean, Sotek is starting to get some points. He has gotten into the Royal Rumble here. He's like kind of engaged with some of the mobility of the Wood Elves on the side of Samurai Warrior. Samurai's still getting away with his Glade Riders. But, 5,000 points isn't that insurmountable of a lead. And if Sotek and, I'm starting to feel as if your prediction is going to come true. Because Sotek's going to be able to Nurgle will get, like, no points here for a while, right? Then Sotek will probably end up fighting Nurgle, get a lot of points, but will Nurgle get enough points off the Lizard Army? That's the question. It's going to be tough. And Beastmen have actually stabilized pretty well, huh?
Yeah, Beastmen sort of just pulled back. Most of their infantry didn't actually get collapsed in on. The cavalry sort of went for sort of the Cygor and took a lot of hits there. And even the Minotaurs too. So it wasn't the most optimal engagement for the Wood Elves. And especially with Lore Master of Sotek catching out their retreating their retreat into the forests there. I think that basically spells doom for them. I see maybe 2 more skirmishers left for them.
Yeah, the Wood Elves, they have the Sisters of Thorn, which are trapped up. They have the Archers. The Sylvan Knights have gotten away. And we do also see the Hawk Riders and the Spellweaver. But it's only Dark Magic, and he brought Chillwind and Bladestorm, neither of which are going to just get a massive, massive value, I don't think. But Yeah, overall, Samurai does have the points lead for now, but the Beastmen are within striking distance, and poor Nurgle only has 71 points. That's pretty brutal, dude.
Yeah, it sort of depends. You know, honestly, Nurgle, if they 2v1 Nurgle, I think Nurgle actually wins it. If they... just because that great unclean one's indestructible.
Yeah, Nurgle has a lot of points to be farmed. Like, if I was the Beastman player, which it looks like that's what he's doing, he's just throwing fat boulders into these, like, festering stooges. That's such value city. And let's see how much he gets. So 1 boulder lands, and the Beastman player instantly gets, like, 100+ points from that boulder. So he's going to want to keep farming those as Samurai runs out of steam, it looks like. Wood Elves have gotten away, but don't seem to have much stopping power left.
As for Sotek, I believe he lost one of his chameleon skinks, which is a fairly big sort of value train that he could have gone on the Great Unclean ones. Though he does still have Tehenuin and the Thunderous one. They do have range attacks. You don't have to send them into melee. So we could see them do well, but it sort of looks like Sotek is looking to pick a fight against a Great Unclean one. Do you think this will end up being a good trade if he does take that?
This is going to be a horrific trade for Sotek if he charges in, because Mortis Engine, Great Unclean ones are really good fighters. 60, 50, 550 against 36, 32, 520 with a bonus for his infantry. Exalted Great Unclean one will dominate that fight. And on top of that, he's got Uncle for Uncle with Spirit Leech support. He's got a War Shrine for extra healing. Beast of Nurgle for debuffs with the Slime Trail. So I think Sotek knows this. He's going to be kind of retreating back. But yeah, Nurgle 100% wants that fight. That's like so many points to be farmed for the Great Unclean one.
And in the meantime, it looks like Beastmen sort of just consolidating their forces. They actually have quite a bit left on the battlefield. Very elite units too. And the Cygor for sort of just constant value. Like each rock is giving the Beastmen more value than Nurgle has total, which is a really nice swing for them. There's a non-zero chance Beastmen honestly win it. Like I think everyone has a decent chance depending on what goes down.
Yeah, another Cygor coming in. Cygor summon from your boy Malagor the Dark Omen. Going to be bombarding them downtown as we do see the Wood Elf caster. You know, it'd be a pretty MLG play would be to land the Wood Elf caster just behind the Beastmen army and get the Ripperdactyls to follow you to the ground, and then the Beastmen just like tear him up. That'd be a pretty crazy play, as it looks like there's going to be a Blade Storm going down from the Dark caster, doing basically no damage there.
What we saw earlier against the
That's
Ungors.
what it was. That's what that spell was, right?
Blade Storm. Also explains why it does no damage, as Blade Storm was nerfed heavily with the changes to the magic system.
Yeah, it's unfortunately a pretty bad spell. Opal Amulet as well, giving a little bit of Ward's Fave to the Spell Singer there, or Spell Weaver that's trying to run. Now we do have the Dino versus Nurgle fight. The Nurgle Disgusting Blob with Uncle for Uncle, as well as the Exalted Great Unclean one, seems to be going very favorably for Nurgle, as they are able to rout off many of the Lizardmen forces, but they have not been able to get into the cookie jar quite yet, as some of the big dinos have been able to elude the Great Unclean ones, but it looks like they are coming to collect their toll here, as they now attack the Distillodon.
Oh, and Beastmen. Oh, wait, first of all, big laser coming down. But Beastmen looking like they want to get Malagor to get some Flock of Dooms on those very juicy blobs there.
Yeah.
And there we go, Flock of Doom drops down. If it comes down to mostly infantry, Beastmen with their chariots will be very, very happy.
Oh, yeah.
Wood Elves. I think Samurai's basically capped out on his value. He can probably get a couple thousand more with his cavalry. After that, though, I think he's out of juice.
It's going to be tough because most of the value on the battlefield is like big SEMs, and the cavalry aren't going to be particularly good against those. Because like all the juice is into Tehenuin, into the Great Unclean one, you know, Cygors, things like that. A little bit of farming to be had with the Beastmen with their Minotaurs, as well as the Gores and things like that. But overall, it's like you said, not much left for him. But we'll see if he can kind of be, you know, he can be the Kingmaker as well. Like he has that mobility. He can certainly, you know, clean up the scraps and allow for the Godzilla duels to take place. But yeah, I love the ion cannon, man. Like whenever people ask me like what factions could like fight in the 40K universe from Warhammer Fantasy, I'm always like, you know, Lizardmen can literally summon like ion cannons from outer space with their dinosaurs, so maybe they could.
Yeah, old ones tech.
Yeah,
I think it checked out.
Yeah, they got some overpowered stuff. But the Beastmen being attacked by the Ripperdactyls up at the high ground. Cygor's one of them is summoned, so going to be disappearing soon. And what do you think is going to be Samurai's game plan? When do you think he'll strike?
He definitely wants to just unload his ammo on either the Minotaurs or onto the Great Unclean ones.
Yeah.
Honestly, if he just unloaded on the Minotaurs, he could just stop the Beastmen from potentially winning here.
Yeah.
And like you said, by not even just choosing the Kingmaker, he might be able to keep his seat if he just whittles down whoever would come into second place.
Yeah.
Because he can tip the fight however he wants with those remaining missiles. Plus terror, too. There's a very good chance that I think he gives the Beastmen a hard time here.
Yeah, Beastmen armies get really tattered. You know, obviously when Beastmen armies get really tattered in the late game, they become very susceptible to like chain terror routes. They do have some healthy Minotaurs. There's a unit of 15 here, perhaps overextending a little bit. We see it charging out towards Samurai's Lost Sylvan Knights, but Lost Sylvan Knights plus the Sisters of Thorn could potentially surround them and get a nice isolation and maybe help to maintain his lead. As Arkcard looks to be pulling into second place, Nurgle though is now on the board. And remember, last man standing is a substantial amount of points for sure. So I think that Nurgle getting that could give them a decent chance, actually. I'm surprised that the Lizardmen and Sotek took a head-on fight with him, you know? That feels like it was a really wild choice.
Yeah, like, you know, he could have chased the Wood Elves with the Howdas on Hanuin, you know, just chase and shoot them down. They're actually fairly strong at shutting down skirmishers that way. Could have routed off the Beastmen, fought them. In this situation, you know, he's gone up to 5,000 gold, but he's basically out of juice. I don't really see, I guess, you know, the Thunderous one is doing pretty healthy, but
yeah,
against these single entities, it's you trade way faster.
And the Nurgle debuffs are so foul, too. Like, the Beast of Nurgle plus the Poison, I mean, look at the stat line on the Thunderous one right now. It's doing 400 weapon strength, which is so painful. That's going to be slowed down. We see Tehenowin slowly losing the battle versus the Great Unclean One and Uncle Frunkle, of course, who has the Spirit Leeches. And the Festering Stooge is holding on for dear life. Now, a bit of a mobile fight going down as we do see the Beastmen of the Wood Elves having a skirmish. Looks like the Wood Elves were able to force an overextension on the Beastmen and are going to be getting a Minotaur unit. So Samurai Warrior, man, is there any chance that he could maintain that last man standing by just taking these cheeky little flank fights?
Last man standing, zero chance. Not with, not with the Great Unclean Ones. Winning the free-for-all, I would say much more likely.
Yeah, Nurgle is basically full health and everything. And this is the Nurgle tail of the tape. This is usually how they go in FFA. Same with Vampire Counts. Like, Vampire Counts will usually have some disgusting Mortis Engine blob and the same kind of thing. And although they're much better predators, like Vampire Counts can chase you much more efficiently than Nurgle. And Nurgle's just like the Potato King, just waddling after these dinos over here, dude. Oh my god. Look at that.
Yo, the Flock of Doom, though, actually kills off the Wild Riders. It's like, what's left? Sylvan Knights are pretty low.
Yeah.
I think Samurai is basically out of here. And
Yeah.
I think the Beastmen have enough to surpass Samurai.
Yeah, it's been a very impressive performance. Malagor kind of in the danger zone a little bit, close to the Sylvan Knights. Also, the giant Great Eagle character might be able to land and get some good damage. Malagor's melee defense 45, so not insignificant, but we will see if he's drank enough Red Bull to escape today as the Sisters of Thorn make their way back in. But yeah, the Beastmen infantry sustainability not doing bad. They do have a Cygor, which has gotten about 1,000 value, but yeah, like just nobody wants to play with Nurgle. And, you know, we don't have attacking rules here, so this could get real degenerate here real quick.
Ready for it. Now, I think sort of what might decide the winner, though, is how well this Spellweaver manages to survive. She actually almost got caught up by some Minos there.
Yeah.
If she dies, it's such a huge value swing for the Beastmen that I think Beastmen would take the W here.
Yeah, Sotek's like not in a, but yeah, Nurgle's so far behind. I mean, they can certainly find, there's like not like, that's what you would want to do. If you want to keep Nurgle from winning the game as the other three players, you basically sacrifice your assets into anyone who's not Nurgle, right? So you just go fight other players, and that's usually one of the big tactics in FFAs. You want to try and, you know, the person who you think is going to be last man standing, make sure not to give them, avoid giving them whatever points you essentially can. Sotek with the Thunderous one and Bastillodon battling some chariots here, so Beastmen throwing away a chariot. Yeah, Nurgle's basically just at the mercy of the other players. I mean, he's just going to waddle around and probably not get much more value this game.
I will say, though, Sotek not out of it just yet. He kills off a Cygor with Tehenowin. It's a massive value lead. And the fact that his single entities have ranged, if he wants to go full filthy, no, I endorse it. He could kite Nurgle with single entities here.
Yeah, because the Howdas have infinite ammo, don't they?
I don't think they're infinite, but they are like near infinite.
It's like obscene, yeah. Like they could just use their 36 or what is the movement speed? 50 movement speed. Yeah, Great Unclean Ones have 36 movement speed, so. Yeah, no, it could get real degenerate in here. And, yeah, it looks like the Beastmen and Wood Elves have kind of just beaten each other to a pulp. It's 8.7 to 8.5. It's a pretty good duel of fates between those two.
Yeah, but they're basically done now. Nothing left on for them. And honestly, Sotek has gained up. He's gained on them quite a bit. 1,000 more points puts him in the running for victory here. And he still has quite a bit of fighters. You know, he has a Bastillodon with the Javelin Skinks on top with, you know, infinite ammunition. Even, oh my gosh, 32 Chameleon Skinks. That might actually win it for Sotek.
Yeah.
If they can shoot those big Nurgle single entities.
Yeah, Sotek might be able to just go fisticuffs with Nurgle here, but man, Sotek still has a lot of points to give up is the problem. Like those big dinos are very like if you gave all those points to Nurgle and then they became the last man standing, then they might win the game. The Haggard Nurgle steamroller might eventually get you. It's like you ever watch the old Austin Powers movies?
Unfortunately not, but feel free to dive in.
Oh, it's just there's like a scene where this guy's getting like run over by like a steamroller's like trying to run him over, but like he has like 5 minutes to get out of the way, but he can't. Like he just gets stuck. Yeah, it's just a really stupid reference. I think I was like, man, yeah, that's my boomer side coming out here, just like these like late '90s movies. But hey, look at this! You see the pigeon duel in the corner?
Yeah. It feels like the Wood Elf Lord is actually. She might go down. She doesn't have the best stats. 44-32. Malagor's 55-45.
Yeah, but she does have the Opal Amulet, and she got the charge off on him while he was on the ground, so maybe the charge bonus could come into play, but Malagor is a much better fighter. We'll have to see. This could be a pretty big factor as well. Samurai does maintain the point lead. Just barely, though. As Nurgle accentuates the misery of the lag. I'm sure he's suffering the most as he has to like move around the center of the battlefield. Yeah, look at that. Just can't get anywhere. His poor Chariot's chasing down some gore herds for like 25 points. It's so painful.
Honestly, a max mobility Nurgle with like one unclean one to make sure you win at the end would be...
Oh, 100%. 100%. Dude, you nailed it on the head. Double Soul Grinder, Mass Horseman, even one Chaos Knight and like a Rotfly character isn't like a terrible. Just use your fleshies on the Chaos Knights and Soul Grinders can SEM fight. They can kill monsters. Like two of them, they have really, really decent combat stats.
Especially with the heals. It looks like Malagor does go down though. I think Samurai takes the lead in terms of the two more mobile factions. And then it comes down to if Sotek can get like 2,000 points. That's like 2/3 of a Great Unclean one.
Yeah, it's gonna be tight. Sotek does have Claustodon Hunters too. I mean, dude, look how healthy that Nurgle army is. Like, that was basically their starting army, right? With the exception of a couple infantry units.
Oh yeah, they've lost nothing. I guess like yeah, some infantry, like nothing that matters really.
And Festering Stooges, they resurrect, right? Festering Stooges.
Oh, let me check.
Yeah, they do. Resurrect's dead combatant, so they're going to be able to get up to like 50 models again, dude, probably.
Okay, well, yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah, it's strong.
Yeah, Nurgle's definitely won the battle, but the war, well, it looks like the Beastmen are out of it. Beastmen are confirmed not going to be able to win it. They are completely out of the picture unless Malagor rallies.
Yeah, he's gonna run for the hills. Yeah. And Sisters of Thorn, definitely gonna get dragged down by the Chariots and Hounds here. Chariots, of course, not great at killing these type of models, but damage is damage. And the Hounds are gonna be applying poison, keep making their escape pretty much impossible. You know, maybe Nurgle in like an FFA situation needs to bring Rancid Visitations, like their crappy Spirit Leech ability. Like, I feel like that might be something that might be useful, just so you can like do something when you're chasing, right?
Yeah. Just like, I feel like just one or two big fighters and then nothing else.
Have you tested that?
You usually don't need more.
Have you tested Rancid Visitations as it pertains to like Spirit Leech comparisons? Is it good or is it kind of...
Oh, I think I remember it's like, it's like a slightly worse or equal to Spirit Leech in terms of value, which makes it, okay.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, Spirit Leech is one of the better spells in the game, so if it's close, then, you know, it's not bad.
Yeah. Usually in multiplayer, Fleshy Abundance is like
it's
vastly superior, but in a situation like this where you want to just, you know, get damage in.
Yeah. Samurai's going to be in a weird position soon, guys. So if you guys are new to Total War, if your army is defeated and all you have are flying units on the battlefield, your flying units start to take a leadership penalty until they break. So you're forced to land and fight. So Big Papa Nurgle is going to probably be able to finish off the Wood Elves here. He's chasing with the Chariots, which I'm certainly grateful for. And I would imagine the players, as they're defeated, will jump out of the game, which maybe will reduce the lag. We'll find out who the culprit is soon when some of these players get eliminated. But yeah, here comes the big dinos, man. It's pretty much just, it's on now.
Yep. Oh, and Samurai's out.
Are you ready for Tehenuin to just like draw kite the forces of Nurgle around the map for like 2 hours?
I am ready for it, and I encourage it. I want to see Sotek's just... I want to see Sotek win by kiting him out. I want to see like just skink javelins doing 3 damage at a time against healing Nurgle warriors.
Oh my god, here they come. No, there's no one summoning an FFA. Somebody in chat was asking about that. That would be really cheesy. Yeah, just unsummon and say GG, get wrecked. Like, that'd be so bad.
I feel like Sotek should be able to beat Samurai Warrior here, though, for sure.
Yeah. He's going to get, like, win or lose, he's going to get some points fighting Nurgle. Samurai's forces are chased off. He's eliminated. The Beastmen still have some Haggard gore herds left, but Sotek's going to go feast on their souls. So he does have his flyer hunting down those units. And now it's just Godzilla King Kong fight. That's pretty much it. Obviously, Nurgle's going to win, but the variable is going to be how are the points going to lie after all is said and done. Nurgle has 0 chance of winning this, FFA overall, but will Sotek get enough points to pass Samurai is the question. Dude, my prophecy is pretty close to coming true. Like,
how much gold is there for Sotek? Let's say there's like 5,000 gold. That would be enough for Nurgle to take the W.
Well, the problem is if the Lizardmen units break, it'll just end the game. So it depends on how he plays it. Yeah, it looks like he's got his skinks far away. Okay, there should be enough, right? There should be enough here. Sotek's closing the gap. Engine of the Gods time, dude. One of my favorite abilities.
Yeah. Will it hit anything, though?
Yeah, Festering Stooges, oh my god. Even with the 23 movement speed, they're, like, able to get out of the way, man. It's just...
Oh, a little bit of poke.
It's so incredibly slow, man. It's so incredibly slow. Have you ever seen anybody try to use, like, Mazdamundi Engine of the Gods combos and, like, have it be effective, where they, like, net something and then snare it down?
I remember I tried that versus the vampire counts.
How'd it do?
Way back when domination had way more resources.
Yeah.
The thing is, 24 damage armor piercing is, like, less than a pendulum.
Yeah, it's just, and it should be way more. With the wind-up time and the investment, like, there's just some random abilities like that certainly need buffs. Granted, it is free, right? You get, what, 2 or 3 charges on it? I can't remember. Let me see.
Again, free on a very expensive unit, but yeah, it's very true.
It does have some other utility, though. Like, the Engine of the Gods has WOM regeneration, and it also has a ward save aura, so it's not, like, useless, but... yeah, it's pretty weak, but yeah, closing up on the points, 8.7, but it seems like the Lizard Army might break before they get to the points ban. The prophecy may come true. We'll have to see. Sotek not using his Clostodon Hunters at the moment.
Yeah, they're sort of on their way back. Oh, and the Chameleon Skinks. That is a lot of value. That's going to be gone for Sotek. And they're gone, shattered.
Yeah, that's a big one.
700 gold value. What is 700 gold value? That is the entirety of the Festering Stooges, or a decent amount of damage on the single entities. The still on Arc of Sotek is basically on its way out. I think Nurgle doesn't catch up on points.
No, it's not possible.
Yeah, and it's gonna come down to on Sotek, on like just the Thunderous one.
Yeah, it's gonna come down to leadership. The Thunderous one is still confident though. It's sitting at 58 leadership, but if Tehenowin gets routed and gets chased down by some Nurgle stuff, there's obviously... oh, did you see the Festering Stooges still have their Holy Hand Grenades, man?
Oh, dang, that's actually really huge.
Yeah, so if they use their Unholy Hand Grenades, they could totally melt one of these big dinos. If he puts them in guard mode and then just like starts lobbing them up at the Thunderous one, that would probably do a couple thousand damage easily, but... so it's like within 700 points, man, but I don't know if he's going to get the value. The Nurgle armies, their melee defense is holding up, and all these bonus versus infantry dinos just don't seem to be trading well.
I think it depends on the Arc of Sotek. If he can hold a little bit longer for Tehenowin, it could be massive, but no, it gets routed off. That's going to hurt Tehenowin's leadership. The Ripper Dactyls look like they're going down, but it's very close. Sotek needs 600 gold left. 600 gold value on the Thunderous one has accrued 3,000.
Yeah.
So it needs to make about 20% of what it's done so far. It still has a decent amount of its HP. But will it rout on a full surround? I think it will.
Oh, definitely, dude. Yeah, with all these Nurgle units just going ham. I mean, Uncle for Uncle, just rock hard 500 weapon strength. The Chaos Shrine healing everything, doing a little bit of DPS, Beast of Nurgle as well. And it looks like Tehenowin is wavering. And guys, I think Samurai Warrior might get the W. Yes, the prophecy. Barely. And Nurgle, the last man standing. Yeah, that's not a surprise.
Yeah, Nurgle. Nurgle is miles away from getting army wiped here, but look at that, Tehenowin's gone. The Thunderous one is gone, and Samurai takes the win.
Yeah, man, look at that. Still got it. That was a game. It was a fun one. It was
oh my gosh. Nurgle got to 9,000.
How did Samurai just scrapped value at the end. Like all those like little picks he had against like the Minotaurs and things like that, just all those little nuances just add up, man, and got him the W. So GG to him. And
Wood Elves OP, we got to nerf him. I think
Wood Elf nerf.
Wild Riders worse.
They won the tournament and they won the FFA. They should be nerfed. Yeah, Wild Riders should cost 2,000 gold. It's just
yeah. CA, if you're listening, this is
they're probably not. It's okay. Yeah, everyone had their moment in the sun, right? Like Samurai obviously got the Alpha Strike and scrapped points out. Arkcard did an excellent job surviving the Alpha Strike and then kind of Cygor value and trading into the bitter end of the late game. And he was, dude, Arkcard was within what 400 points of winning, or really close to winning on the Beastmen. Sotek obviously scrapped well, but I think Sotek's big fight with Nurgle earlier might have given, if he could have avoided Nurgle, but I guess that gave him a lot of points. So it's hard to say. Nathan says we're listening.
I saw that too.
Don't actually listen to what he said. Don't listen. Don't nerf Wood Elves, please. Don't do it.
Please.
Yeah.
Please. All right. But yeah. Honestly, Beastmen, I feel like with the Minotaur buffs, they're actually it's pretty exciting to see them up.
You gotta take on the torch of the Beastmen. You have to be the Lord of the Bray Herd. Just come back to season 3 of our competitive league and just become the Dark Wizard of the Beastmen.
Minotaurs only. That's the secret.
You know what you should do for your next stream series? Where how you're championing the Empire, so you should do a Kislev tournament challenge where you try and bring Kislev up past 50% from 20.
Yeah, okay. That's pretty high.
No,
I feel like
you think it's possible?
I it's you the stats.
Yeah, that would be hard, man. They're in the pits right now for sure, poor Kislev. But yeah, that was a fun one today. So congrats to our tournament winner. Let's show you guys the brackets one more time so you can see who the champion is. Champion is going to be Samurai Warrior, winning today's Ecosia charity tournament, doing the trees and the forest proud. So if you guys want more details on the charity, the Creative Assembly bot has linked it. And congrats there. That was a lot of fun, man. It's a lot of fun casting with you, dude. That was a good time.
Yeah. That was really, really fun. Really nice games. Unfortunately, as it turns out, having 4 to 6 people in the same lobby does slow down the games a bit. But honestly, it still chugged along. I really enjoyed a lot of them.
Yeah, there were some great matches for sure. I think one of my highlights was the Haggard Mass Minotaur army that we had versus Sotek, and who was that? That was I think it was Elkai, Arkcard, yeah, with the Mass Minotaur with the gold chevrons. That was a pretty magical moment for sure.
Did well. I guess there were Croxicores, but
yeah, first Croxicores, yeah. It's not the greatest benchmark, but it certainly is what it is. So again, congratulations to our winner. And if you guys haven't, make sure to head on over to YouTube and check out Anticity. He does some awesome stuff, and yeah, man, I think that's going to be it for today. Congrats to the winner. Make sure to check out today's charity, Ecosia, in the links above. And any closing words, my friend?
Not too much. I guess, I should also mention everyone that played today is also a content creator. You can find all of them on YouTube.
Yes.
It's
and
a
Twitch,
big old Warhammer community.
I think a couple of them focus on Twitch as well, but hopefully the folks in chat from CA can give links to their channels and everything. I know Samurai Warrior is on YouTube, Sotek is on Twitch and YouTube, and I'm not sure about the other two gentlemen, so we'll have to make sure we get their links out there and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah,
CA's got the links. I trust them.
They got us covered, man. GG's.
Yeah.
Well played. Anticity, look forward to casting with you again for future tournaments, and that's gonna be it, brother.
Peace out, everybody.
All right, take care, and thanks again for watching, and we will see you all on the other side.